Do it.
So you know what to do.
I don't. Just 3, 2, 1, boom.
Oh. Go. Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Pick a Side Podcast. My name is Joel Moran and I'm here with River Brown and Andrew Velez, and this is now episode 76. In this episode, we are going to talk about the NFL free agency period. We will talk about the biggest signings that have happened over the past couple of days, and to make sure we cover everything, we will be talking about every single team's offseason moves and give them a grade for it. So this is going to be a very long episode. We're going to talk about all 32 teams, but some teams didn't make any offseason moves at all, so we won't have to talk about them much. But to start things off, how's everybody doing? How's your days been? I know you're here for the first time,
Yes,
so
sir.
How does it feel?
I feel pretty great, man. It feels good to be here. I appreciate you guys having me. I'm excited. Let's do it.
How you feeling, Riv? Riv hasn't been here in a while. Lately, it's just been Jack and I, and Riv has been nowhere to be seen. So, Riv, why the sudden appearance?
Nah, you guys, appreciate you guys holding the fort down. You know I'm a busy man. Got stuff to do and stuff.
He's excited to talk about his Eagles. Has to be. That's why he came back.
It should be. The Eagles have done absolutely nothing.
Oof.
Okay, so the first topic we are going to get into, we are going to talk about the AFC East, and we're going to be doing this by division. So, and we're going to be doing this by the team that, won the division, second place in the division, and you already know how the rest goes.
Sure.
So, the first team in the AFC East, the Buffalo Bills, they have made two notable offseason moves. They signed Emmanuel Sanders to a 1-year, $6 million deal, and they signed Mitchell Trubisky to a 1-year, $2.5 billion deal. And the rest are just keeping their key guys. They re-signed Matt Milano, Darrell Williams, and John Feliciano. But what do you make of the Buffalo Bills offseason so far?
I give it like a B grade. I think getting Emmanuel Sanders, reloading on that offense, I think he still has a lot left in the tank. Last year, I think he played good. And then just bringing back the guys that were complete in that run last year, I think that was good. I still think they need an edge rusher, and I feel like they need one more corner. I don't think Levi Wallace was that good last year, but other than that, I think just bringing the guys back that was key for that run and bringing in Emmanuel Sanders is a good move so far.
I feel like if I'm them, I would have made a better move at receiver. I mean, I like Emmanuel. He's definitely a good vet to have in the locker room. But I would have liked him to go get out of Kenny Golladay. I know it would have cost him a little bit, but you make a splash. You get a Golladay. You get a Will Fuller, who obviously shown he was going to sign a 1-year deal. That would have been real nice to have with Stephon Diggs, a good opposite of him kind of guy. I would have liked to see them go be more aggressive in the running back department too. I like Singletary as a dual threat, but I just don't think he's fast enough. You know what I'm saying? If he had a little more speed to him, he'd definitely be there every down back. But with a guy like Aaron Jones that was available, they really weren't aggressive in going to get him. You got James Conner out there. We really haven't heard any news with him. You got Chris Carson, another guy you really haven't heard any news with. But I would have liked to see them be a little bit more aggressive with the running back. Other than that, I like this moves. I gave him a B-. I feel like that's pretty fair. I mean, you bring back these key guys on defense. Darrell Williams been there for a while. John Feliciano, Matt Milano. These are guys that have been there with McDermott for a while. So
Sean McDermott,
excuse me. I mean, I like the moves. I mean, B- is fair. I mean, they definitely could have did a little bit better, but I'm not too upset with the move.
I think they go running back, though, in the draft.
For sure.
That's why I didn't think they would be aggressive in the running back game.
I think the Bills, they definitely weren't super aggressive, but it's because they didn't have much cap space. And I'll be honest, I think what they needed to do this offseason was just keep Matt Milano.
For sure.
When you look at the numbers when Matt Milano's playing and when he's not playing, that defense takes a huge dip. I mean, they're not even an elite defense when Matt Milano's not on the field.
For sure.
A guy like Milano could have got about $10+ million a year, but he stayed with Buffalo on a 4-year, $44 million deal, which is pretty good for them. I mean, he could have got much more money on the open market, but he wanted to stay in Buffalo. So I think this was a very good move for them. Darrell Williams, a good tackle. John Feliciano, you couldn't let him walk either. I mean, this team last year was a game away from making it to the Super Bowl. So they just needed to keep this core together. And I think getting Emmanuel Sanders, he's not a Will Fuller. He's not one of the top guys like Kenny Golladay, but I think over John Brown, he is an upgrade.
For sure.
So, and I think Gabriel Davis is also coming onto the scene because last year he was a rookie. He played pretty well. He's going to develop next season. I like these moves. And Mitch Trubisky, I like him as a backup, right? But I'll say
Okay.
this. Josh Allen, he's a great quarterback, but coming into the league, he had some accuracy issues and stuff like that. He had to develop, right, in that system. And obviously, Josh Allen's talent is head and shoulders above Mitchell Trubisky's.
For sure.
But God forbid, but if it does happen, if Josh Allen misses a couple of games, is it possible that Mitchell Trubisky can come in and they can still be rolling? I think it is. You look at Mitchell Trubisky's skill set. I mean, he can run as well, like Josh Allen. He doesn't have the arm, but I mean, this is a guy who's a Pro Bowler.
Yeah,
like
true.
he's not a scrub. I don't think Mitchell Trubisky's a scrub. He's not a franchise quarterback, but he's not a scrub.
I mean, for me personally, I don't know why the Bears didn't keep him. I mean, we're going to get to the Bears eventually, but Mitch really didn't play all too bad second half of the season. So I was surprised to see him go to a team where obviously he wasn't going to be the guy. But I can't disagree too much with what you're saying because that offense is just fit for a guy to come in and be, right on task. I mean, Josh Allen it took him a while for him to get going, but now you got Stephon Diggs. You're right about Gabriel Davis, who they didn't use enough in the AFC Championship game. Maybe that's why they got exposed a little bit, other than the fact that Mahomes is Mahomes. But you're right. I mean, they got a pretty solid old line. Stephon Diggs is going to help out their QB as much as they can. But I don't think you're too far off.
Yeah, I don't think they are. For me,
pardon me.
Sorry about that. For me, my grade for the Bills would probably be a B+. I mean, they didn't make any splash move, but I think going into this offseason, outside of maybe getting J.J. Watt, they weren't really trying to make any other move outside of keeping their core guys that were free agents because they had a ton of free agents. So I think, they didn't make that splash move, but they kept the team intact. They kept it together, and because of that, I think they had a pretty good, offseason free agent period.
Yeah, I think being an Eagles fan, I know how important it is to have a backup who's good and can step in and still win some games. So I agree with you on the Mitchell Trubisky thing. Like I said before, it's just about keeping that key group together from last year's run and then bringing Emmanuel Sanders in. For in case when Cole Beasley was missing a couple games or John Brown was missing a couple games, you get a guy who could come in and still perform at a high level. So I think that was a good thing.
Cole Beasley still on the squad?
Yep, he is.
And that's solid. You got Emmanuel, you got Gabriel, you got
speedsters. Those
for
are a lot of guys. Those are a lot of guys that can run.
I would like them to still go out and get a tight end.
Okay.
At this point in this recording, they have not signed a tight end. So I would like them to go out and get a tight end because I like Dawson Knox, but I don't think he's that guy at tight end for them to really take that next step. Outside of that, I think, they did fine. They were pretty good. And Mitchell Trubisky, to what you said, would you rather have Matt Barkley as your backup or Mitchell Trubisky?
Yeah, that's no question.
That's a no-brainer.
Right.
Trubisky
Who has
has been
Matt
a starter in the league. The Bills.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they had Jake Fromm.
That's a fact. They do have him
I
too.
think he might be like a third stringer, though.
Oh,
Might
damn.
be fourth now.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
Damn, for real?
Jake Fromm, I don't know why everybody thought he was going to be good out of college. He never even showed that at Georgia.
But the second they drafted him to the Bills, you knew he was never going to get playtime.
But he just never had
I remember
an
people
arm.
were arguing that on Twitter about Jake Fromm.
I do remember that too.
For all the listeners out there, somebody told me
I know
on
you're
Twitter
about to talk about.
that Jake Fromm can, so 2 years ago when Ryan Tannehill took the Titans to the playoffs,
I remember this argument.
Yeah,
the
me
miraculous year, somebody told me that Jake Fromm can come in and do exactly what Ryan Tannehill is doing. And he even said Jalen Hurts, And Jalen Hurts had like 2 good moments in the regular season.
Yeah.
And now everybody's like, oh, yeah, you see what Hurts did? Whatever, Ryan Tannehill got super disrespected.
Talk about it. The man
For
of
real.
him.
Nah, Tannehill is different.
The next team we are going to talk about are the Miami Dolphins. And the Miami Dolphins, in terms of signing guys, I mean, they just signed Will Fuller. They signed Matt Skura, who I don't know is much of an upgrade over Ted Karras.
Okay.
They signed Adam Butler, a good defensive tackle. He's average. And Justin Coleman, a good slot corner. They also signed Malcolm Brown, a defensive tackle from the Saints, and Jacoby Brissett to be their backup. But they had 2 really good trades. Isaiah Wilson, a former first-round pick who still has a lot of potential, and Bernardrick McKinney, a Pro Bowl inside linebacker. So they have made some good moves. They also lost Shaq Lawson and Kyle Van Noy.
But they cut Kyle Van Noy.
Yeah.
That was to save some money, though.
Yes. So, I mean, all around, I think the Dolphins' offseason was pretty good. I think Will Fuller was like the splash guy,
For
right?
sure.
1-year deal. It's worth, $10 million right now, but the incentives to the contract are crazy. Like, they can end up paying him way more. But now Devontae Parker with Preston Williams, Will Fuller, Mike Gesicki, Myles Gaskin, and Jakeem
gonna
Grant just
say.
as a guy who's a good, really good special teams returner, a punt returner. They have some weapons for Tua. And now this changes their draft landscape completely because they probably
what pick do they have?
They have the third pick. They're probably not going receiver in the draft anymore.
Go ahead, man. Go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. I think this just what they did was I think they put whoever's going to play quarterback for them, whether it be Tua or if they draft somebody, I don't know. But I think they put them in the perfect position to where there is no excuse to succeed aside from injuries. I think they had a really good offseason so far. They had money, letting go of Kyle Van Noy because of cap. But I think everything else was good. Their defense was already elite. So bringing in Bernard McKinney was good for them. Isaiah Wilson, he was a rookie last year, and he didn't fit in Tennessee, but I think he could come in Miami, have a culture change, and definitely put on a show for them. But I think this is definitely a spot where they put their quarterback in a good position to win or succeed at least.
Nah, for sure. I mean, I like the trades that they made. You got Isaiah Wilson for a 7th-round pick. He had some issues with Tennessee. That's why they were able to let him go so willingly. They pick up McKinney for Shaq Lawson. I mean, that's like a trade. You drop Van Noy, you get McKinney, who has been a Pro Bowler, so you really can't be too upset with that. I mean, I like the moves. Once they got Will Fuller, I upped their grade tremendously. At first, I wasn't too sure. I had him at like a B-, B, but then once they brought in Will Fuller, I have him at an A-. I feel really good about them.
I mean, I can agree. Will Fuller definitely puts him over the top, and he got suspended last season from a PED suspension. It's a 6-game suspension, but he's already made up 5 of those games.
Okay.
So he's going to miss the first game of the season next year with the Dolphins, but all in all, he's going to be there for the entire season.
I think the only thing with Will Fuller is injuries. Obviously, he's been hurt, but I think if he can play, he can definitely be a 1K receiver in this league. Mm-hmm. My thing is with the 3rd pick, do you think they trade down, get some more picks, or do they pick somebody there?
It depends. If they believe Penei Sewell is that generational tackle that everybody has been hyping him up to be, then they should draft Penei Sewell because he can play tackle or guard. If Isaiah Wilson develops nicely, then he could be the tackle, and Penei Sewell could be a guard or tackle because Wilson will probably be the right tackle. So they can go either way. I think they should draft Penei Sewell, though. I think they need to go offensive lineman now that they have 3 really good receivers.
Well, we saw in the past where the Bears traded up with the Niners to get Mitch Trubisky, whatever that move was.
Wow.
That was one of the worst moves I've ever seen. But you got Miami, who's at 3. You got the Falcons at 4. There's been talks of them getting a QB. I know you and I have spoken a little bit. You don't think they're going to do that. It's still a possibility. It's a possibility.
If it's not Zach Wilson, I think they don't go QB.
But it's also a possibility the Jets don't go Zach Wilson.
You guys are the Jets, so there's definitely a possibility.
I think they're going to go Zach Wilson.
I think you guys are going to go Zach Wilson too, but I've seen Pitts going to you guys at 2, which would be a little crazy. But, I mean, like I said, I've seen crazier things. Let's say they trade back to 4. They definitely could take Penei Sewell at 4, and I wouldn't be too upset about it. And they would still get some compensation for it. I feel like at 3, if you have 3, personally, even with signing Will Fuller, he's only on a 1-year deal. I would take Jamar Chase. I mean, you got people talking about Jamar Chase like he's about to be the next Randy Moss.
He's different.
You know what I'm saying? Like physique wise, he is built different. So I mean, I don't mind. I wouldn't mind taking Penei Sewell, but at 3, I feel like if they were to trade down, there's no chance of them getting a player like Jamar Chase. I mean, I like Devontae. I like Jalen Waddle, but Jamar Chase is leaps and bounds over these guys. So I feel like if they trade down, it would hurt them a little bit. But I don't hate going Penei Sewell at 3 that much.
And does anybody know Devontae Parker's contract situation? Because if he is scheduled to be a free agent next season, that could be a possibility, them going Jamar Chase.
For sure.
Just to have some assurance at the wide receiver position. But the most underrated move that they made, outside of the big Will Fuller move, was getting Justin Coleman. And with New England. Brian Flores coached them up in New England. He was a really good slot corner for them. His first year in Detroit, he was pretty good in the slot until Matt Patricia came in and ruined the whole entire team. So, him going back to Miami, you have Xavier Howard, Byron Jones playing on the outside, and now having a guy like Justin Coleman to secure that slot position. I think that was huge for them. They have probably one of the best cornerback groups in the entire NFL, having Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, and now Justin Coleman.
Nah, it's a shame that they traded Minka to the Steelers because that team, that secondary would be one of the best we've ever seen. Up there with LOB, Probably. Up there with the Broncos. Like when we had Aqib, we had Chris Harris, we had
Okay, I get it, bro.
Nah,
we get it.
We had a squad. 2015, we might be the best defense ever. But we're talking about 2021. I like Justin Coleman. That's not. You get him for a 1-year deal. You get him relatively cheap, $2.75 million. That's really firm. You're 100% right. You match that with Byron and Xavier. That's an elite corner group for sure.
Somebody in the comments was like, "You're talking about Colin Coward. He took Pitts too."
That's what I'm saying. That's
ridiculous.
No, that's bonkers. It makes no sense. But I mean, if Zach Wilson's there at 2, you got to take him. I mean, unless you really trust Sam Darnold, which I know for a fact a lot of Jet fans don't. But
yeah, no,
you
got done with
Darnold. But this free agency period for the Dolphins was pretty good. I'd give it an A as well because you got Will Fuller, Justin Coleman, and Jacoby Brissett. You know, if something goes wrong with Tua, you know, maybe
he's good.
If he gets hurt.
Good to stretch.
I think he is good.
I think he's good enough.
I don't know, man.
I think he's good enough.
Is Tua that? Do you think Tua's better than Jacoby?
100%.
Yes, he is.
By that, but how much though?
No, I think he's way better than.
You think so?
If I had to go 1 to 10, I'm giving Jacoby a 6.5. I'm giving Tua at least
an 8.
A 7.5. 8.
That's not that bad.
To an 8.
Yeah, that's not that bad.
That's what I'm saying though, is that if Tua gets hurt or if he's, you know, Brian Flores loves to shuffle around quarterbacks. He did that last season in his rookie year. Jacoby could, you know, get some wins for them, but all around, this was a pretty good offseason for them. I wish they would have kept Shaq Lawson because I really like Shaq Lawson. He made a big impact for them last year, but getting a guy like Benardrick McKinney definitely makes up for that at that inside linebacker spot. So I'm giving their offseason an A. So on to the next team that had a really great offseason, the New England Patriots. And it feels like every single AFC East team has at least made some moves.
For sure.
The Patriots offseason, you know, just forget about the free agency period. They traded with the Raiders to bring in Trent Brown. They re-signed Cam Newton. They also, I believe, they brought back Kyle Van Noy. Mm-hmm. They put a tender on J.C. Jackson.
Needed to do.
And now talking about the free agency signings, bringing in Jonnu Smith, Matt Judon, Jalen Mills, Nelson Aguilar, Henry Anderson, Hunter Henry, Ted Karras, who they're going to lose David Andrews, so Ted Karras, who was a Patriot before, is going back there, and Davon Gochow. I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's like Gochow, something like that. But, I mean, they had a really good offseason. They needed to bring in offensive talent. And instead of going receiver heavy, because, you know, people wanted them to get a Galladay or one of these better receivers. Instead, they got 2 of the best tight ends on the market, and they got Kendrick Bourne. So, you know, I think they wanted to bring in tight ends and make that tight end group again. Yeah, and Nelson Aguilar. So last time Josh McDaniels had 2 tight ends that were really good was in 2012. The Patriots had the best offense in the league that year.
Who was their quarterback, though?
It was Tom Brady.
Hey, let's respect Cam Newton. Let's respect him.
But,
he didn't have an
also,
offseason.
let's respect Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski.
That's a fact.
Oh, yeah,
they were
100%.
great.
But these are obviously poor men's Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. But we're still acknowledging it because they were the Patriots and they're about being the 2021
But Jonnu
Patriots.
Smith and Hunter Henry are really good. And I think Jonnu Smith, he has a lot of potential. In Tennessee, I don't think he was used properly. I think they used him as a run blocker. When they wanted to make a splash play, they would go to him. But with the Patriots, he's going to be a guy that they consistently look for.
Okay.
And I think Cam Newton loves his tight ends. You know, he loved Greg Olsen in Carolina. This offense is going to be pretty good, and their defense is going to be even better. Patrick Chung retired, but Kyle Duggar, their rookie last year, played really well. So I think
and they pick up Jalen Mills. I mean, Jalen Mills didn't play that well.
Do they have guys coming back from the COVID? I know a couple guys sat out.
Hightower. Yeah, Pro Bowl linebacker. So, I mean, all around, I think this offseason was an A+ for the Patriots. You can say they overpaid for some of these guys.
Like who would you say?
Jonnu Smith. Like $12+ million a year for Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, that's pretty high, especially with the fact that they got Hunter Henry too. But I was surprised when they signed Hunter Henry after the Jonnu news dropped.
I was too. I mean, I think they overpaid some guys, but you got to do that to win. You know, they had a bunch of cap space, and they went out and spent.
Because when I was first looking at this, I felt like they really didn't overpay for anyone. But you know what? Jonnu Smith, you could say that they might have overpaid for him. I'm a big fan of Kendrick Bourne. I mean, Kendrick Bourne, when he was on the Niners, Jimmy Garoppolo really wasn't slinging the ball too much, or I wouldn't say too well. And Kendrick Bourne's one of those guys that really could surprise you in this offense, especially if they're going to be running an RPO. I like Nelson Aguilar. I know the season that he had last season with the Raiders definitely, you know, makes me a little bit more confident with him playing with Cam. I love the Cam signing. I mean, it's low risk, high reward. I mean, it's a 1-year deal, 13.6 with the market of quarterbacks right now. That's on the back. I mean, it probably could have brought in a guy like Jameis, but I personally would definitely take Cam Newton still. He has something to prove still. So why wouldn't you bring him back, especially when he didn't have an offseason? He got COVID middle of the season, so that kind of messed up the whole groove that he was in. And he started that season last season hot. That offense is definitely going to be new and revamped. The only thing that worries me is the running back group. Is Sony Michel really going to be that guy? Is James White going to is he coming back? Are they going to trade him? I've been hearing some rumors about that. I heard Leonard Fournette's a possibility to come into the staff.
Damian Harris didn't play too bad.
That's true. Damian Harris definitely did play well, but I do like bringing back Van Noy. The fact that they got him for the deal that they did. I mean, 2 years, $6 million a year. He was huge for them.
Funny how that went.
For real. I was surprised when Miami dropped them. I mean, I understand there was going to be a bunch of big-time drops because of the cap hit this season, but for him to go back to New England, I mean, this defense is about to be right back to 2019 defense.
Yeah, it is.
You got Judon. You got him to pair with Dante Hightower and Rob Ninkovich. You add Van Noy into that swing, too. I'm pretty sure they picked up the Henry Anderson pickup is iffy just because he was questionable on the Jets last season, but he definitely played well in 2019. I mean, you just add extra pressure on that defense. You really can never complain. I like what the Patriots did. I gave them an A. I gave them an A+ at first, but thinking about it, you lose Andrews, you lose Joe Thuney, and I know you get 2 offensive linemen back, but you're losing the better of the offensive linemen that you gained. So I think I'm gonna stick with A. I don't think that's disrespectful at all. I mean, you're still giving them an A, but I like where New England's headed this season.
I think I give them an A. You know,
that's respect.
Yeah, you got to give them an A for everything they did.
For sure.
They definitely put on the show. But the thing with all these signs, like it's really gonna just come down to Cam Newton. And if like I know, did you guys watch his interview with Chad Ochocinco?
Nah, if you haven't watched it, you gotta tune
watch
in.
it. But he was talking about how he missed a lot of time. He had to come in out of shape. So it's definitely understandable why he played that bad. So this year is gonna be a revenge year. He has all the weapons, you know, he has slots, he has tight ends. So it's going to be interesting to see. But for the signings, just for the signings alone, you had to give it an A because they put out all that money and they brought in all these weapons. So it's going to be good for them.
See, I don't agree with one of the points that you made. I don't think Cam Newton played bad last season.
I don't think so either.
I don't think he played bad.
I thought he played pretty bad.
I don't think he played bad. I mean, if you are on Twitter all day scrolling, you know, they're always going to highlight some of the bad throws he made, but all around, he had 20 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. He had an 80 quarterback rating. That's not bad considering the talent that he had on offense and that he was working with. And I just want to correct you on one of your points. You mentioned Rob Ninkovich. Yeah, he's retired. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Did he retire this season?
Nah, he's been retired.
Oh, man.
Nah, but for real.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Regardless, you still got Judon.
Yeah.
You got Dante Hightower.
So Judon
and Van Noy.
Yeah. So Judon, Van Noy, Henry Anderson. He's like solid. You know, I seen him with the Jets. They overpaid for him, but he was pretty good. I mean, I think this defense, you're right. They're going to be right back in the thick of things. Stephon Gilmore, if they don't trade him, J.C. Jackson.
Yeah, that secondary is
crazy. They're
going
to have a great secondary.
Nah, JC's a dog. Gilmore's a dog. You still got McCourty. Is Jason McCourty still on the squad too? I'm almost positive he's still on this. That secondary is amazing.
Yes.
That
Jonathan
secondary is
Jones is
amazing.
still there too, right?
Jason McCourty's a free agent.
Okay.
Devin is still there though. But
Devin's probably a for lifer at this point.
Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, and we're forgetting about Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman is still going to be there. And yes, they lost Joe Thuney, which he is one of the better guards in the NFL. But to be fair, this is going to be their offensive line next season. At tackle, Trent Brown and Isaiah Wynn. At guard, Shaq Mason, who's a really good guard. And last year, they had one of the highest rated rookies at guard in Michael Onwenu. So they're going to have a good offensive line still. Ted Carrs is coming back as well. So their offensive line is going to be really good still. It's not going to be god-awful. It's not going to be average. I think it's going to be really good. So having Trent Brown back,
for a fifth
and
rounder.
Michael Onwenu, who was one of the better rookies last season. I mean, Joe Thuney can walk at that point. I think the decision to let Joe Thuney go was much easier for them to do because Michael Onwenu stepped up last season.
For sure.
And he was not supposed to do that, but him being that good made the decision to let him go that much easier.
And getting Trent Brown for a fifth-round pick, I mean, for what the cost was initially to keep him was definitely way too high. And now you get him back for a fifth-rounder, which is a joke. I mean, and he's proven to be an amazing tackle with them already. I love that pickup. And I like the re-signing of Ted Karras because the same thing. He had history with the Pats where he was proven to be very efficient for them. So I really can't complain. But like I said, losing Thuney hurts. So I can't give him an A+ just because they take a hit on O-line, especially if they want to be a run offense.
Yep, I agree with that. Now, the next team we are going to talk about within the AFC East is the New York Jets. So, one of the moves they made was signing Jarrad Davis to a 1-year, $7 million deal. But their bigger moves were getting Corey Davis.
Oh, my God.
Getting Carl Lawson. They also got Justin Hardy, who's one of the better special teams players in the NFL.
From the Saints, yeah, that was a come up.
And, about 30 minutes or an hour ago, they signed Keelan Cole and Dan Feeney. Dan Feeney can play center. He can play guard. He started for the Chargers, but I don't think he's a starter. He's more of a backup.
Okay. But
still, I think this was an okay offseason for the New York Jets. I like that they're not spending big money on players that maybe shouldn't be worth it. I think Carl Lawson is worth every penny. I'm glad they didn't give that to Hassan Reddick. But I think this was an okay offseason. I'll give them a B+ for this because they didn't make any dumb move. And I think Joe Douglas is spending right on these free agents.
You want to say something?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. You're a little more respectful than I was being. I mean, I gave him a B. I thought that was fair. I was teetering between a B+, a B. I just feel like they didn't spend any money that was unnecessary. I feel like the only place where they definitely could have gotten an A this offseason is if they would have brought in a Thuney or if they would have brought in a guy like Corey Linsley. But then again, if you look at if they would have brought in Thuney, it would have cost them at least $90 to $100 million because he's going to play for a team that's not going to compete for a championship. Instead, he goes to the Chiefs and he signs for $80 million. And you look at Corey Linsley, you can't be too upset at Joe Douglas for not bringing him in. He's had injury history already. And again, I mean, the Chargers I wouldn't say are championship contenders, but if you're going to the Jets who have a history of being, for lack of a better term, good, and they haven't been good for years now, I mean, you can't blame them for not getting these guys or, feeling confident in throwing money at these guys that...
I mean, not only that, but New York or L.A. I'm picking L.A.
Yeah, for sure.
If I'm
close your eyes.
Somewhere,
yeah.
I'm going L.A.
And the New York media is terrible.
I would only choose New York over L.A., and I'm being honest here, if it's to play for the Giants.
I just feel like we've lived here most of our life, so it's easy for us to say New York or LA. We'd probably go to LA.
No, but I'm thinking
and
just
it's sunny
I think in terms
day.
of like the NFL landscape, players would much rather go and play for the New York Giants than the New York Jets.
Yeah,
because they have a history. Because they have a history.
But no disrespect to the Jets, but I think that's just how players would see it. But I mean, I think you're right in some aspects. I think getting Carl Lawson was probably the best move because we have needed an edge rusher for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And now having Carl Lawson, whose sack numbers aren't crazy, but it's because, it's not because he's not getting there. It's because he's just not finishing off plays.
Mm-hmm.
But now on the Jets, you got a guy like Quentin Williams, Fadakazi, John Franklin Myers, who are going to create that initial pressure. Carl Lawson is going to get way more sacks. I'm predicting he's going to have a double-digit sack season. And he was asked in his press conference, why did he come to the Jets? And he said Robert Saleh. So Robert Saleh and his scheme, he's going to emerge. And Jarrad Davis, another low-risk, high-reward signing who had a lot of potential until Matt Patricia went and, messed everything up in Detroit. He's going to be – I think he'll have a pretty okay season. Corey Davis, I like that we got a receiver, right? I'm glad that our top-name receiver that we signed this offseason wasn't going to be a Keelan Cole. I'm glad that Keelan Cole was the secondary guy.
Yeah.
But Corey Davis, to me – while he had a breakout year last year, just shy of 1,000 yards, he's not an alpha. He's not a number one. And there wasn't really any number one on the market outside of Kenny Golladay that was actually free.
Okay.
So I guess this was the second best guy, but I worry about how he's going to play against the AFC East opponents.
Question, you're taking Corey Davis over Juju and Will Fuller?
Juju 100%.
I don't know about Will Fuller though. I don't think
Fuller. I think I might take Will Fuller, but if we're taking into account injury history and stuff, I'll probably go Corey Davis.
Okay.
But AFC East opponents, he's going to be matched up with on the Patriots, J.C. Jackson or Stephon Gilmore.
That's rough.
Look at the Bills, Tre'Davious White.
That's bad.
You look at Miami, Xavier Howard or Byron Jones. Am I counting on Corey Davis to even win one of those matchups? I really wouldn't. So we have to hope as Jets fans that Denzel Mims is going to step up this season and Jamison Crowder is going to remain healthy.
Can't forget about him.
Even if let's just count your division, you could possibly play the Ravens and Marlon Humphreys and Marcus Peters. You could play the Browns and Denzel Ward. It could get really bad for Corey Davis.
Corey Davis is he's a high-end number 2.
Yeah.
But I don't think he is a number 1. Like, not a low-end number 1, not a middle number 1, not a high number 1. He's just not that at all. So because of that, it kind of worries me. And Mike LaFleur's system is a West Coast scheme, zone running scheme. We don't have a running back. Our best running back on the roster might be P. Ryan right now.
Probably going to draft one. Yes. And you're going to get one probably early second, too.
But we still need one.
That's for sure.
If we don't have a running game to open up the field for guys like Corey Davis or Crowder or Mims, I don't know how it's going to look. But overall, I think these signings were too good. We didn't strap ourselves too much financially. Justin Hardy, good special teams player. Dan Feeney, okay backup. So I just give it a B+ because we didn't go out and make dumb moves.
So are you okay on the Joe Douglas vibe yet? Or are you still thinking about it?
No, I am not okay with Joe Douglas right now. If you guys have been watching,
you're giving the Jets a B+.
Yeah, you're giving him a B+.
No, I know. I could give him a good grade. I don't have to be biased towards a grade.
Okay.
But for me, so I'll just say this. Maybe me being hard on Joe Douglas is more based off of gut feeling than it is what he's actually done.
Okay.
But this is my gut feeling. I didn't like when he didn't re-sign Robbie. I feel like Robbie and Corey Davis are kind of similar. Not in terms of their game style, but in terms of how good they are.
Okay.
I can get the same projection out of Corey Davis that I could get out of Robbie. Like, it's really neck and neck. So why pay Corey Davis but not Robbie? Whatever, boggles my mind. Jamal Adams, I wish he would have remained a Jet.
Fair enough.
He didn't remain a Jet.
But you can't be mad at that trade.
I'm not mad at the trade. I'm not at all. We got good compensation.
For sure.
You weren't mad at the trade.
But for one, we're not sure what those first-round picks are going to turn into. And two, Joe Douglas, the reason why Jamal Adams got so mad, it was because Joe Douglas said he wanted Jamal Adams to be a Jet for life, and he never even initiated contract negotiations with Jamal Adams. So Jamal Adams really got angry because Joe Douglas kind of lied to him. And I just feel like a good GM doesn't treat their players that way, especially the best player, the heart and soul of the team.
No doubt.
Jamal Adams, say what you want about him, but in that locker room, he was the leader.
For sure.
So because of that, Joe Douglas, yes, he's made some. This is the first good offseason so far, right?
Yeah.
Last year's offseason was bad.
He came into a rough situation, but fair enough.
But last year's offseason was bad.
It was.
The draft, yes, he hit on the draft, even though people love to count hitting on a punter, hitting on a player, whatever.
Yeah.
Denzel Mims, Makai, and Ashton Davis were good picks.
Solid.
Ashton Davis is still yet to be seen. We have to see. People are trying to anoint him as like this great pick right now. Like we have to see. We'll see what he does this draft. All I know is that if he passes up on Zach Wilson at number 2, this draft is an F.
100%.
This draft is an F. I don't care if he drafts 5 All-Pro players in the next couple of rounds. If he doesn't draft Zach Wilson at 2,
you need Zach.
This is an F. But yeah, so far the Jets offseason has been okay.
But I want to say one last thing about Carl Lawson. I like that signing a whole lot more looking at Leonard Williams. The fact that, you guys traded him away, he had a good season, which definitely hurts. But I don't know if he's worth $21 million. So you know what I'm saying? You bring in a guy for 3 years, $45 million. I'll take that contract any day of the year, or any day of the week, over paying someone like Leonard Williams who broke out one season and is getting $21 million. So that's another thing to look at and think, you know what, the Jets made a good decision there.
Yeah, I guess, I'm saying I like the decisions that he's made. And somebody just pointed out the fact that Phillip Lindsay could be a Jet. He very well could be because the Broncos are letting him go.
Oh, man.
Broke my heart.
Joel, he's in the chat right now. He also said that you need a top 5 wide receiver to compete with guys in the AFC East, the cornerbacks. And no doubt, I agree with that. But Corey Davis is not that.
No, he's not.
I like that we got an upgrade, but, I just wish that it would have been a better guy. Maybe being more aggressive towards Kenny Galladay. Maybe it just depends.
But the same thing, I'm sure, not saying that the Giants situation is a whole lot better than the Jets. I think it is better than the Jets.
It's definitely 100% better than Jets.
You guys would have had to pay more money for Kenny Galladay than the Giants are going to have to pay for him. You know what I'm saying? People don't want to play for the Jets right now for some reason.
And that's why I'm not holding Joe Douglas accountable for not signing Joe Tooney.
100%.
Joe Tooney went to Kansas City because he wanted to play for a contender. That's really it. And if a player is choosing between the Jets and Chiefs, they're going to choose the Chiefs 100% of the time. If the Chiefs can match the offer or maybe even offer something a little bit less, they're going Chiefs. So because of that, I don't blame Joe Douglas for the offseason. But all around, I like it. Let's see what moves they make. There's still moves yet to be made. I know Jets fans wanted Juju. I personally don't see the hype in Juju. I just don't. I'm fine with Keelan Cole, honestly.
It would have been a nice class. You have Mims, Crowder, Corey Davis, and Juju. With Zach Wilson coming into his first year, God willing, hopefully. That would have been very firm. But then all you'd really need to do is focus on O-line for the next few years.
Juju Smith-Schuster's stats the past 2 seasons. Last year he had 831
Wasn't
yards. 2019 he had 552. So
How many TDs?
But he was hurt that year before, too.
he played 12 games, though. He was not on pace to get 1,000 yards anyway.
Well, listen, Antonio Brown said that without him, he's nothing. He didn't lie. I'm not saying.
To this point, it's been true.
But nothing is crazy, though. He's just not a number one without Antonio
And plus,
Brown.
with everything Juju comes with I'm not saying athletes can't have stuff outside of football, but, Juju's TikTok, Juju's Twitch, I mean.
Surprisingly, I don't hate that. Because you think about all the kids that haven't been playing football and they're trying to reach out to the younger crowd. He's reaching out to the younger crowd.
No, I get that, but I'm talking about just in.
Of course.
A GM,
on a mature.
If I'm a coach,
he's 24?
I think so. Like
I don't really want that in my
I think
locker
he is
room.
23.
Especially for the coach who the Jets are building, I don't think Juju would really fit that.
Fair enough.
So
fair enough.
Overall, like I said, I give this offseason a B+. Joe Douglas, let's see if he doesn't mess this up.
I'm surprised.
So now we are going to move on to the AFC West. I know some people are very excited for this because the
wait, before we move on, let me ask, who do you guys think is going to win the division?
In the AFC East?
Yeah, duh. Got to ask that.
It's going to be, look.
I got the Bills.
It's going to be the Bills or the Patriots, in my opinion.
Listen, if Tua takes that sophomore leap, Miami could be
3 teams could come out and make the playoffs.
They go to the Super Bowl
in that division.
And that's what I said. I tweeted out. I said, Bill Belichick in 4 hours made more moves than Joe Douglas has made in 2 years. The Patriots in 1 year
have New England. You can't the
Patriots in 1 year have really just kind of really. It looks like they're going to bounce back.
Yeah.
So the Jets, even with these good moves, they really might finish last again. Just not with 2 wins this time. They might have 6.
This division could have 3 playoff teams. Honestly,
it could. It really could.
The AFC East is getting better. It's getting really better.
Not you guys, but
No, we're getting better too.
Yeah,
the Jets are getting better
100%,
too.
Definitely.
I mean, you guys were supposed to be nice last season.
You're literally gonna be at the bottom of the league.
The Eagles
You're
are
with us.
The Eagles are a lock to be the bottom.
You're with us.
But the Eagles might be a lock to be one of the bottom teams in the league, though.
And you're not a lock?
How the draft goes.
No, we're not.
It depends how the draft goes.
Because we're gonna get Zach Wilson.
Okay.
But Zach Wilson isn't going to be a surefire thing.
What's wrong
He's
with
gonna
you?
be a surefire thing.
First season?
Yes.
Rookie of the year.
Yes.
Okay, we'll see.
If he gets drafted to the Jets, yes.
Okay.
100%. So next team we're going to talk about the AFC West division. I know a lot of Chargers fans are excited about this, but we're going to talk about the Chiefs first because they did win the division.
Of course they did.
The Kansas City Chiefs offseason.
I just love Mahomes.
How could
Joe
you say
Tooney.
that?
Like
The Chiefs signed Joe Tooney
Very nice
to a
signing.
5-year, $80 million contract. They also signed a former Pro Bowl guard in Kyle Long, the son of Howie Long, Hall of Fame player, and the brother of Chris Long. You know him very well. He used to play on the Eagles. And they also just re-signed Mike Remmers to fill that tackle void.
You know nothing about
And
that.
they released Schwartz and Eric Fisher. To their credit, they got Joe Tooney. And they re-signed Mike Remmers, who had a really great year. Eric Fisher was going to miss the entire year, basically, because he had torn his Achilles. Mitchell Schwartz is coming off of back surgery. Who knows if he's going to retire or not, because there's been some chatter about that. But all in all, the Chiefs in one offseason it looks like they have fixed their offensive line. And I think in the draft, in the first round, they're going to go tackle.
For sure.
So in one offseason, it looks like they have fixed their offensive line, and we know that's what they needed to fix. They went into the offseason with one mission, and they completed that mission. For that reason, this is an A+ for me.
100%. I didn't want to give him an A+ out of spite.
Oh my God.
I gave him an A. I gave him an A still. I gave him an A. The Tooney signing was amazing. It hurt to see, but it was a really good signing. Same thing with the Kyle Long, 1 year, $5 million. I mean, you really can't complain with that. They bring back. I'm sorry, how do you pronounce his name?
Mike Remmers.
Remmers, thank you. So I'm at 31 in this class where there's definitely a bunch of tackles that you could definitely hit on someone at pick 31. This really was an A+ offseason for them, unfortunately.
Yeah, you got to give them A+ because although they lost their 2 guys, they added in 2 more guys. So it's just looking like a reload year for the Chiefs,
Which
unfortunately.
it wasn't true, man.
Yeah.
And they were a top 10 defense. They really didn't need to add much on defense. Would have been nice to add some, like another corner opposite of Tyrann Mathieu, probably. But you really, did they need to? Not necessarily.
And they hit on their corner last year in L'Jarius Sneed. L'Jarius Sneed was phenomenal for them last season. Their defense is going to be good again. And
do you think top 10 again?
I would say top 15 lock.
Okay, that's pretty fair.
Especially with Steve Spagnuolo, I think he's really the guy who took them over the top. But for me, I think Chiefs fans should be really excited because not this season, but next season, the Chiefs can cut Anthony Hitchens.
Okay.
Anthony Hitchens has a huge cap hit, and he's probably the worst contract on that roster.
Probably.
But next season, they could cut him and get an actually good player to replace him. But
The
all
rich
in all,
getting richer.
Joe Tooney, like what I see the Chiefs doing, I see them building the interior of their offensive line, right? Now they have Joe Tooney, Kyle Long, and Laurent Duvernay's coming back. He opted out last season.
Okay.
They're all guards. Maybe Joe Tooney's going to play center for them.
Okay.
But them upgrading the interior of this offensive line tells me that maybe they want to be a more balanced offense. We see that they're always a very pass-heavy offense. They don't run the ball much. Maybe they want to change that and be not a balanced team, not 50-50, but like 70-30.
Okay.
And really have a good enough running game. I see them building the interior of their offensive line. Maybe this is why, but these are all good moves. Kyle Long, we'll see what he is. He has an injury history, but Joe Tooney, like this was really, I wasn't expecting that signing.
Neither was I. No, I mean, there's really not much else to say. The Chiefs really hit it out the park.
Chiefs are the Chiefs, man. I
Also,
feel bad for you.
Listen,
Like, you're a Denver fan.
Listen, we get Deshaun Watson.
Yeah,
There's
I
no
know,
team we can't beat.
Yeah,
There's no team we can't beat.
I know. If we win, yeah, I know.
I'm sounding a lot like you guys.
Ifs.
That's a fact.
A lot of ifs.
That's a fact.
The Los Angeles Chargers had a pretty good offseason as well. They
did.
went into the offseason with one goal in mind, and that was to get an offensive line. Last season, they had the 29th ranked offensive line. So they needed to help out Justin Herbert in that category. They signed Corey Linsley, the top center on the market, one of the best centers in football, if not the best center in football, to a 5-year, $62.5 million deal. They also signed Matt Filer, who's a pretty good tackle, to a 3-year, $21 million deal. So these two guys, I mean, bringing in two guys and not on 1-year deals, these are long-term guys. These are going to be guys moving forward for the Chargers that they're going to build around. This was a good move. I think you now have Corey Linsley, Matt Filer, and Brian Bulaga. That's a pretty good offensive line. Now they just need to get a guard.
No, especially with Herbert, who's pretty mobile, that can move outside the pocket. All he really needs is around, 5 seconds at most to get rid of the football. And if he needs to, he can definitely move outside the pocket. These moves all of them were solid. The only thing I didn't like was that, like and didn't like, they cut Casey Hayward, which definitely saves a bunch of money for them with the cap and everything like that. They bring back Michael Davis, which I also don't mind, especially when you're losing Casey Hayward. Their secondary is good enough. But I gave them a B+, but I just feel like their defense, every year we talk about like it should be one of the best defenses in the league. They have an amazing secondary, and it just seems year in, year out they disappoint. They should be winning with the roster they have right now, they should be winning at least 9 games every single season. And they've just disappointed every year.
Last year, they lost a lot of close games because of Anthony Lynn's clock management. I mean, they should have been a playoff team last year.
No doubt.
But I think a lot of that has to do with Derwin James just not being on the field. He has been injured. He has been injured for the past 2 years, but Michael Davis, I think, is a guy who every single season has been getting better.
Okay.
And I think he's going to be one of the better corners in the league. I'm not saying top 10, maybe top 15 around. He's going to be one of those guys that you say, wow, like I wasn't expecting him.
For the contract
who's
they gave
Michael
him?
Davis? I think Michael Davis last year, he showed flashes of that. I think next season he's going to be more consistent in that, especially with a good defensive coordinator and Brandon Staley coming in. I think he's going to take a pretty good leap next season.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Question. Do you where do you guys think they go in tight end? No,
they signed Jericho Jr.
Which I did like. That's what, because at first I was like B-, but then they brought in Jared Cook, and then I saw that they signed Matt Filer. The really good moves, especially with the offensive line that they've had in the history, in the past. It's just Melvin Ingram's probably not going to come back. It's probably going to cost him way too much money. I saw he's connected with the Ravens. You got Joey Bosa, which is firm, obviously. But then if you only have Joey Bosa, all offensive lines really have to do is double team him, and they could just take all the time they need. You know what I'm saying? I know Joey Bosa is a game changer. He's one of the best in the game. But you can't have one guy be the difference maker. I
mean, for me, I think getting Nwosu back, who didn't play last season much, I think he has a lot of potential. But for me, I think the Chargers, like their goal this offseason was just to fix the offensive line.
For sure.
Of course, everybody wanted them to bring back Hunter Henry. But looking at what the Patriots paid for Hunter Henry, I wouldn't have wanted to pay Hunter Henry that much money. Considering his injury history, that's a no for me.
Okay.
And when the Chargers lost Hunter Henry, everybody, was thinking, who are they going to have to fill in that void now.
Yeah.
Some people thought Parham could have filled in the void because he is a 6'5" tight end. He has all the size, but he wasn't a sure thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think getting Jared Cook was a sure thing.
I agree.
He's a 2-time Pro Bowler, and those Pro Bowls have not come ages ago. They haven't come when the dinosaurs died. Like, they have come recently. 2019 and 2018, he was a Pro Bowler.
He made it with the Raiders, didn't he? I'm pretty sure.
And if you look at his production from the last 2 seasons, they are very similar to Hunter Henry. So not only are they getting production out of somebody who's going to get the same amount of production as Hunter Henry, but they're getting somebody in Jared Cook Jr. who doesn't miss games. The least amount of games that he's ever played in his career was 14. So that's means huge. They can count on him every single game, and I think that's huge. I think they'll draft the tight end later in the draft, so Jared Cook Jr. could maybe groom him.
Okay.
So, for the future, they can have a tight end, but it's a 1-year, $6 million deal. They're not committing to somebody long-term financially, so I think this was a good move.
What grade did you give them?
I didn't give them a grade yet. I'll probably give them an A for this offseason because Corey Linsley, that's the number one guy on the market.
For sure.
And that's the one guy everybody wanted the Chargers to get. If the Chargers would have got a guy like Ted Karras or Matt Skura, then we're talking about a totally different grade. But they got the best center on the market.
For sure.
I think that's huge. And when we talk about offensive lines, everybody likes to talk about tackles as the most important position. But the center is the quarterback of the offensive line.
Yep.
He's the guy that's, pointing out which guys are blitzing. So having a guy at center who's really good, the best center in the league, I think makes a huge difference to an offensive line.
No, fair enough.
What did you think about their offseason, Riv?
Man, I give them a B, man. Don't ask me the questions, man. Nah, because, having an offensive line is key. Like, it's how quarterbacks succeed. Without an offensive line, trust me, I'm an Eagles fan. I see it. Without an offensive line, everything goes into chaos. So I think getting Corey Lindsey and all these guys, I think it's a good thing for them.
I just feel like with a mobile quarterback, where I do think offensive line is 100% necessary. When you got a mobile quarterback like Justin Herbert, it's not.
But that puts your quarterback in danger at times too.
It's true, and you've seen it with Russ, where he's been, he's tired of having to scramble all the time. But he's a young guy. You don't need to put, I just feel like there's time to draft and bring in guys on the offensive line. They got the best center in football, so you can't complain at all about that. But when you have a mobile guy like Justin Herbert, you got a guy like Kyler Murray, but that they're also happening to put guys around him.
With an offensive line, it doesn't just open up the passing game, open up the running game.
That's true.
Too. So getting that also benefits your run game and your passing game.
And I think that's why they address tackle too, because we have seen they have yet to address that guard position.
Yeah.
Because, while if you have a mobile quarterback, offensive line, it doesn't matter as much.
That's what I'm saying.
I think it still matters a whole ton.
For sure.
Getting those tackle positions solidified are very important because you're protecting their blind side. The guards can be okay, semi-decent.
Yep.
Because if Justin Herbert sees pressure coming up the middle, then he knows what to do.
Yeah.
Versus seeing pressure come from his blind side. I think that's the most important part to really protect
Definitely.
him. But Corey Lindsey being in the middle, I think you can slot in an average guard and they can look above average because he's there. So I think that'll help him a ton. I still think they go offensive line in the draft.
Me too. Me too.
Christian Darrisaw, a guy that pops out to me, Elijah Vera Tucker. Maybe Rashawn Slater slides there. I still think they go offensive line in the draft because they just need to shore up that offensive line completely, not just 3 positions, completely. They need to shore up that offensive line.
Yeah, I agree with Joel because when we had Jason Kelsey, we had elite center. We never had an elite left guard. It was always just a guy that was regular or he was good.
And Peters was left tackle or right tackle? Left tackle. Well, that was an amazing offensive line.
Lane is right tackle.
Yeah.
So you cover
you guys were stacked.
You cover
guys
the
are
backsides, then it's lit. But when you have a guy like Corey Lindsey, Jason Kelsey, you don't never have to have an elite guy next to him, just somebody that's good, and you'll be okay.
That's fair. That's good points.
The next offseason we are going to talk about are the Las Vegas Raiders.
This is my new team, by the way.
The Las Vegas Raiders?
That's a mistake. That's a mistake.
The Las Vegas Raiders.
This is your guy, though.
Derek Carr's my guy.
Yeah, it's your guy.
The Las Vegas Raiders this far have been making a ton of mistakes. And I don't know why. They traded Trent Brown for nothing, basically. They traded Rodney Hudson. They did get a 3rd-round pick in return, so that was good. And they traded Gabe Jackson. And basically 3 of the Raiders' 5 starting offensive linemen last season are not going to be there anymore.
Yep.
They re-signed Richie Incognito, who's like 35,
He's
38.
very old.
Like, he's like going to be 50 next year. Like, come on.
Good in the locker room, though, apparently.
I mean, I don't know. I heard that he had some
But that was in
issues
the past. That was in the past. That was in the past.
Yes, okay.
Now he's different.
But the Raiders did make some moves. They signed Yannick Ngakoue, an edge rushing presence,
Yep.
which they desperately needed because Clelin Ferrell was supposed to be that, but he's more of a defensive lineman, kind of like Leonard Williams, who was supposed to be an edge rusher, but he's more of a defensive linebacker. He's better against the run.
Mm-hmm.
They signed John Brown to replace Nelson Aguilar and Tyrell Williams. Granted, Tyrell Williams was injured last season.
Yep.
They also brought in Solomon Thomas, a former first-round pick. They brought in Quentin Jefferson. They signed Kenyon Drake, and they re-signed their guard, Denzel Good. And they re-signed 3 players in Zay Jones, Jonathan Hankins, and Nicholas Morrow. So they made some moves, but just them releasing their 3 offensive linemen kind of just offset anything that they really made.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you lose 3 of your 5 starters, essentially getting nothing in return for them. I mean, they were going to cut Rodney Houston if not for Rodney Hudson, if not for the Cardinals calling them. You lose Trent Brown, you get a 5th round for him. Gabe Jackson, I couldn't even tell you what they got from Seattle. Do you know off the top of your head what they got from Seattle?
No, I don't know. It might be like a 5th round pick. Though.
Even still, you're supposed to be building this offense around Derek Carr. There was talks of Russ being interested in Las Vegas because of how good that offensive line was. You throw all that out the window, and then they bring in Kenyon Drake on $11 million guaranteed dollars. When you have Josh Jacobs already, the only reason I didn't give them an F is because they looked at the defense and realized that they needed to do something. They brought in Yannick and they brought in Solomon Thomas. I gave them a D+ because of Solomon Thomas and Yannick Ngakoue. If not for that, I mean, these moves really make no sense to me.
Kenyon Drake move doesn't make sense.
It doesn't? Or you're saying
it doesn't make sense?
No, 100%. You have a guy like Josh Jacobs who's definitely one of the more talented guys in the league, and you bring in
No, he's legit.
He's for real. When they were giving him the rock 20, 25 times a game, they were cooking. Then I guess he's a little bit, I wouldn't say brittle, because obviously you're in the NFL, you're tough. But he has a history of having, minor injuries that keep him off the field. I just think with Waller, Josh Jacobs, you got Derek Carr at the helm. With that O-line that they had, they were in a good position. You got Henry Ruggs, who's supposed to be, the next big thing. They put themselves so far back this offseason.
I gave them an F.
Yep, fair.
I gave them an F because, like we were just talking about, with mobile quarterbacks, you don't have to have an elite offensive line at times because they can run. Derek Carr is not really a mobile quarterback. And he's
a little bit mobile than you think.
He's a little bit. He's not like a guy who I would consider like a mobile quarterback.
He's like Matty Stafford if I had to compare him to anyone.
So it's like he can run, but you don't want him to do that all day.
For sure.
It's like you
at
just
all, honestly.
Yeah,
no
you
way.
just kind of like threw away your whole offensive line.
Yeah.
I don't understand the direction of where I get the Yannick, whatever his last name.
Ngakoue.
Yeah, but I just the offensive line. These guys were legit. I don't understand the direction of where they're going.
Not only that, but the Raiders they don't have a good offensive line anymore, but they don't have a number 1 receiver. Like Nelson Aguilar is not even number 1, and that was their number 1 last season.
You don't think Ruggs could be a number 1?
We have to
To
see
this
it.
point,
He gets hurt, too.
For sure.
to this point, he hasn't shown the ability to.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he's very fast, so everybody's always going to point to that. But we just saw some guy who ran a 4.2 signed with the Giants on a $2 million deal in John Ross.
Yeah.
Just because you have speed doesn't mean you're going to really translate to the NFL. But the receiving core right now is Henry Ruggs, John Brown, and Hunter Renfrow.
No
I don't
number
love
ones.
that. I don't love that.
A bunch of number 2s.
They drafted Byron Edwards last year, Brian Edwards,
Yep.
who I think has some upside.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Darren Waller is that number 1 target.
Yeah.
But this is their offensive line. So far on the depth chart, according to ESPN, Colton Miller, John Simpson, Andre James, Denzel Good, and Brandon
I
Parker.
can do something with that in Madden.
Their
They need me out
offensive
there.
line, their offensive line is full of no names.
Yeah.
Like, nobody. The only person I know is Colton Miller and Denzel Good. That's it.
I only know
But
Colton Miller.
the casual football fan probably couldn't even recognize them on the street.
Yeah, no way.
Like, they really don't even know them. Their defense is looking it is looking better. Clelin Ferrell, Max Crosby, Yannick Ngakoue, Jonathan Hankins, Maurice Hurst, Corey Littleton forgot how to play coverage with them last year.
Yeah.
Maybe Gus Bradley helps that out. Jonathan Abram was horrible last year as well.
He wasn't good.
Damon Arnett, Trayvon Mullen, they have a lot of young guys. We'll see how they step up, but man, I think their offseason, I'm gonna give them a D. I think Yannick Ngakoue.
I feel like I was being kind.
Yannick Ngakoue is the only guy that made me, the only signing that made me go, I'll give them a D because
Solomon?
of this. Not Solomon, because he hasn't done anything to the league at this point.
Fair enough.
His signing is just potential.
I said F because they haven't done enough to be competing in that division. So it's like
you're not wrong. You're not that far off.
It's like, well, I'll give them a D. They ain't do nothing to get a passing grade for me, honestly.
No, they really weren't that good. Go ahead.
It's crazy.
What's
man.
wrong with them? Why did they do that?
No, that was bad move after bad move after bad move.
They just woke up and started doing things.
Nah, for
their offseason was supposed to be to build around Derek Carr, and they did the exact opposite. And building the defense, because that offense has been good for years.
I agree.
It's just been the defense. Derek Carr has never had a defense that wasn't better than a bottom 20 defense. Like, that's unbelievable.
What does this say about John Gruden? Because John Gruden, before he took over this job, he's supposed to be this genius, this offensive guru. He comes
Mike
in.
Mayock too.
Maybe he has a plan in motion.
Because since Mayock took over, didn't they have Vontaze Burfict come in? They had AB come in, Tyrell Williams come in, Trent Brown come in.
Tyrell is still there, or he left?
And Amari, and none of those guys are there now.
Yeah, it really looks like they're going downhill, but John Gruden has 7 more years, so we'll see.
Is Tyrell Williams still there or not?
He just left. He's just
with
went
the Lions. Yep. But the next team,
dude went to the Lions.
Here we go.
We are going to talk about are the Denver Broncos. They finished last.
This should be your segment right
I'm
here.
ready.
They
I'm
finished
hyped.
last in the NFC
That's
West.
all right. That's all right.
So, okay, the Denver Broncos, they signed Ronald Darby to a 3-year, $30 million contract.
Love it.
And they re-signed Shelby Harris to a 3-year, $27 million contract. He's one of the better defensive tackles in the game.
For sure.
I like this signing with Ronald Darby and re-signing Shelby Harris. And right now it's rumored that the Broncos are going to heavily pursue Kyle Fuller from the Bears.
I could
So if they can have Kyle Fuller, Ronald Darby, Justin Simmons, the rookie that you guys
Justin
have,
Simmons,
whose name is really hard to
dog.
pronounce. I mean, they got something going. I think the Broncos, it's just that quarterback position. But
100%.
outside of that, they have something going. I'm trying to pull up this guy's name. Michael Ojemudia.
That's that.
He played okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So I mean, and Bryce.
And he's
Callahan,
a rookie.
Bryce
Callahan
Callahan's
is really
there.
underrated too.
So yeah, that secondary could be really good next year if they were to get Kyle Fuller. We'll see what happens.
Listen, you spoke about the Shelby Harris signing. I mean, for a 3-year, $27 million, what more could we have asked for? In the locker room, he's one of the more important guys, and on the field, he's just as good. And for that price, I close my eyes and I'll do that every single day of the week. I'm upset about letting Phillip Lindsay go because me personally, I think he's better than Melvin Gordon. I just think he fits our scheme better than Melvin Gordon does. I understand. I'm pretty sure he wanted his money. He was a two-time over 1,000-yard rusher. The only thing I would have liked to see us do was go out and get a linebacker. I understand why we didn't, because next season, if we want to bring back Justin Simmons, we're going to have to pay him. He's not going to – I think this was the last year we could tag him, unless we could tag him next year, but I don't blame him if he wants to sit out. He needs his money. He's the second best safety in football. I mean, I would take Jamal. I would still take Jamal out of respect.
I would take
Jamal Adams.
over Tyrann Mathieu?
Oh, that's a good
Tyrann
one.
Mathieu doesn't play a little bit more corner
I don't know. I would take Tyrann Mathieu in a heartbeat
over Justin Simmons.
I
just feel like Justin Simmons, he's a little bit more of a ball hawk. But I understand Tyrann Mathieu's all over the place. He's same thing with Jamal. He can play corner. He can shade you at linebacker, give you that kind of look. That's fair enough. I mean, he's at worst, at the absolute worst, top 5. So I mean, I can't be too upset about that. I love the Ronald Darby pickup, especially for the price. 3-year, $30 million. Especially if we're gonna be back in on Kyle Fuller. If the Broncos don't draft it. I would rather us draft a linebacker personally. This is hot. I would rather us take a linebacker at 9 just because I don't want to have to go through another, waiting period of a quarterback because Drew Lock has been 2 years in the making. This is about to be his 3rd season. We've seen flashes of him being good.
That's my guy.
I wouldn't even say great. There was one game against the Texans his rookie year where he was great. He was over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. But last season he was shaky all year long. I know our offensive line isn't amazing, but Garrett Bowles is finally coming into his own. I think that's where we should definitely address some O-line in this draft too. I think we drafted the center. I'm blanking on his name. Wilkinson, I'm pretty sure his name is.
Lloyd Cushenberry.
Thank you, Cushenberry. Wow, Wilkinson. Unless that might be a right tackle. Right tackle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think I would like us to get a guard, 'Cause that,
I mean,
that's
Dalton Risner, Graham Glasgow, Jawan James. I don't think that's too bad.
Jawan James could be a little bit better personally. I like Dalton Risner.
Garrett Bowles is one of the
Garrett
best.
Bowles is amazing. I mean, after last season, it took us some time, but finally he is amazing. But I think I would love us to get Kyle Fuller because then we really lock up the secondary. And then we just need to pay Justin Simmons next year.
I mean, I think the Broncos, if they get a corner, if they get Kyle Fuller, then they don't need to go corner in the draft.
No way.
And even now,
I still don't think so.
Even now, I don't think
9.
they need to. But what I would do if I was a Broncos, everybody's talking about Micah Parsons, and he is, a great prospect.
Mm-hmm.
But I would go Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
Okay.
He fits the Denver Broncos scheme perfectly. What Vic Fangio wants to do,
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah does that perfectly. He can cover, he can tackle, he's fast. I mean, he's a linebacker, but he's as fast as a safety. He can play slot, he can play the slot, he can guard tight ends. He's kind of like a Levante David hybrid.
Listen, you bring me a Levante David type player, I'll close my eyes and shake your hand.
So I think, he would really fit the Broncos defense, and he would fill that linebacker hole really great.
Now, what do you think about my thinking about Drew Lock? Do you think I'm too far off? We wanted to just ride with him at this point. I feel like I don't want to compare him to Josh Allen because Josh Allen, it took him a few years to finally click and be Josh Allen who he is right now. But people were talking about Drew Lock when he was first drafted, like he could be the guy in that big next. Remember, there was a list like the top 50 players of what they mean to their team right now, and Drew Lock was like 20th on that list. Do you think he could ever reach that?
This is what I'm gonna say. Like I've been saying for a lot of teams, including the Dolphins, you don't trade up for a QB unless it's Zach Wilson and, of course, Trevor Lawrence. I think Mac Jones fits that category, too, just a little bit.
What about Trey Lance?
No.
If Trey Lance is there at 9, I need the Broncos to take him.
I'm going to be honest with you. Trey Lance probably will be there at 9.
Really?
And the Broncos won't take him. I guarantee.
And again, I won't be too upset because, like I said, I've already waited 2 years on Drew Lock. I'm probably going to have to wait some time with Trey Lance if he were to be my quarterback. But you and I were talking. Trey Lance hasn't had the opportunity in college to really – you said that his number really wasn't called on too much. I know another player whose number wasn't called on too much.
Who?
Justin Herbert.
Chill.
Justin Herbert's number wasn't called that much in Oregon.
He said chill.
Look. Trey Lance's number wasn't called on because there were a lot of mistakes on film that he made, which is why he wasn't called on. It was a run-first team.
Okay.
Oregon wasn't a run-first team. They just threw a lot of screens, and that was mostly because the offensive play calling sucked.
It was bad.
I mean, he had 4 different offensive coordinators.
Okay.
The reason why I'm not sold on Lance and Justin Herbert is a far different prospect is, one, Justin Herbert had the best arm coming out of that class. Trey Lance does not have the best arm. It's Trevor Lawrence. Zach Wilson has a better arm as well than Trey Lance, even though some people think Trey Lance does, but he doesn't have a better arm than Zach Wilson.
Okay.
My concern with Trey Lance is that he has played 1 year of college football.
Okay.
Compared to Justin Herbert, who played all 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Lance doesn't have much experience, and he wasn't asked to do anything. Mac Jones, last year was the first full year he started.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why I'm higher on Mac Jones is because Mac Jones sat under Tua for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So even though he wasn't playing, he was learning.
For sure.
Right? And then in his 3rd year when Tua got hurt, he played and he played well.
Mm-hmm.
So he has far more experience. Last year, Mac Jones had about 350 throws in college football.
Mm-hmm.
Trey Lance in his first full season, in 16 games, had 230 throws.
Okay.
That's about 18 throws a game.
And how many throws?
That's a question, though. But could that be a benefit to where they played to, where Mac Jones played for Alabama?
Yeah, and he had Devontae Smith. He had Jalen Waddle.
The reason why
Waddle was out.
The reason why that doesn't matter is because, yes, Alabama is a dominant program.
Oh, yeah.
But
100%.
North Dakota State, who plays in the FCS, is the Alabama of FCS. You guys have probably never heard of this receiver. His name is Christian Watson.
Okay.
But when he was playing in the FCS, Christian Watson was dominating. I mean, he was next level good compared to those guys. Trey Lance was not playing in a good conference of football. NDSU has won 8 national championships in 10 years. They are literally better than Alabama in their conference than Alabama is in theirs. So,
all right,
that's a stretch.
okay.
I understand what you mean. I understand what you're saying.
Okay, by the numbers, how many national championships has Alabama won in 10 years? Probably not more than 8. Probably
They
not.
can't.
Yet.
But are we talking about the Natty, the BCS? Because what are they at? Like what, 6?
We don't have to talk about the Natty.
But
Just-
that's what I'm
you
talking
have to
about. The
talk about
Natty.
Just talk about the SEC.
But
that's
no.
They probably didn't want it about 7-8 times. They're
You can check it. Check how many times they won the SEC championship. North Dakota State. North Dakota State has won the FCS championship 8 times in 10 years.
But as an overall team,
And before-
Alabama's still competing for the Natty. You know what I'm saying? I understand what you're saying.
Of course. But North Dakota State is the Alabama to their conference. They are playing bad competition.
Mm-hmm.
So even if Mac Jones is playing, Mac Jones has talent, but it's not like he's playing bad competition.
Okay.
He's playing good competition. Like he's making throws against NFL level athletes on some games.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Trey Lance is not doing that at all. Like not even close.
Throwing 40 touchdowns, no interceptions is still elite.
He should have had a couple interceptions.
And for
more
sure,
than a couple.
I've seen some film. He definitely
more
should
than a
have had. He
couple.
definitely should have had a few interceptions.
And most of those touchdowns, like if you even go look at
But
his
that's the
highlights,
game.
but most of his touchdowns, if you even go look at Trey Lance's highlights, he's not bombing it. They are not hard throws. Like,
Okay.
He's not bombing it. You look at Mac Jones, he's bombing it. Like they're asking Mac Jones to pass the ball.
Okay.
They're not asking Trey Lance to do that.
Okay.
Easton Stick. Okay. 2019, Trey Lance won a national championship with North Dakota State.
Okay.
He threw 40 touchdowns, no interceptions, right?
Mhm.
But he had, I believe, 45 total touchdowns or 46, somewhere around there. Or not, 56, somewhere around there.
Okay.
The year before, 2018, Easton Stick was North Dakota State's quarterback. He had more total touchdowns than Trey Lance,
Okay.
but he had 7 interceptions. He was drafted in the 6th or 5th round to the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
You don't hear nothing about him, though.
Mm.
I'm saying, like, he won a national championship. Obviously, Trey Lance has more talent than him,
Mhm.
and it shows. But I'm just saying, even without Trey Lance,
Wait, what was the years? In the last 10 years?
Last 10
in the
years.
last 10,
6
6
to 8.
NDSU has won 8.
Okay.
I'm saying,
Yeah.
Easton's-
They win every other year.
Easton
Okay.
Stick won the
How many
Easton-
BCS?
All right, I got you.
Easton Stick won the FCS.
Mm-hmm.
He won an FCS championship, the same championship Trey Lance won the
Mhm.
year before.
Mm-hmm.
That just shows you how dominant their team
They're
is.
ridiculous, Rev.
So I'm just saying.
Now I get what you're saying.
No,
though.
I'm just saying, like,
I do see
you
your
can,
point.
You can use that thing. Oh, but he had Waddle, he had this, he had that, he had that.
And Najee. It helps when
Yes,
you have
of
to
course.
stack
Of
the
course.
box against Najee.
NDSU was a run first team. They averaged 300 yards rushing
And
per
he still
game.
threw 40 touchdowns.
But because they were not like crazy. They were red zone touchdowns. That's what it was.
But we still got to
do you
look.
mean?
No,
What do you mean?
but
That's
we
totally fair.
but we still have to look at 40-0, regardless of what happened. Listen, that's a game. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be plays where
No, but
they should,
I'm saying you talked about Najee Harris.
for sure.
Did Alabama average 300 yards rushing per game? They were not a run first team. They were a pass first team.
Okay.
NDSU was a run first team. They averaged 300 yards rushing per game.
Okay.
So it's not like it's not like, Alabama, Najee was doing everything. Nah, like NDSU, Trey Lance, think about Jimmy Garoppolo's role in the 49ers offense and Ryan Tannehill's in the Tennessee Titans offense.
Okay.
Right.
That's what Trey Lance was at NDSU. And even when he was asked to make throws, he was very inaccurate. He was inaccurate high. He sailed the ball over the head of his receivers. There were some throws that he missed that were really easy throws. I'm just saying, people want to mock Trey Lance so high, but he's not what you think he is.
Okay.
Like, he's not what you think he is.
Okay.
He's just not. And him taking a year off of football, Jabril Cox, he's going to be a 3rd-round pick this year. He played for LSU.
Yeah.
He played for NDSU in 2019 with Trey Lance.
Okay.
When their football season was canceled in 2020, what did he do? He transferred to LSU, and he played, and he proved himself. Now he's a 3rd-round pick. He's gonna get drafted. Trey Lance didn't transfer to another college. I wish he would have played. I wish he would have had another year of experience.
Okay.
Instead, he trained with his quarterback coach. And while I like that, I would like him to actually play football and learn more football and have game reps. He doesn't have enough game reps. He only had, to this point in his career in college, he has less than 300 throws
Yeah. That's
in
not
a
a lot.
16-game season. And he's going to be a top 10 pick? That's ridiculous to me. That's ridiculous to me.
With the stat line like that, I mean, listen, I agree. I would have liked him to get.
Dwayne Haskins was like historic at Ohio State. His stat line was historic.
It was very good.
I don't really take stats into consideration much. I just look at the throws that you made and the throws that you didn't make.
Okay.
If you made the throws, I think you did good. If you didn't
Okay.
make the throws, I don't think you did so well.
Fair enough.
And Trey Lance, most of the time, there were a lot of throws that were very alarming. That in the NFL, that's gonna be interception. That's
But
bad.
we've
So
seen. Go ahead.
What's the hype around Trey Lance being a top 10 pick then?
His stature, his physique, his athleticism, his arm.
The hype is that when you throw 28 touchdowns and no interceptions,
Yeah, you're different.
people look at those stats and say 0 interceptions. Wow, this guy is mistake free. But when you watch the film,
You're right.
you say, oh, he had some mistakes. Also, winning a national championship. Like Daniel Jeremiah at Trey Lance's pro day.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Jeremiah talked about how a scout called him and was like, what do you like about Trey Lance? And then he was like, well, if you want a winner, this is your guy. So Easton Stick is not a winner. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like it's not hard to win at NDSU. Like everybody has won at NDSU. Just because Trey Lance won at NDSU does not make him a winner because everybody wins there. So,
But the same could be said about Alabama.
no, yes. But nobody calls Mac Jones a winner.
That's true.
Fair.
They don't call Mac Jones a winner. They say, oh, he was carried, right?
That's true.
But Trey Lance, because nobody knows about North Dakota State,
They say
nobody
he's the guy.
knows they're dominant. They're like, oh, look at he played at a small school and stuff like that. And I think from the past
Did Wentz
years,
go there?
yes,
He
he
did.
did.
My boy.
And they were dominant then.
Your
But
ex-boy.
the hype around Wentz going to a small school, the hype around Josh Allen going to a small school, people are now looking at small schools more. But also Trey Lance, the physical tools are undeniable. He's like 6'4", closer to 6'5". He's strong. He can he has the arm to make every throw.
I agree.
He's just not accurate to do it, on a consistent
Listen,
basis.
Josh
Sounds
Allen
like
was the
Josh
same
Allen.
exact
Yeah,
way.
it
But
sounds
And I know
Josh
you
Allen
said-
in college wasn't really like that.
But then he comes to the NFL and what I think his completion percentage 2 years in a row was dead last.
Josh Allen played in horrible weather conditions, and he was asked to carry his offense, and he had to throw it away most of the time.
Okay.
In Buffalo, his first year, his best receiver was Zay Jones.
Okay.
So it's not like he
John
had
Brown
much-
was on the squad, I'm pretty sure.
No,
No,
first
next
year,
year.
no.
I
The
think it was the
second
next
year,
year.
Cole Beasley and John Brown were there. That's where he took the leap.
Okay.
Not the crazy leap, but having a
good
number 2
enough leap.
receiver, he took a pretty good leap. But then getting a number
He still
one,
was dead
took
last
that leap.
in completion percentage that year.
But I'm saying that's why Trey Lance worries me that I don't think he's going to be a top 10 pick.
Okay.
Because I don't think any team's looking at Trey Lance and saying, this guy is ready to play right now, and he can really do well for us. I don't think any team is saying that right now.
So how many quarterbacks right now you think are going to go in the first round? I know we're getting off topic, but I'm curious.
There might be 5.
But that's what I'm saying.
Who's
So
the
then
5? You just said
exactly my point.
Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, and Justin Fields.
But that's what I'm saying. You're saying Trey Lance.
I don't think Trey Lance goes in the top 10. I think a team late in the first round could take him.
Excuse me. That should have been my question.
Okay.
Top 10. How many quarterbacks do you think go?
3 at most.
Okay. And
Three at
you're
most.
saying
And
it's
that's
going to be
Mac
Trevor, Zach,
Trevor, Zach, and Mac Jones.
and where does Matt go?
Carolina at 8.
Interesting.
Yep, I think
Interesting.
Carolina at 8 is the perfect fit. Joe Brady's offense, Joe Burrow, similar to Mac Jones.
Okay.
I think it could be Mac Jones at 8. Or they might have to trade up for Mac Jones. I think he could go to Atlanta too.
Okay.
But I've been studying these quarterbacks lately. I just started with Mac Jones. I watched like 5 games on him already.
Okay.
But I watched Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and Zach Wilson.
Mhm.
So once I watch the rest, I'll give out my quarterback rankings
Okay,
and
fair
dissect them
enough.
and how I feel. But just what I watch of Trey Lance, I haven't seen much. Even in the playoff run when that NDSU went on, he wasn't asked to make much throws, at all.
Mm-hmm.
He threw, maybe the most he threw was 18 times in a game. The other games were 14 times he threw, 11. You look at Ryan Tannehill, he gets clowned for throwing 10 times in playoffs. That's what Trey Lance was, though, at NDSU.
Okay.
So, but obviously people don't look at that. People just say
But people love Tannehill now.
Yes, but it took them a while.
These last 2 seasons if we're going to look at...
And Tannehill wasn't bad in Miami either.
I 100% agree. But he had pieces there, too. I wouldn't say he didn't have A.J. Brown. He didn't have Derrick Henry. Jarvis was a dog with them. I would say... I'm trying to think. Devontae Parker was on the squad then, but he didn't break out until the year he was
That's
with
what
Ryan
I'm saying,
Fitzpatrick.
but we got really off topic.
For sure.
But I'll say this. Drew Lock, if I'm the Broncos, I won't go Trey Lance over Drew Lock. I won't even go Fields over Drew Lock, if I'm being honest.
But what has Drew Lock done? You know what I mean?
Drew Lock hasn't done anything.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't done anything. And if the Broncos were sitting at 2, this is a completely different
this is
story.
easy. That's an easy.
Yes.
That's an easy.
But because it's Lance and Fields, their concerns are just too much for them to take a quarterback that high when there are other needs.
Agreed.
It's just, and especially because they're projects.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm not saying they can't be good quarterbacks. I'm not over here saying they're going to be bust. I'm just saying at this point in time, this is where they should be ranked, and the Broncos should not overdraft for them.
Fair enough.
That's what I'm saying.
Fair enough.
So, back to your point, that's why I don't think they're going to draft the Trey Lance. And I know the hype is around Trey Lance, but it's mostly because of his stats.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I looked at Trey Lance's stats, I said, wow, You know, you see 0 interceptions in 16 games.
Yeah, your list changed completely after you did the research.
You see zero interceptions in 16 games. You think he's like a decision-making god.
Yeah.
You know? But when you watch the games, it's not really like that. But then again, you know, back to the Broncos offseason, I think they had an okay offseason so far.
What'd you give him?
Ronald Darby, Shelby Harris.
And Von Miller, we picked up that option.
I'll give,
need to.
Yeah, no, that was the only correct option.
I'll give them a B-. But if they do sign Kyle Fuller, I'll give them an A.
Let's go. Okay. I'll take it.
Yeah, nah, I'm not doing that.
Wow, that's
just
foul.
if y'all get Kyle Fuller with Justin Simmons and them boys, I'd definitely give you guys A.
I would have loved to get Leonard Floyd. I felt like Leonard Floyd really would have been a perfect fit for us. But like I said, I understand us not going out to get him because we need to save money to bring Justin Simmons in.
I'm gonna give you a B because you signed the Eagle.
Okay, even though he was on the Redskins, Washington football team last year. He was, but wasn't he bad with you guys?
Yes.
Yeah, he definitely turned it up with the football team.
It's okay.
Okay, now the next division we're going to talk about is the AFC North.
Okay.
The first team up, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they re-signed Cameron Sutton, and they re-signed Zach Banner to a 2-year deal, but they cut Vince Williams, they lost Tyson Alualu, and they also lost Bud Dupree and Mike Hilton. I think overall their offseason is a C. I'll give them a C because
you're being nice.
Cameron Sutton is good.
Okay.
And I think he can actually be better than Mike Hilton.
Really?
Zach Banner, they needed a tackle, so they needed to re-sign him. And I think I like them bringing Big Ben back. Everybody wanted to move off from Big Ben already. I don't think right now is the time. There's really no option that is going to be better than Big Ben right now. So because of that, I'm going to give them a C.
You want to go or you want me to go?
I have a question.
All right.
What pick do the Steelers have?
20-something. I know they don't. Do they have a first this year?
They do have a first.
Okay.
It's in the 20s.
Okay.
My question is voided then. You can go first.
All right. So I'm going to say flat out, I gave him an F. You lose Vince Williams, Mike Hilton, especially with Joe Hayden getting another year older. You lose Bud Dupree, although I don't hate losing Bud Dupree, especially you got T.J. Watt, so it's not a huge loss, although Bud Dupree was definitely huge for that defense. I didn't see them giving the money to Bud Dupree, though. You lose the right tackle in Matt Filer. I believe that's his name, Matt, correct?
Yeah, they lost Matt Filer.
Tyson Alualu already, like you said.
Alejandro Villanueva.
Villanueva's not going to be coming back. James Conner's not going to be back. Juju's not going to be back. Their one decision was to bring back Big Ben, Ray McLeod, and Son, which probably of all the three, Son has to be the best move.
Big Ben wasn't the best move?
No, if you ask me personally,
he had 30 touchdowns last season.
He stunk it up in the playoffs.
Second half of the season, he was irrelevant.
That's because their offensive coordinator sucked.
I agree.
Yeah.
That being said, he was horrible, and he couldn't throw the ball further than 15 yards down the field.
I don't know, man. I think Big Ben still has something left in the tank.
Does he have enough to get you deep into the playoffs?
With the right roster around him, yes, I do believe he can.
The thing, they need offensive line help desperately, especially you're losing Villanueva. You lost Matt Filer. I'm going to assume that they use that first-round pick with an O-line, even though they did just lose Bud Dupree, and they have a history of going linebacker in the first round usually. I just don't they did nothing to better their offense so far this offseason. And I understand that defense, they have a bunch of players that they're going to want to give money eventually. But Big Ben's 37. He's not the same guy that's going to be scrambling out of the pocket, brushing off hits.
Big Ben Diesel.
He's not that guy anymore. I just think that they did too little to help out Big Ben in his current position right now for me to give them anything higher than an F.
I think an F is too rough because they brought back their quarterback, who is one of the better quarterbacks of this.
So Drew Brees got brought back last season too.
But Drew, look,
nah, don't do it. Don't do it.
Drew Brees is paired up with Sean Payton, and their offense is very dinky and dunky, which is why Drew Brees always has a very high completion percentage.
Correct.
He's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
100%.
No disrespect to Drew
I'm not
Brees.
disrespecting either.
I have his book.
I can't say I love him.
I have his book in my room, his autobiography. So.
He beat Peyton Manning. I
You
never
have his autobiography?
Yes, I do. Yes, Drew Brees, man.
That's a mistake. I listen.
Came through a lot, but
I'm
I'm
not
just
a
saying.
fan.
Big Ben, okay. What other option did they have but to bring Big Ben? And Big Ben took a massive pay cut to stay as well.
He did.
Don't
He did.
forget that.
I want to say this. You said that Big Ben needs offensive weapons around him. Now they're losing Juju. They lost James Conner. They don't have a great offensive line right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're relying on a Chase Claypool. We expect him to make the leap year 2.
I like Claypool a
Deontay
lot.
Johnson, we can all agree he's pretty good.
Has a problem with drops. Pretty bad.
So did Amari Cooper, but he's still good.
I'm not comparing Deontay Johnson to Amari Cooper.
I'm not either. I'm just saying, like,
What's your
receivers have a problem.
Go ahead.
But I'm saying, you believe this Steelers team, you said they need weapons. They just lost a couple of their weapons, and they were bad in the second half.
They just lost
of the year.
Juju. Honestly,
Juju, James Conner.
I don't even think James Conner's in that discussion. I'm gonna be honest.
I agree.
1, his injury history is bad, and 2, his production has really fell off a cliff these past couple of years.
That is true.
He's so injury prone.
Juju's the only guy, and Juju, man, he could walk.
But Juju was on the team where
To say he could walk is
you gotta stop saying that, bro.
It's strong.
No, he can walk. I'm just being honest.
He was a good second.
Think about how much he opened
What's
up the
that
field
TikTok
for
song?
Oh my God.
Corvette.
Yeah, he could Corvette his way out of here. That's what he could do. But he could
That's
go
two.
out. He could go
That's
out.
two.
Of
So,
the
though, like, he
I
could
don't
just
think he's
walk.
that important. I'm gonna be honest.
On that offense,
Think about how much he opened up the offense for Deontay and Claypool.
Look,
all three of them were they were good
Juju-
for each other.
100%. You could start.
Juju had 1,300 something yards with AB that one breakout year.
Mm-hmm.
He will never achieve that ever.
I agree. But
Again.
he had an
That doesn't mean he's
I think he'll have
all-time.
more
walk,
carry,
though.
but-
He had an all-time, all-world.
But I believe in Chase Claypool. I believe in Deontay Johnson, and I believe in James Washington.
Do you believe it's enough for
Yes.
a guy like
Are they
Big
a
Ben?
playoff team?
That's hard, but they might not be because of that division, though. And the Browns.
Are they
and
winning
Ravens.
more than 9 games this next season?
No.
I don't know. I have to see how every team looks after the offseason.
Okay.
I'm not ready to make that prediction yet.
Because the Browns
but I'm
smoked
not.
them.
I'm definitely not counting them out, though.
I'm not counting them out either, but if we're going strictly off their offseason moves,
Let me do this better. Right now. We just talked about are they better than Miami? Right now, after these offseason moves.
I'm going to say
close.
no.
Are they better than New England?
I'm going to
No.
say no.
Are they better than Buffalo?
No way.
No,
I think we all can agree they're behind Baltimore and Cleveland right now.
For sure.
I wouldn't be so quick to say Baltimore.
Okay. I was
Okay,
going to say,
but Cleveland definitely.
why
Cleveland
not
just a little
Baltimore?
bit. Because,
We're going to talk about them.
because
So
Baltimore still hasn't found a number one receiver,
agreed.
Yeah.
and their offensive line is shaky. Even though they have brought in Kevin Zeitler, it's still a little bit shaky.
I kind of disagree.
And their
we'll get to that.
defense,
Okay, we'll
and
get
their
to that.
defense, I know it's been pretty good, but they lost Matt Judon too. So I
And
think,
Ngakoue.
yes, and Ngakoue. We'll see if Tyus Bowser fills in that void.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just not ready to write off the Steelers just yet.
Okay.
And in the playoffs, anything can happen. Nobody thought the Browns were going to beat the Steelers.
I don't know.
Most people,
I kinda did.
Most, like, if we're talking about talent, like, nobody thought that. We had a feeling
should've seen the
because
I didn't
betters.
think they were going to smoke them like they did.
We
I
had a
thought they would
feeling
win.
because the Steelers were on a slump.
Mm-hmm.
But I think getting a new OC in there is going to change that a lot.
Fair enough.
I think Randy Fitchner was really bad, but all around, I'm going to give their offseason a C. I'm not, too
I'm
low
on the,
in
I
the
ain't gonna give him. I'm on the C vibe. I ain't gonna give him the F.
I mean,
That's crazy.
I don't know.
And but before we go on to our next topic, just shout out to Apex Prowler. They're donating $5 again. It's crazy.
Shout out, man. Appreciate you.
We had Mighty Thunder earlier donate $5 too. So
Yo,
these
shout out to you
donations are
guys.
coming, so
Really appreciate
thank you guys for doing this. It really means a lot.
It means a lot.
So
to
we're
you.
gonna talk about the next team, the Cleveland Browns, right?
Here we go.
They signed John Johnson III on a 3-year, $33.75 million contract, which they had a hole at safety. So they needed to fill that position, and they did that with John Johnson. They signed Tack McKinley to a 1-year, $4 million contract. That was a good signing, too. He has some upside.
Mhm.
He has been disappointing thus far, though.
Okay.
And they re-signed Rashard Higgins, who I think was a good receiver last
He
year.
was solid.
Fits their scheme very well. Overall, I'll give the Cleveland Browns offseason a C+, because I love the John Johnson III move. I think that move was a really great move, but that's really the only notable move they have made. And
Okay.
because of that, I'm going to give them a C+.
So before I give you my grade, I want to know what else did they need, personally, in your
An
opinion?
edge rusher. That's not Tack McKinley. That's actually proven. Oh,
But
wait,
they have Myles Garrett.
Hold on. They signed Troy Hill III.
Okay, I
a
did see
slot
that.
corner.
That's pretty
So,
solid.
yes, I'm going to up it to a B. Because I
Okay.
think Troy Hill fills a corner. They now have Denzel Ward on the outside and Troy Hill to play the slot.
With
and
Greedy
John
also.
Johnson.
Mhm.
So, I'll give them a B. I think they needed to get another quarterback. They need a cornerback. They needed to get another safety. And they still need to get an edge rusher. But I think they're good.
I feel as long as they have Myles Garrett, who right now is top 3 defender in the league, in my opinion personally, whoever you put on the opposite side of him, who has McKinley really had to really get to the quarterback in Atlanta? He was supposed to be the guy.
Grady Jarrett.
He's more of a defensive tackle,
But
run
he
stopper.
does create pressure, though.
For sure. That being said,
He's
he's
not
never
Myles Garrett.
he's never played with someone like Myles Garrett.
Yes, I get it, but like,
I'm gonna give you my grade, and I'm gonna tell you.
McKinley it's been on him. We can't just blame.
No.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not saying Takk McKinley is anywhere in the realm of amazing. No way. But he's playing with someone like Myles Garrett, and he's definitely about to get some pressure. Getting John Johnson was huge. He was probably the best available safety out right now. Listen, I gave him an A+. I mean, they really didn't need much else. They weren't spending unnecessary money. They bring back Rashad Higgins, who him and Baker had a really good connection last season. Unfortunately, when Odell's on the field, he struggles with Odell, but Odell gets off the field, and this man Baker's an all-pro. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but he played really well once Odell went down.
Odell's coming back too, so that's.
I'm excited. I'm excited for the Browns. They really didn't spend any unnecessary money. I'm assuming that they're just going to keep building in the draft because that's what they've been doing. They've been hitting on a good portion of their draft picks. I love this offseason for the Browns.
Get on my notes, man.
Looking at the time, how long we've been on. We've been on for an hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're almost halfway.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't think
Almost.
we're close.
Listen, I really do like the Browns this season. This offseason, excuse me. Go ahead, Vic.
What you going to give him? You didn't give him a grade.
I gave him an A+.
A+?
I gave him an A+.
What did you give him?
He gave him a B.
I thought you gave him a C. You gave him a B.
Listen, they didn't spend any unnecessary money. They spent money where they needed to. They made a good pickup in Takk McKinley, which was definitely cheap, especially with the fact that...
Okay, so you gave him A because you're high on Takk McKinley.
No. I'm high on the price range of where they got Takk.
You know what would have made their offseason an A for me? Hassan Reddick got 1 year, $8 million from Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the Browns could have spent $4 more million on an edge rusher, not pay Takk McKinley, get Hassan Reddick, who has high upside, a prove-it deal. I would have liked that more.
But what do you expect the Browns to do in the draft? I think they go edge rusher.
Edge rusher at where they're picking. It's not.
They're like 20-something, but...
Jalen Phillips might be out of there.
Maybe. It depends.
Pay, probably. Gregory Rousseau.
Okay.
Like, who do they get realistically at that spot at edge rusher? This isn't a deep edge rusher class.
But defense has been in the past. Defense has been shown to hit later in the draft. True or false? So it's possible that they hit on someone.
Yes, it is. It is. But then we're going to hypotheticals, though. I don't really want to do
But that's usually the draft. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, of course. But, I'm just saying, I wish they would have brought a guy that's more proven than Takk McKinley. Like
fair.
Hassan Reddick, he's coming off a double-digit sack season. I think they could have spent $4 more million on him.
I get it.
Got him in there. And,
I understand where you're coming from.
It would have been good.
I'm going to say this. I give him a B.
Really?
But I give him a B because the Rashad Higgins is cool. Him and Baker to cook up.
He was solid.
But I don't know why, but I'm more in love with the Denzel Ward, Greedy Williams, John Johnson, Ronnie Harris. I'm more in love with that.
That looks solid.
I like Grant
Troy
Delphi.
Hill, though. Troy Hill's going to
be good. That's huge.
And I like Grant Delphi when he comes back. Like, I like that too. So that's why I give him a B because I'm more in love with that secondary. Like, that's a really young, good secondary. Like, that can be a very elite secondary. So that's why I give him a B. I'm
that's
really
another reason
falling in love with that.
I'm not upset at them spending too much more money outside of that because they're going to have to pay Denzel Ward eventually.
No, he's going to get paid.
He's going to get a bag for sure.
But imagine they got a guy like Hassan Reddick over Takk McKinley.
That's true.
It's fair.
Like, that to me was an A, like A+. Like, Takk McKinley, they signed him for the upside, and I get it, but his name just doesn't ring. It's not like music to my ears.
But like, listen, man, you're underestimating being on the opposite side of Myles Garrett a little bit too much.
I'm not underestimating it. I think on the opposite side doesn't matter too much because he is going to be going up against that guy on the opposite side. I think if he was playing closer to Myles Garrett, it would matter more. But obviously, I just don't like. He's not. Takk McKinley, he's just been a first round bust. If we're being honest, he's not been living up to expectations. Hopefully, he changes his career around. But to this point, I just don't see it.
Okay.
But I'm gonna give them a B. You give them a what?
B.
B. You give them an A+.
I'm gonna rock with the A+. I do feel they had a good offseason.
The next
I'm gonna see how you start grading these other teams.
All right.
Down the
Listen,
stretch.
I've been pretty consistent.
The next team we're gonna talk about are the Baltimore Ravens. But before we go, Charles Velez donated $10. I'm guessing
that's my guy. Yes. Shout out Charles. That's my brother. Yeah.
Yes, and also Joshua Guzman.
That's my brother also.
Okay,
so those are my guys. Appreciate
Wow.
you guys, man. Always showing love.
Andrew's bringing in the cash.
Gotcha.
He brought in the cash today.
Come on.
All right, so next thing we're going to talk about is the Baltimore Ravens and their offseason.
Okay.
So they signed Kevin Zeitler to a 3-year, $22.5 million deal. They also re-signed Tyus Bowser to a 4-year, $22 million deal. They re-signed Derek Wolfe to a 3-year, $12 million deal. and they brought in Josh Oliver with a trade with the Jaguars. Overall, I'm gonna say this: the Ravens have not spent dumb money, and I applaud them for that. They did find a guard to kind of fill that void that Marshall Yanda has left since he retired.
For sure.
So I think that was good. Kevin Zeitler was a huge signing. And somebody talked about their offensive line not being that good. I kind of over-exaggerated on that. Their offensive line is going to be really good. J.K. Dobbins is going to take a leap, of course.
No doubt.
But, like,
what's the name?
Tyus Bowser, I think, was the most underrated re-signing. His name is not really, nobody knows him, but he's going to fill the void that Matt Judon left. Like, Tyus Bowser is going to be really good for the Ravens next season.
You think fill it 100%?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't disagree that much.
He's going to be just as good as a player as Matt Judon or better.
Okay.
And Josh Oliver he has a lot of upside still. I still want to see the Ravens get a receiver, though, because that's the one position that we have been telling them to get for, a long time.
Yeah.
So they need to get that number one receiver still. And it just feels like they're not going to do it.
And I agree. I give them a C+ grade just because the one thing I really feel like they need is a number one. I even think their number two is struggling right now with Marquise Brown. He hasn't been that good.
He was low key last season. Second half of the season, he was pretty good.
He did. But they need a number one. Like,
I agree.
It's bad. I know the running game is going to be as effective as ever. I know that Lamar's going to be Lamar, but they just need a number one to really truly complement Lamar. And I think that's what's huge. And I want to see them go out and get, whether in the draft or even though Kenny Galladay is the only guy out there,
yeah,
I want to still see them get a number one that would truly unlock that offense. But that's why I'll give them a C+ grade.
I wanted them to get AJ Green. I'm gonna be honest.
Oh boy, he'll never go to
just
Baltimore.
for the upside.
Okay, I just think he's a little bit too old.
Or I
think him with DeAndre.
That is gonna be crazy.
In my offseason predictions for the Ravens, I wanted their receiving core to be Marquise Brown, Kendrick Bourne, and AJ Green.
That would have been cheap too.
Yes,
it would have been cheap.
And I feel like they could have done it, but they didn't get neither of those guys. I thought Kendrick Bourne would have been a perfect fit in this offense.
Yeah, for sure.
But they didn't get him.
So I like the Tyrese Bowser signing. Bring back Pernell McPhee also, Justin Ellis, Derek Wolfe. Those are solid guys to have back, especially, they've been on the team for a little while now and they've had good success. You lose Ngakoue, you lose Judon, that definitely hurts. But like you mentioned, Bowser's definitely going to fill that void of Judon pretty well. I wouldn't say 100%, but I would lean more 85 to 90%. I think he's definitely a really good player. I like the Zeitler signing, especially for the price you get him at. 3 years, $22 million. That's pretty firm. The only thing I will say is I'm just going to backpack off what you guys said. They need a number one receiver. And where they're at in the draft right now, there's no way. It's a pretty good wide receiver class, I think. And where they're at, they definitely could get a guy for sure. That being said, there's not I don't think where they're at in the draft, there's a Kenny Galladay, a Will Fuller, even a Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't know. I don't know if that at what, I'm assuming they're at what, 24, somewhere around those.
No, 24. We just
they're in
named
the
them.
20s.
I know you're low on Juju, but me personally, he's
Can
still.
they afford him though?
I think with the wide receiver market right now, and especially with the draft class right now, I think he might have to take a 1 year deal. He might have to take a 1 year deal on a prove it. Like this wide receiver class is really.
So the Ravens are at 27. Yep.
So I do still think it's possible that they take a wide receiver. I mean, what other need do they really have?
I think edge rusher is a need.
That's fair enough. The only thing that worries me is that if they trade Orlando Brown, because there's rumors of him going to Jacksonville, they would get DJ Chark. That would immediately feel DJ Chark's solid, underappreciated because he's in Jacksonville.
I like DJ.
I do too. I mean, who's he had? Gardner Minshew, and I'm not disrespecting Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, you're right.
He's not Lamar Jackson.
He was talking nasty to
but I
Malcolm
will be
Butler.
honest though. I think that at pick 27, they could get a guy like Rondell Moore, maybe a guy like Rashad Bateman if he does fall there.
Okay.
We'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
In the second round,
But then you're relying on a rookie again.
No, I know, but I just think that they can go that way. I mean, Baltimore kind of shot themselves in the foot because last year in the draft, they had a chance to draft Denzel Mims.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
And they drafted Devin Duvernay because he was a speedster.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that draft because I was very nervous because when the Jets traded down
Mm-hmm.
and Baltimore was in, and I was like, they need a receiver. They're going Mims.
Yeah.
I was like, they're going Mims.
Yeah.
Like, there is no way they're going Mims. When they picked Duvernay, I said, they're so stupid.
Yeah, that was a
like,
mistake.
oh my gosh,
Yeah,
they're
that was bad.
dumb. So, okay. obviously they have shown the ability not to draft good wide receivers. Marquise Brown is not even the best wide receiver in his class. He was a first-round pick. DK, AJ Brown, McLaurin have all been better. By far. Debo Samuel has been better too. I would say Debo's better too.
Agreed.
So
you could debate.
I think it's better. It's better for them to just. It's better for them to sign a receiver and get a proven guy, and they have not done it because of that. This offseason to me is a B- only because they signed Kevin Zeitler and shored up that offensive line even more.
I gave him a C+. I feel like B-, C+. I was teetering between the two, but I'm going to stay firm C+.
C+, man.
So the next team in that next team in the AFC North are the Cincinnati Bengals. They signed Trey Hendrickson to a 4-year, $60 million deal, but the entire contract is not guaranteed. They also signed Chidobe Awuzie to a 3-year, $21 million deal, and they signed Mike Hilton to a 4-year, $24 million deal. I'll say this. I like these signings, right? If it were anybody else but the Bengals. The reason I say that is because, okay, you pay Trey Hendrickson an edge rusher.
I knew he was going to get paid big somewhere.
When Carl Lawson was your free agent, when you could have just kept Carl Lawson, you paid Trey Hendrickson similar money. You could have just kept Carl Lawson. Instead, you go Trey Hendrickson, who's more unproven than Carl Lawson, way more. Like, Carl Lawson is proven. Trey Hendrickson, we still have to see.
I mean, he was one of the leading sack getters last year.
Yes, but, like, you know.
I did see that they were inflated, that they were more covered sacks.
And then they had 2 corners that were free agents, Mackenzie Alexander and William Jackson. William Jackson walks and goes to Washington, and he got a pretty good deal, so maybe you should have let him walk. And Mackenzie Alexander, they probably don't bring back. And their replacements are Awuzie and Mike Hilton. I like Mike Hilton.
Agreed.
Awuzie is kind of that wild card to me. We'll see what he becomes. Like, their cornerback group now is Trey Waynes, Mike Hilton, Awuzie, and Phillips. And I don't think that's a bad cornerback group. But to me, William Jackson, Mackenzie Alexander, and Trey Waynes is way better.
For sure.
Like, if they were going to pay these 2 corners, might as well have just kept your own guys.
I just feel like for the price that they got, I mean, 4 years, $24 million. Are you upset with that contract for Mike Hilton the way he played last season?
I'm not.
Awuzie, 3 years, $21 million. That's not horrible. The only thing I will say is the Cowboys secondary was really bad. Did Awuzie play last year?
Alex Mack.
I did see that.
The 49ers?
49ers got Alex Mack.
That was like yesterday, though.
Yeah, word.
Yeah, it just popped up. I don't know why.
No, but yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Awuzie was bad last year. You know, the best guy on that secondary was Trayvon Diggs.
And that's not saying much.
Yes, so
and they re-signed Brandon Wilson, safety.
Yes.
He played well. He played pretty well for them last year.
I mean, look, overall, I'll say this. Like, I think their offseason was a B, right?
Okay,
because
me too.
Even though they let Carl Lawson walk, they filled that need because they got Hendrickson.
Yep.
Even though they weren't going to re-sign William Jackson or Mackenzie Alexander, they brought in 2 corners who have the upside to fill those needs. I think Mike Hilton is a sure thing. And Darius Phillips on that team, I mean, he's a slept-on guy. So, overall, I think this was a good move. These were good moves because, the Bengals' defense was sneaky good last season. Like, they aren't a pushover like they were in 2019. But also, I have to give them a B because they need to shore up that offensive line. And they have done nothing to get good offensive linemen to protect Joe Burrow. And that's, like, their biggest need.
The only thing I figure is that they're 100% going to go in the draft and take an offensive lineman. Like that, if they don't go offensive lineman,
I would go Pitts.
I wouldn't because I already have Tyler Boyd and I have T. Higgins who are good enough right now to hold me over.
Their tight end is Drew Sample though.
Listen, their tight ends. No, I don't think that they have good tight ends by any means, but they have strong enough weapons on the outside that they can still manage in the passing game.
I think when Joe Burrow went down, him and Wentz were one of the leading leaders in sacks. So I think I got to give him I want to say B, but I don't know. Like, filling that offensive line was definitely one of their most things that they should have done first. And getting all these corners, like Joel said, a lot of guys who had bad years and was unproven. I don't know, but Trey Henderson, like you said, he had a good year last year, but still we have to wait and see. I think the offensive line was the thing they should have did most, and I don't think they did that. So I'm gonna give him like a C+.
I mean, Hassan Reddick had a similar year to Trey Hendrickson,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't get a 4-year contract. He got a 1-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, this was kind of like
But you said it though. You said Trey Henderson was probably gonna get overpaid somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Hassan Reddick was too.
Do you think he's that overpaid?
No,
Especially that they could void the contract?
I don't. That's why I don't think he's overpaid. I will say this: they are banking on a guy they are banking on a guy who has not shown much yet.
Fair.
1 year, but the contract is team friendly, so that's why I gave them a B. But they still need to make some offensive line moves for me to really think this is an A offseason for them.
Agreed. Fair enough.
Yes, sir.
So next team we are going to talk about is the AFC South. Also, the Bengals got Larry Ogunjobi from the Browns.
That's the tackle, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
So AFC South, the first team, the Tennessee Titans. So we're going to talk about their losses first. They lost Jonnu Smith, and they lost Corey Davis. They also released Dennis Kelly, Adoree Jackson, Kenny Vaccaro, and Malcolm Butler. They got Danico Autry, 3 years, $21 million. They signed Bud Dupree to a 5-year, $85 million deal. They signed Janoris Jenkins. I'm not sure what the deal is yet. They also signed Kevin Johnson, a cornerback from the Browns. And they re-signed Jayon Brown to a 1-year, $5.25 million contract. I have to say, I think this is a C for me. I would even maybe say C-.
Okay.
C- because you lost Jonnu, you lost Corey Davis. I thought that offense was going to take a step back this year because Arthur Smith is gone.
Yep.
So I already thought their offense was going to take a step back. But now you don't have a number 2 receiver. You don't have a proven tight end. Like, their best tight end is Jeff Swaim.
Anthony Fursker?
Whatever.
He played well when Jonnu was out.
Okay, so Anthony
I'm not
Fursker,
saying he's Jonnu.
Yeah. Anthony Fursker, we'll see what he does.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, their offense is going to take a huge hit.
Yep.
They released Dennis Kelly because Ty Sombrello kind of filled in his void, and he actually played really good at tackle when Taylor Lewan was hurt. But this is what I'll say. The reason why I don't think their offseason was totally horrible is because they needed an edge rusher.
For sure.
They got Bud Dupree. They needed another tackle and an edge rusher to stuff the run. Danico Autry is that. Danico Autry played really well in Indianapolis last season. He actually changed his position from defensive tackle to defensive end. And that's why the Colts' run defense was so good, because he was shoring up that edge for them in terms of run stopping.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with a defensive line of Danico Autry, Bud Dupree, Jeffrey Simmons, Harold Landry, I think that's going to be pretty good. And Adoree Jackson, with his injury history, I'm not mad at that release.
Okay.
Malcolm Butler costs way too much. Last year the Titans played man-to-man 48% of the time, and they gave up 28 touchdowns last year. Their defense was horrible.
Yep.
I think Janoris is a really good man-to-man corner, so that's going to help them. And Kevin Johnson, we'll see what he does, and maybe Christian Fulton develops. But I'm going to give their offseason a C- only because they got some defensive line help, and I think that is going to help them out.
I think the defensive line is established. They got I think they don't have a number 2, but with A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, and Ryan Tannehill, I think they're going to be okay on offense.
Mm-hmm.
But last year, with how bad that secondary was, it's hard for me to give them a B. I'm going to slide towards the C- grade because they let go of damn near all their cornerbacks. They only have Kevin Byrd out there. So now you got to get guys out there to play corner. Now you got Kevin Johnson, who has been unproven for the most part. Christian Fulton, he's coming off a rookie year, so he's still young. You don't know what he's going to do. So it's going to be tough for that secondary. It was already tough last year with the guys they had, so it's probably going to be even tougher this year. And I think that was a big need for them, and they didn't fill it. So I'm going to give them a C- grade for that.
So I gave him a C+. I feel like losing Jonnu and Corey Davis definitely hurt. But when you have Derrick Henry in the backfield, the passing game is usually always going to be open. So they bring in a guy, Kendall Lam, to help out, fill out the offensive tackle need. I like that, especially, you have Derrick Henry. It's always good to protect him and Tannehill. I like the Bud Dupree sign, especially. I think I have it written down here. They were 30th in sacks, something like that. They were horrible getting to the QB.
They were bad.
They bring in Janoris Jenkins after losing Adoree, and they lose Malcolm, which makes sense because that definitely saves them a bunch of money. But Janoris Jenkins, if I'm listing out the 3, I think I like Adoree Jackson the most, but Janoris Jenkins is right there. Janoris Jenkins was really solid. I mean, granted, he was playing number 2 to Lattimore, but he was still solid last season. He made some mistakes, but not too many that were really too noticeable. Personally, I gave him a C+ just because I feel like where they lost, they gained. And it's really like they gave and they took. You know what I mean? So it really like they broke even to a degree, so I feel like C+ is fair.
I think right now that defensive line is going to have to play phenomenal next year.
And maybe their secondary was so bad because their defensive line was so bad.
That's true.
Like that definitely
that's a good point.
There is a correlation there. So I mean, Malcolm Butler, he wasn't phenomenal for them.
No way.
You know, Desmond King was disappointing for them.
DJ Chark was destroying him one time.
And you know, Adoree Jackson is just always injured, and even when he played, he was pretty average. You know, so I think just shoring up that defensive line was really good. Bud Dupree obviously is the big name. Like, it pops out to you. But Denico Autry, I think he's going to be a guy that Tennessee Titans fans really look at and they fall in love with because he's a guy that's really, really going to be the underrated guy in that defensive line group. He was really good with the Colts. He'll be really good with the Titans.
I agree wholeheartedly.
The next team we're going to talk about are the Indianapolis Colts. So far they have really made no moves in free agency. They, of course, they traded for Carson Wentz. But they signed Marlon Mack back to a 1-year, $2 million deal, and they put a second-round tender on Zach Pascal and Mo Alley Cox. So, I mean, you know, all around, I'll give their offseason a C because, you know, they didn't make any big-time move. Given how much cap space they had, we thought they were going to sign a big-name receiver. They haven't even re-signed T.Y. Hilton yet. We thought they were going to sign an edge rusher. They haven't done any of that yet. At the time of this recording, you know, things can change. But their best move has been give Marlon Mack a contract.
And what about Carson Wentz?
That was a good move too.
100%.
Yeah, that was a good move too.
I think, we really, we traded Carson Wentz. Yeah, I think, you know, with Phillip Rivers retiring, getting a quarterback there who's played with that coach before, I think that was a good move. Like you said, with all that cap space, you would think these guys would be making some big time moves. I thought they would have Kenny Golladay by now at this point, and I thought T.Y. would be back. So I think right now I would give them a C grade just off the simple fact that they haven't been making the proper moves with all that money is just sitting. And I don't know. I like their team, even if they don't make moves. I like their team still. I think they're a good team. Bringing back Marlon Mack, I don't know. He didn't play last year.
He tore his Achilles.
But Jonathan Taylor he came into his own late in the season.
People
so he's
sleep
good.
on Naheem Hines.
Michael Pittman Jr. He's good. He has a lot in his potential. So I think this team is good with the young unit. But I think with all that money and that cap, you shouldn't just be sitting here making no moves. You should be definitely on the go in free agency making moves. So I'll give them a C-.
So I gave them a B+.
Oh my God.
So I gave him a B+ because I love the Carson deal.
Oh, okay.
They got him for a steal.
Lit.
Got you, bro. They got him for a steal. They got what could turn into a first-round pick. Right now, it's a conditional 2022 second-round pick and a 2021 third-round pick. For a guy like Carson Wentz, who obviously he's had some injury history, but now he's reconnected with Frank Reich, where he obviously had his huge MVP season until he tore his ACL. The one thing I will say is why I didn't give him a higher grade was because you're right. I think they should have went out to get a true wide receiver one. I'm not in love with the idea of T.Y. Hilton coming back, even though he definitely he probably still has some left in the tank. But me personally, I don't think it's a necessity to bring him back. I mean, I feel like where they're at in the draft, like they could definitely draft a wide receiver. What, you think T.Y. Hilton's a necessity?
No, he's kicking me. He does that every show. He's kicking me.
Yo. Regardless, I like Michael Pittman, Pascal. I feel like Pittman and Wentz are definitely going to have a good connection. And I feel like, to mention, you guys were saying how they have a lot of cap. That defense, they're going to try and keep it together. That defense is definitely young, and still that there's a lot of people that they're going to have to pay. So I don't blame them too much for not going out and making a splash. So that's why I didn't give them a higher. But I feel like B+ for the price they got Wentz, perfect.
Yeah, I think they had a pretty good offseason. Wentz was like the highlight move. I still want to see what they do, but for now, my grade for them is a C.
That's fair.
Did you go?
I definitely did.
Yeah,
he
he said C+. He said C+. He said C+.
I think, because at this moment, like I think sitting on that money, I do think with Michael Pittman Jr. and Zach Pascal being there, you don't need T.Y. back, but I do think they need a number one.
I think they do need T.Y. back.
You think so?
Yeah, they need a receiver.
But Michael Pittman's firm.
Not a number one though.
I don't think any of them are
T.Y.
one.
T.Y. is a low end one.
Very low
Right now?
end. But
He's
he's back and agreed.
He played a lot. He played like almost every game last season.
He
But I'm
did.
saying he's an injury prone guy. Like he gets hurt.
I don't know. I would still want T.Y. back.
I feel like none of them are wide receiver one material. That's why
T.Y. cool.
I definitely look for them to look receiver in the draft.
I don't know. We'll see. I hope they sign Ty, but
Me too.
I'm just saying, Kenny Galladay,
A Juju, Kenny Galladay. I would not be surprised if both of them sign 1-year deals.
You would love to put,
no,
Carson
Kenny
Wentz.
Galladay, hell no, won't sign 1 year.
No, you need to sign for like 4 or 5.
I don't know,
No,
man.
Kenny Galladay is gonna sign with the Giants in like 2 hours, and it's gonna be a massive.
I hope
deal.
you're right. I think you're probably right. But would I be surprised if the Packers were a last second,
No.
come play for us?
Kenny Galladay has too much money sitting on the table for him to take.
He was just hurt last year.
Yeah, that's why he won't risk it again.
But like I said, this wide receiver class this season, for some reason it's low. But we know why, because the draft class is going to be so good. So obviously people aren't that high on these free agent receivers. And if the Packers got Kenny Galladay, that would be different. So you don't think he'd be intrigued at all to
No.
play with them on a
No.
prove-it deal?
I think he just wants to make his money. I'm gonna be honest. He just wants to make his money.
I don't know, man.
You
might listen. You might be right 100%. But if Galladay went to the Packers, they would be number one offense by far and away.
So breaking news: LaMarcus Joyner is expected to sign with the New York Jets.
Oh my God.
Solid.
Solid.
That's
Okay, so
awesome.
we all agree that the Colts have had a pretty okay offseason, but nothing exceptional yet in terms of free agent signings.
Free agent signings for sure.
Nothing
Next
crazy.
team we are going to talk about are the Houston Texans. And I'll be honest, man, because these grades are about, comparing their free agent signings in their offseason. They're competing against themselves.
They're about to be mad.
I'm not comparing the Texans to the offseason signings of the Patriots. I'm comparing the Texans to the Texans. Last year, they went 4-12. Their defense was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
They had a lot of holes. Their offseason was an A+, man. I'm going to be honest. A lot of moves they made are slept on. Don't get me wrong. They are not a playoff team. They are not going to compete. But
Are you saying this with Deshaun Watson staying on the Texans?
with him leaving.
With him leaving an
Yes.
A+.
Yes.
All right, I'll let you finish.
I'll say this.
Wait, this is with him leaving.
With him leaving
Yes.
A+.
They signed Justin Britt, a center who with the Seahawks was one of the better centers in the entire NFL.
Mm-hmm.
They traded for Marcus Cannon. So now they have Laramie Tunsil, Justin Britt, and Marcus Cannon, 3 really solid offensive linemen who, if Deshaun were to stay, he'll have a pretty good offensive line. Then they signed Mark Ingram to a 1-year, $3 million deal. Of course, he's not great, but he's a locker room presence. He's going to bring some leadership. Christian Kirksey, he sucks, but it's just some linebacker depth.
I didn't hate it on a 1-year deal.
And they lost Bernard McKinney, so I think that's a huge downgrade, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they did trade for Shaq Lawson. They needed an edge rusher, especially with J.J. Watt back. Shaq Lawson is not J.J. Watt, but he's a good player. Then they got Andre Roberts, one of the better special teamers in the NFL. He's a really good punt returner and kick returner. They signed Malik Collins, a good defensive tackle from the Cowboys. Their defensive tackle last year was Ross Blacklock, who was a rookie who was horrible. Malik Collins is an upgrade. They signed Terrence Brooks, a safety, to pair up with Justin Reed. So I think that was a good signing. Then they just went out and signed Desmond King, who's going to play the slot for them on a 1-year, $3.5 million deal. They signed Kevin Pierre-Louis on a 2-year, $8 million deal. He's an okay linebacker. Then they signed Tyrod Taylor. So if Deshaun does leave, Tyrod is not a horrible quarterback. They'll be okay with Tyrod. Of course, they won't make the playoffs, but Tyrod at least holds them afloat. It's not going to be like a TJ Yates situation.
Mm-hmm.
Then they signed Terrence Mitchell from the Browns on a 2-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
Good cornerback. So now their cornerback group looks like Desmond King, Terrence Mitchell, and Bradley Roby. With Justin Reed on the back end of things, I don't think that's too bad. I really don't. And then they did release Darren Fells and traded for Ryan Izzo. It's whatever. But all in all, you look at the Texans roster, especially on defense last season, I mean, there are holes all over that team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are some guys that you look at, you're like, they don't even belong in the league. But they signed some good guys, Malik Collins, Desmond King, Kevin Pierre-Louis, Terrence Brooks. And they also signed Kamal Grugier-Hill, who's a good coverage linebacker. I think in mostly every position on defense, they upgraded outside of, Bernard McKinney and J.J. Watt. Then on offense, they got some good offensive linemen. And in case Deshaun leaves, they also got a good backup quarterback. And this is all with keeping Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb. Of course, Will Fuller left.
I think Randall Cobb's gone.
No, he's there.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I think this is an okay offseason. I give them an A+ for what they're dealing with, right? Because what they're dealing with is that all this drama around the Texans organization, Deshaun Watson is, of course, demanding a trade. He hasn't really said it yet, but we know he's like demanding a trade.
Mm-hmm.
I think given the circumstances, given the cap space we thought they were going to go into free agency with, they have made some notable signings and some good upgrades to their really bad roster last season.
Go ahead, man.
You sound really optimistic. You sound extremely optimistic about
I think this was good for
numbers.
where they were. Who wanted to go to the Texans? And they signed some,
Who
Desmond,
still wants to go to the
was
Texans?
anybody expecting Desmond King to sign to the Texans? I wasn't.
I wasn't.
That's
I
true.
wasn't,
That's- it's just I'm not gonna give him an A+ grade because I don't think they signed a lot of guys just to fill depth role. I don't think they signed any big time guys, but I give him a B grade just for the simple fact that they filled a lot of holes. They got in some depth. They got in some guys who are just gonna play well. No breakout stars, anything like that.
Mhm.
But like you said, with Deshaun. With all the drama, Deshaun possibly being gone, they got people who are there who want to play for the Texans and guys who are going to at least keep them, not like in a playoff situation, but keep them afloat where they're going to get blown out every week. So for that, I give them a B grade.
I mean, given their cap space, which it was
Yeah.
like in the negative,
Mm-hmm.
these are not bad signings. Like, yes, they aren't big names. They aren't like bona fide starters on every team, but these are some good signings for them. These are upgrades for them. So from where they were, which without Deshaun Watson, they might have had no wins,
16.
right?
Mm-hmm.
From where they were last year. Now, if they don't have Deshaun Watson next year, to have Tyrod Taylor and have these guys, I could say they win 5-6 games. Maybe I'll say 5. I'll say 5.
Because they won 4 games this season, correct?
With Deshaun Watson.
With Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
You think they win 5?
So you're saying without Deshaun Watson,
Without JJ,
they would
without all
win a
that.
game more. Without McKinley too.
Yeah, with Deshaun Watson, this is a playoff team.
Without Deshaun Watson.
With Deshaun Watson.
Oh, with
this is a playoff
Deshaun
team.
Watson.
What the?
The thing is,
I'm telling you.
who is he throwing to? He just lost Will Fuller.
Brandon
he has
Cooks.
no DeAndre. Is Brandon Cooks a wide receiver 1 by himself?
No, he's not.
That's my point.
Hold
And
on.
Randall Cobb is washed at this
Do
point
they
in
have
his
a running
career.
back?
He's not washed, but he's
At this
not
point
that
in his
good.
career, he's not Randall Cobb who he was on the Packers.
Who's their running back?
Ingram
David
and
Johnson,
David
Marquis.
Johnson. David Johnson had a bounce back year last year.
He definitely played well. I wouldn't say he's back to being DJ, but he definitely played well, and I was surprised at it. Kiki Cutie is solid for playing with Deshaun Watson, but if Tyrod Taylor's going to come in and be his QB, I'm not optimistic about that at all. Personally, I like Brandon Cooks. I don't like Randall Cobb. I like Kiki Cutie if Deshaun Watson's his QB.
That was an extreme hot take you just said.
No, I'm just
That's
saying.
hot,
Yeah,
bro.
that's
That's
hot.
hot.
Deshaun Watson, 4 wins with the horrible roster. Now,
But
gets
he had JJ
Okay, but-
and he had McKinley.
This
Okay.
roster is that much better than last year's roster, you think?
And you're saying Kirk's?
Yes.
I don't know, man.
But
I
hold
like
on,
the
hold on.
secondary. You're
getting
right.
Marcus Cannon, a starting tackle.
Mhm.
Getting Justin Britt, a starting center.
Mm-hmm. Their-
Offensive line is pretty much fixed.
Their O-line's solid. I agree.
They just need a guard.
Listen, I gave them a B+. The only thing is, if they lose Deshaun, I don't know how you recover from that. You just lost a top 2 quarterback
Wait, hold
in the
up.
league.
If they lose Deshaun and trade, they can recover.
Depends on what
if
they get back.
if they trade with the Jets and the Texans draft Zach Wilson,
Okay, they recover.
they recover.
They recover.
Yes.
They
recover.
100%.
So that's what I'm saying.
That being said, do you think the Jets go out and make that move?
Should.
I think it's something that they're going to think about.
I think there are other teams more desperate right now. And as desperate as the Jets are, I think Carolina is more
I get
desperate
it.
than they are.
I get that they are desperate, but I think Houston's probably looking at this through the aspect of, if we're going to trade with the team, we want to get a quarterback to fill that void already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're going to get the second best quarterback in the draft, who some people think is the best,
Mm-hmm.
and they would trade with the Jets.
That's fair enough.
So that's what I'm saying. This roster is, it's still a bad roster, but from where they were a year ago and their talent last year, this is a huge upgrade.
I still think without Deshaun Watson, I don't know if 5 wins is real.
I think with their, what every Texans fan was expecting for their offseason,
Mm-hmm.
I think this was a win. I think this
Okay.
was even more than a win.
I think they needed a receiver for you to give it an A+.
So what was your grade?
I gave him a B. B+,
Yeah.
max.
B max for me.
Listen, I was teetering more B-. You gave me some valid points. And listen, the secondary is definitely looking good. And I already took into account the O-line. The O-line's definitely looking really good going into this next season. That being said, if you lose Deshaun, there's no way you win more games than when you had Deshaun.
If you have better talent, yes.
Not
Yes.
no, not when your QB's Deshaun.
I
man.
guarantee you, if Deshaun's not there, they win 4 games next season.
So wait, if
Guaranteed.
Deshaun's there, they make the playoffs, and if Deshaun's not
Yes.
there, they win 4 games.
If
That's a
Deshaun
big
is there,
jump.
they make the playoffs.
That's a big jump, man.
I'm telling you.
But the thing is, I can see them winning more than 4 games if they trade to the Jets and the Jets only. Because the Jets right now, they're locked in Zach Wilson. So let's say they trade Miami, right? They get that third
I don't
pick.
think Tyrod Taylor's bad, bro. I don't.
Oh, here we go.
He has looked very shaky. Listen, on the Browns, he got benched. Not saying that it was inevitable. It was inevitable.
Big was number one pick.
It was
A lot of
inevitable.
pressure behind that.
That being said, did he play well on the Browns, in your opinion?
Don't lie.
They had chances to win. They would have beat the Saints if the kicker didn't miss.
I'm pretty sure Tyrod Taylor got benched against the Jets.
Oh, yeah, he did play bad against the Jets, but I'm saying the Browns in Tyrod Taylor's starts could have won at least half of them.
I agree. Against
Yeah.
this, it was they started 0-3 to start or I think it was something like that.
Yes.
So they lost to the Saints. They choked that game. Then I think they played.
No, I'm just saying, though, like, Tyrod Taylor, I think, is capable, right? On the
And then
Chargers.
on the Chargers, dude, he was bad.
No, he wasn't. He got hurt. The doctor injured
That's true.
him.
You're 100% right. I apologize.
So
I apologize.
So he didn't, like, you know what I'm saying? I think Tyrod Taylor has something to prove.
Okay.
I'm not saying he's going to be phenomenal, but I'm saying he will hold them afloat for a little bit, man. For a little bit.
I can't agree personally, but I understand where you're coming from.
Next season, next team we're going to talk about, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They signed Roy Robertson-Harris,
Nice.
Tyson Alualu, Jamal Agnew, Philip Dorsett, Rayshawn Jenkins, Carlos Hyde. They re-signed Sidney Jones. They signed Chris Manhertz. They signed Shaquille Griffin, Marvin Jones, and Malcolm Brown.
You want me to start?
Malcolm Butler?
No, Malcolm Brown.
Who's a
From the Saints.
defensive tackle,
Yep.
yeah.
Oh.
Oh wow, there's 2 Malcolm Browns. The one that went to the Dolphins was a running back.
Yep. You want me to start?
Yeah, you can start.
Listen, I gave him an A+. I mean, for being the worst team in the league last season, for all these moves that they made, they went with a bunch of needs. That they tried to go fill a bunch of holes that they had in their squad. They have DJ Chark. They lose Keelan Cole, which hurts. So what do? They go bring in a Marvin Jones, who's definitely a good vet to have in the locker room. Philip Dorsett, a good burner to have. They go and they franchise tag Cam Robinson, which I really like, and they sign guard Tyler Shatley. They're trying to get Trevor Lawrence into a situation where year one he can be successful. And with these moves, I mean, as long as DJ Chark stays, I mean, you're giving him a true wide receiver 1 where he can actually be special with. You have a guy like James Robinson in the backfield who's definitely listen, I'm all in on James Robinson being a superstar in this league. And you bring in a guy like Trevor Lawrence that's just going to open up the field for him even more. I mean, then you look on the defensive side of it. You bring in Dwayne Smoot on a 2-year, $14 million. You can't complain. Tyson Alualu, like we've been talking about, that was a solid pickup. Malcolm Brown from the Saints, that's a solid pickup. Rayshawn Jenkins was the contract. I mean, I don't dislike it. I don't love it, but 4 years, $35 million. That's not bad, especially for a defense that was once, I mean, on paper, one of the best defenses ever put together a few years ago. Now, I mean, they had to try and do something. I mean, last year they were horrible defensively. Now they're actually putting together a respectable defense. I think they had an amazing offseason.
The Jaguars' offseason was an A+.
Amen.
No doubt about it.
100%.
Let's just talk about what they needed going into free agency. They needed a wide receiver. They needed a safety. They needed a cornerback. And they needed a defensive tackle. They checked off all of those boxes this offseason.
Yes, sir.
They got Marvin Jones, a proven receiver. Next to DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, that's something. With James Robinson out the backfield, that's something Trevor Lawrence is going to be really happy. Their offensive line is already pretty good.
I agree.
Right? So then on defense, Rayshawn Jenkins, a hard hitter, man. I mean, on the Chargers, he was really good. He's now going to Jacksonville, and he's going to be really good for them. Then C.J. Henderson last year, a rookie, played really well.
Yep.
But outside of him, they didn't really have another good corner. Now they get Shaq Griffin, a little bit of an overpay.
Didn't even mention him.
But still, he's a good cornerback in the NFL. And if C.J. Henderson develops like we think he will, and he's their best corner and Shaq Griffin is their second best corner, I think that's a pretty good cornerback duo. Bringing in Tyson Alualu, who's one of the better defensive tackles in the NFL, who started his career with Jacksonville, and bringing in Roy Robertson-Harris, who's really underrated at defensive tackle as well. They filled all of their positions. I think their worst signing was signing Chris Manhertz. Chris Manhertz, the tight end.
Yep.
They need a tight end. They traded Josh Oliver, and Chris Manhertz has not been a good productive tight end to this point. So I think the only position they still need to check off is tight end.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, I mean, they had a great offseason.
For sure.
No, you guys Stole everything there is to say.
Yeah,
I
for
should,
real.
but yeah, I give him an A too. I just feel like they filled all the whole what?
Said you better.
I just feel like they filled all the holes they needed to fill. I really fell in love with the Shaquille Griffin hire. I think with C.J. Henderson on the right side or left side, Shaquille on the other side is going to be great for them. And then obviously when they pick Trevor Lawrence in the draft, it's going to be a phenomenal thing. He's walking into a setting with receivers, good receivers, combo receivers, so he's going to be good. My question to you guys, though. No, damn, never mind. I forgot my question. But yeah, I give him
Solid.
I give him
Solid question.
I legit forgot my question.
all right.
It's here,
Happens.
and then it's not there.
Happens.
Damn.
Oh yeah. So
Damn,
I
I
guess
just forgot my
he
question.
Riv forgot his question, but I mean, I think we can all agree this was a great offseason for the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence is going to be in a really good position.
Definitely.
A really good position. If they can just get a tight end, I think I would feel much better. But I mean, their defense with Josh Allen, Kalavion Chason, Tyson Alualu, Roy Robertson Harris, Joe Schobert
Yep,
is on the defense too. C.J.
Miles
Henderson, Shaq Griffin, Miles Jack,
Josh Allen.
Rayshawn Jenkins.
They got some dogs.
That defense
They
is
got
going
some
to
dogs.
be much improved, and that offense is going to be much improved. I mean,
better
the
than
Jaguars might go from worst to first in the AFC South.
First of all,
I think the Colts will be better. Maybe.
Okay, I was gonna say if there's a team
But
that I
they're better
see,
than I think they're gonna be better than the Titans and Texans next year.
I think for sure I can agree the Texans.
You standing on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Number
okay.
one or
No, he's talking about better
No,
than the
they'll
Titans.
be better than the Titans and Texans next year.
Colts are number one.
I can't fall off on the Titans yet
I am.
because people were falling off last year and
I
they
was.
shouldn't have.
I mean, I picked them to be second, and the Colts almost should have. They should have.
Colts are nasty, especially with Wentz. Personally, I'm taking Colts to win the division. I think Jacksonville's 2 years away. They're 2 years away from
I think they're one.
like they could be next year.
Yes, at most. Yep.
I'm more optimistic on 2 years than I am on one. I agree that they're definitely going to be a lot better next year. That being said, if I had to put a bet on it, I would take Colts, Titans, Jaguars this next season. They're 2 seasons away.
I would say because like you could say two, but like the Colts are gonna be in the way because they still have a lot of cap.
They're
too.
savages.
So it's like it's gonna be. I feel like those
But
two are gonna
they
be.
can't really do much with that because they have to re-sign their players.
I agree.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I agree. But listen, you get Carson Wentz, who he talk about to prove it. Come on, like he's about to come crazy this year, especially with Frank Reich. I expect Carson Wentz to be comeback player of the year type deal like this season.
We'll see.
I'm a Colts fan.
We'll
See,
see.
I can respect that,
Yeah,
but it's not on this side.
That's my
I can't.
vibe.
We
can't mess
just
with the
finished
Colts.
talking about every single team in the
We
AFC.
have a whole division, the whole conference.
Now
left.
we are going to talk about the NFC, and to save some time, we are not going to go in depth in every move. And I think, thankfully, a lot of teams in the NFC didn't do nothing, like the Philadelphia Eagles. So we'll talk about the NFC East first.
You've never seen your
The
team
first
win a chip.
team,
Ooh,
the Washington football
ridiculous.
team. The Washington football team, I think, have had a very good offseason.
100%.
They brought in Ryan Fitzpatrick, which was their first move, 1 year, $10 million deal. They brought in William Jackson. They lost Ronald Darby, so they had to bring in a corner. They brought in Curtis Samuel, who, I mean, I think everybody was mocking Curtis Samuel to go to the Washington football team.
Yeah.
So I think that was a really good move. Then they also re-signed Lamar Miller and David Sharp, an offensive lineman. I'm going to give their offseason an A because I think they had one job, right? Bring in a wide receiver. And the football team brought in that wide receiver in Curtis Samuel. He could line up as running back. He could line up as a receiver in the slot or outside. He was Terry McLaurin's teammate at Ohio State. They actually shared a dorm, so they're really close friends. And now the football team has an offense of Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Antonio Gibson, Logan Thomas, and J.D. McKissick, who I think played really well last season.
For sure.
And they did lose Alex Smith, who I think he made Washington be a relevant team. He got wins for them. But I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is an upgrade, at least right now, because Fitzpatrick, not only can he be conservative, but he's going to sling the ball down the field. He's always been a gunslinger, and with Terry McLaurin, he's going to give Terry McLaurin a lot of shots.
Need that for
Definitely.
him.
So
Definitely.
I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to bring a spark to the Washington football team. And Ron Rivera on Colin Cowherd's podcast said that he wants a quarterback who is tough, who brings a spark, who brings a swagger, who motivates the team. And Fitzpatrick fills all those boxes.
Yeah, for sure.
We've seen what he did with Miami. I mean, they didn't even want Tua to play because they love Fitzpatrick so much. I mean, you saw one of his press conferences where he had a chain. He had the Sean Jackson chain. I mean, Fitzpatrick brings a swagger.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to really bring Fitzmagic to the Capitol in Washington, the football team. I think they made some great signings.
I'll give it a B grade. And the reason why I give it a B grade is
because you're an Eagles fan.
No. I just said they were going to win the division like 20 minutes ago. I give it. I like William Jackson. I like that secondary. I think Cameron Crowe, he's really good.
Okay.
I like Kendall Fuller. He's good. I think William Jackson's going to fill that hole for them. I think Curtis Samuel was a good move for them, out there with Terry McLaurin. And their running back, Antonio Gibson, he's really good. So shout out to him. The only reason why I have a B and you have an A is because I'm not as high on Ryan Fitzpatrick as you are. That's why I have it as a B. I still think they need a quarterback. I don't think Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to come in there. I think Alex Smith is better. Me personally, I think
no.
I can't agree either.
I think Alex Smith is better for them. I don't think Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to play that well, but I obviously could be wrong. But I'm not as too high on the Ryan Fitzpatrick signing as everybody else.
So the only reason I didn't give him an A+ was because of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Mm-hmm. I gave him an A. The only reason I like Ryan Fitzpatrick signing. The only thing I don't like about it is that now it handcuffs them. So let's say if they wanted to go out and get a Sam Darnold, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hell no.
Let's say if they were to,
No.
right? I wouldn't hate that because that offensive line is solid.
No, it's good.
And
I'm just not a believer in Sam.
Fair enough. As a Jets fan, I understand that. That being said, you get him out of that scenery. You bring him to a lower key market. You give him an offense that's explosive. You give him weapons that he really doesn't have to rely on himself to really be that 100% guy to carry the offense.
I agree.
You give him Terry. You give him Curtis Samuel, Antonio Gibson, and McKissick to check down to out of the backfield.
And O-line.
That being said, now you bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick. If let's say they were to trade for Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold has one bad game, they're going to be calling for Ryan Fitzpatrick, no doubt. Or let's say they have Ryan Fitzpatrick and they have Sam Darnold, and they want Sam Darnold to learn from Ryan Fitzpatrick a little bit, which I doubt would happen. That being said, Ryan Fitzpatrick, let's say they pull him for whatever reason, like they did with Tua. He's going to be he's going to be unhappy again. He's going to be same thing, like, oh, it hurt me, which rightfully so. I agree. What they did to him was wrong in Miami. But to also contradict of what I'm saying, last season they missed that risk taker in a QB where I liked Alex Smith. I can't agree that Alex Smith is better than Ryan Fitzpatrick right now in their careers.
I think he was better for this team.
The only thing I'll say is that Alex Smith was too much of a game manager. They needed someone to really risk the biscuit sometimes.
I get what he's saying, what River Brown Sr. is saying, because I can see why you like Alex Smith, because when you have an elite defense, you just need a quarterback to not cost you the game.
For sure.
There are some
Kind
times
of like with Jimmy G for the 49ers.
There are some
but he really didn't
times
close games.
There are some times where Ryan Fitzpatrick will cost you the game because he is a gunslinger quarterback.
Bugging.
So that's the only downside of this signing. But they brought in William Jackson too, pairing up with Kendall Fuller. You got Landon Collins coming back, Cameron Curl, Montez Sweat, Chase Young, Matthew Ioannidis, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen.
Oh, this team's nasty.
I mean, they just need to fill that linebacker hole.
So nice.
This team, the draft.
I mean, I'm really high on the Washington football team.
Me too.
The football team has made some really good moves. I think their offseason has been an A. And I just like the swag that Fitzpatrick brings to the Washington football team. I mean, listen, the Jets, back when Fitzpatrick signed with the Jets in 2015, I believe, he was not supposed to be the starter. It was supposed to be Geno Smith.
Mm-hmm.
But Geno Smith got punched in the face. So Fitzpatrick started. And he had the most historic season of any Jets QB in history, statistically.
Yep.
So there is potential for Fitzpatrick to really have a great year with Washington, given the weapons, given the offensive line. I think this would be a good team next season.
I agree. Listen, I'm taking them to win the division next season.
Me too.
I think Fitzpatrick's going to have a good year. I just think that if this team had a franchise quarterback, they would be Super Bowl contenders.
No doubt.
I don't think they're Super Bowl contenders personally with Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think listen, I'm a little bit more of a believer in Sam Darnold than you guys are. But if Sam Darnold was in that offense, man, he would be nasty.
I advocated for Sam Darnold in Washington.
That's facts. That's facts.
I think Minshew would be better.
Garner.
Yes.
What about Mitch Trubisky?
Garner, that's a good one. I ain't gonna lie.
What about Mitch Trubisky?
No.
I agree. I think I would take Ryan Fitzpatrick personally, just because if I were to sign Mitch Trubisky, I could have just brought back Alex Smith or something like that. The only thing is Mitch Trubisky's more mobile.
This team has a lot of potential. I think with a franchise quarterback, this could definitely be a Super Bowl contender team.
Like
they just got to find their guy. And I think right now they're just teetering on good to great, and they're slowly taking that step. But if they can get that franchise quarterback, they're gonna be good.
They might be a little bit too high to trade up because it's definitely going to cost them an arm and a leg if they want to. But if they were to trade up for Justin Fields, this team would be unbelievable.
What's their pick?
20-something, I'm guessing.
19th
19?
or 18th.
You think Lance falls there and they just work on a project?
Lance could fall there.
Really?
Lance could fall there.
And then you get him.
That'd be crazy.
You get him in the.
That'd be
you
crazy.
start Ryan Fitzpatrick and you just have him.
See, that's the thing, though. That situation, I'm more comfortable letting Fitzpatrick play the whole season. Tua, me personally, if you ask me, I would have liked to see Tua sit the whole season last year. I think they rushed him, and you saw that he looked injury prone. So that's why when they decided let's bring in Tua, that was the wrong decision for me. But this situation, I would 100% agree. You sit Trey Lance the entire.
Trey Lance or Fields.
If Mahomes can sit a full season, why couldn't have Tua? And 100% Lance would sit a full season. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah, I agree. The next team we're going to talk about are the Dallas Cowboys.
Cowgirls.
The biggest move they've made is signing Dak Prescott to a 4-year, $160 million deal. But in free agency, they just re-signed Jordan Lewis, and they signed Brent Urban, a defensive end, and they signed a tackle in Ty Nsekhe on a 1-year deal. I mean, I thought they were going to make bigger moves.
Me too.
But they have made nothing so far, which is kind of disappointing. I mean, their offseason for me, I think just because they signed Dak is a D+.
Okay, fair enough.
But they haven't done anything to make me say, wow, they got this guy, they got that guy. Nah, this has been a disappointing offseason for them. And, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't win a division next year, even with Dak back, because that defense might still be bad again.
Yeah. The defense is, I think Dak and that offense is going to be good. They're going to be top 5 in the league, top 10 in the league. The defense is bad, but even then, in a division like this where Washington, you don't know, like Ryan Fitzpatrick, you don't know what you're going to get every week. He can give you that great performance. He can give you that sluggish performance. So with that being said, I think Dallas can still fight for the division, but like Joel said, they didn't make any grand big moves for me to put them any higher than a C-, D+. I think just getting Dak back, finally paying him his money was a good thing, finally establishing that he's their franchise quarterback. So that's why I will have him at a C. But other than that, they haven't done anything to really build that defense. The offense is there, but that defense is just not what it needs to be for them to be a Super Bowl team.
A lot of my grade was carried by the Dak re-signing. I gave them a C flat just because you bring back a surefire guy in Dak Prescott, who I believe in firmly. I think he's a guy. He played extremely well in the first few games of the season last year before he broke his ankle terribly. One thing I'm crazy surprised at is that defense was so bad last season, like one of the worst defenses I've ever seen secondary wise, and they made no push to make a cornerback signing. Granted, there are a bunch of cornerbacks still available. You got Sherman out there, you got Casey Hayward out there, you got Kyle Fuller now who's out there, who I definitely expect them to make a push at one of those guys at least. If they don't make a push at this is an F.
I hope it's Sherman.
If they listen, and we were talking about that a little bit too, how he would definitely fit that scheme pretty perfectly. The only thing that worries me with Sherman is that he's getting up there in age, but if he's going to have to play his zone, which he's done basically his entire career, he's not going to have to do too much. So I do like that fit. However, if you bring in a Casey Hayward, even though he might cost you a little bit too much than you're trying to spend, if you bring in a Kyle Fuller, same thing, you're trying to spend a little bit too much. Those guys would make you tremendously better than you already are right now. But right now, I'm going to sit firm at a C just because you bring back Dak and you lock him in for 4 more years at least. And I saw they re-signed 2 of their corners. What good did that do them last season? I think it was C.J. Goodwin, and they brought back Jordan Lewis, which for 3 years, I think it was 16.5. I don't hate that signing, but regardless, C is being very generous.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much to talk about because they made no moves.
Yeah,
so
no, they've been
just
bad.
Move on.
Let's do it.
So the New York Giants, they re-signed Leonard Williams to a massive contract. He is now getting $20 million a year. They signed Devontae Booker, a running back, to a 2-year, $6 million deal. They signed John Ross to a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. They signed Mike Lennon to be a backup quarterback. And they also signed Kyle Rudolph to a 2-year, $14 million deal. I think their offseason was a C to me. Leonard Williams, if it wasn't for the Kyle Rudolph signing, which I think was pretty good value, it probably would have been a D. because I think they overpaid for Leonard Williams. I would have let him
agree.
walk. I would have let him walk. I would have let him look at what's out there because no team was going to pay him that much. I'm certain of it. So for the Giants to pay him that much was pretty ridiculous.
Okay.
You know, he cashed out and he took advantage of a desperate team.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So right now I would say their offseason is a C. But if they do in fact get Kenny Golladay, I think that pushes it to a B+.
I agree.
You know,
I think shout out to Leonard Williams for cashing out and getting his bread. Of
For
course,
real.
I always
Shout
want
out.
these guys to get their bread. So shout out. The Giants fell for the trap because there's some rat eaters, cheese, and Leonard Williams got his contract. But yeah, I agree with you. I think I give him a C+. I think if they get Kenny Golladay, this would really unlock this offense and definitely pull my grade up to a B. I think everything is just going to come down to Daniel Jones and how he plays, and if he can make that third-year leap. He's in his third year, right? This would be his third.
I think he's going into
His third, Daniel
Third
Jones.
year,
third
Yeah,
year.
so this would be this is the year where you start to see if this is really our quarterback. So this would be his third-year leap. So I think Kenny Golladay will really help him establish where he's going to be at this point in his career. But yeah, like I'll give him a C+ grade. I think that signing was just Leonard Williams cashing out, and everything else was just a cool move.
So I figured the Leonard Williams deal, like him coming back, that was obvious. I felt like we knew that was going to happen. It was inevitable. $21 million a season is steep as could be for a 1-year player who shined for 1 year. Excuse me. Before that, when he was on the Jets, he was mediocre at best, in my opinion, at least. $21 million is pretty egregious.
he was a good run stuffer.
He-
But you pay $20 million to a sack guy.
Yeah, for
to
sure,
a pass
for
rusher,
sure.
not a run stuffer.
But he was huge for them last season. I'm pretty sure he was their leading sack getter.
He was.
He was very impressive last year. I got to give him his props there. I will also say the Devontae Booker move I didn't dislike too much because you got a guy like Wayne Gallman who's probably going to be wanting a little bit more money than the Giants are willing to give away, especially because you got a guy like Saquon who that's the guy you're going to give your money to. So you pay lesser dollar for Devontae Booker. I don't hate that. John Ross getting brought into the squad. That's interesting. Now they lose Golden Tate. They get John Ross. The only thing that worries me about John Ross, obviously, is his health concerns. That being said, this guy, when he's on the field and he's actually healthy, he's a burner. And if you bring in a guy like Kenny Golladay, or if they draft someone like a Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, if they happen to get so lucky to get him, this offense is completely revamped. You'd have Kyle Rudolph, Evan Ingram. You'd have Kenny Golladay, Jalen Waddle, John Ross, Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard. That's a pretty firm class.
Yep.
And since they traded ODB, what have they been missing? A true number one receiver. Sterling Shepard has not panned out, not nearly what Giants fans thought he would be.
This is the thing. If the Giants have an offense of, like you said, Kenny Golladay, Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, Kyle Rudolph, Evan Ingram, Saquon Barkley, it's really hard to justify if Daniel Jones fails in that offense.
I completely agree.
100%.
I don't think he will. I think if he has that offense, he's going to play really well. You pair that offense up with their defense, they were great last season.
Definitely.
I mean, I think this is a playoff team. At least
It's
they
definitely
should be
possible.
in the running for a playoff team. Last year, they were in the running for a playoff team. So, I think that would really take them over the top. But as it stands right now, their offseason has kind of been meh.
Mhm.
It's been okay. Like
gave him a
Kyle
B
Rudolph
minus.
was okay. Mike Lennon, if Daniel Jones plays really horrible, he can be the backup. I think that's an upgrade over Colt McCoy.
Really? I
Mike
mean,
Lennon,
Mike Lennon
yes.
on the Bears excuse me, not the Bears. Was it the Raiders? I'm pretty sure.
He was on the Jags last season.
So he was on the Jags last season, but I'm pretty sure when he was on Hard Knocks, he was with the Raiders. So that's the last I saw of him. No. Well, that was a few years ago. That's when he got the starting job, and they gave him all that money for whatever reason.
Sucks.
He played
Yeah,
for
no,
the
he was-
Bears.
he was
That was
bad.
when he was on the Bears, I think. Yeah, he never played for Oakland. He played on the Bears. Yeah.
Hard Knocks.
Are you sure? I'm
Yes.
pretty sure.
What year was Hard Knocks?
That's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure.
No, he played for Tampa, Chicago, Arizona. Oh, yeah, Oakland. Well,
Okay,
yeah.
that's good. I thought so.
He didn't play one game, though.
Agreed. No, he's bad. Like, he was horrible in training camp. But he's been bad for a few years now, is what I'm saying.
Oh,
Colt McCoy at least was serviceable. On Washington, he got them a few wins. I say serviceable very kindly. But, I mean, I agree Daniel Jones is leaps and bounds better than these guys. But I think Colt McCoy and Mike Lennon, it's choosing like apples to
Yeah.
oranges.
So I'll see. We'll wait and see if they do sign Golladay. But right now, my grade stands firm at a C.
See?
C+.
All right. I'm going to stay
And
B minus.
the next team, the Philadelphia Eagles, they have made nothing, so we're just going to skip them.
Fair enough.
Now we're gonna talk about the NFC West. The Eagles really have made nothing.
Well,
they have made no moves.
We cut Alshon.
You want us to talk about the Zach Ertz potential trade?
No, I don't. I'm just glad we cut the guys we needed to cut. That's all.
And that Carson Wentz trade wasn't even that good.
No, I didn't do it.
Yeah. We're just gonna skip past the Eagles. Thank God we don't have a great Eagles fan base. A lot of Eagles fans don't watch this, so it doesn't matter.
I barely watch this.
The NFC West. The first thing we're going to talk about are the Seattle Seahawks. So they lost Shaq Griffin, but they signed Ahkello Witherspoon to a 1-year, $4 million deal. They signed Gerald Everett to a 1-year, $6 million deal. They re-signed their fullback, Nick Bellore. And they traded for Gabe Jackson, who's a really good guard. I mean, based on the moves that Seattle can and can't make, I think this was a B offseason.
Okay.
Losing Shaq Griffin was huge. But
Surprising.
Ahkello Witherspoon is a good cornerback, so I think that was a good pickup. And Gabe Jackson, pairing him up with Damian Lewis, at the guard spots. I mean, I think they're gonna have they're gonna be solidified on the interior of the offensive line. The tackle spot is gonna be tricky, but I mean, getting Gabe Jackson was a really good move. But the move I like the best is getting Gerald Everett. I think Gerald Everett has immense upside.
Mm-hmm.
He was very underutilized in Los Angeles because Tyler Higbee was the number one option at tight end. But Gerald Everett getting more opportunities with Seattle, with Russell Wilson, I think he can be a guy that we're talking about saying, how did he only sign for 1 year? This guy is really good. So, I mean, I really like this move by them.
B. Wait, what'd you give him?
I give them a B.
Oh, yeah. I gave him a B because Gabe Jackson. It was really just the Gabe
For
Jackson
real.
that really carried me on this one because the offensive line and Russell Wilson has been talking about how the situation they have at the offensive line hasn't been that good, and he's been having to run away and getting all these sacks. So, I think the Gabe Jackson trade definitely carried me on this one. I didn't watch a lot of Gerald Everett like you did, so I don't know too much about him. I mean, 1 year, $6 million, so low risk, high reward type of thing. He could be good, he could not be. Ahkello Witherspoon, another low risk, high reward thing. He could be, but losing Shaquille Griffin was kind of, it was kind of a bad thing. But I think this defense is good. It's gonna be good. I think getting Gabe Jackson was just a big thing for them, though, filling that offensive line need that they needed to do. So I give them a B.
So I know that they have a lot of money that they have to spend on defense because they're going to have to pay Jamal. They just traded 2 firsts, so I'm assuming that they're going to have to pay Jamal. They're going to have to pay Bobby Wagner, assuming that he stays there. They're going to Russ's contract's coming up.
Who?
Russ.
Jackson?
No, Russ.
Russ is going to be there for a while.
Okay.
His contract is good.
So I give him a C+. The only reason is that I feel like they didn't have enough money to go get an offensive line like Russ has been asking for. Bring in a guy like if they would have tried to splash a cash get into Joe Tooney, that would have been huge for Russ. I don't know why he would have considered leaving after that, especially if you look at their draft position in this deep O-line class. They definitely could have drafted a piece there too. Getting Gabe Jackson is pretty big, though, especially for that price. I'm pretty sure what was it, a fifth rounder?
Fifth round pick.
That's
Raiders are dumb.
Yeah, no, the Raiders are.
Damian Lewis, Gabe Jackson, Dwayne Brown, and the only bad side about the offensive line is center and right tackle with Brandon Shell.
Corey Linsley would have been huge for this team.
Yeah,
that would have been a huge
100%.
signing. I don't like the trade off with Witherspoon and Shaq Griffin. I like Witherspoon, but I feel like if you're gonna bring in Witherspoon, you got to keep Shaq. And they tried to play hardball too much with him that he was tired of them, and he went and he left and he got his bread somewhere else. And I can't blame him too much. That being said, I feel like a C+ is more than fair. I like the Gerald Everett signing for sure, especially with Will Disley being their tight end for the last few years and him being injury prone. Gerald Everett's definitely an upgrade there. I just feel like for what Russ needed and for the fact that he's been the most sacked QB over the last few seasons, I feel like they needed to address O-line more than they did. So I'm going to stay firm C+.
Also, they lost Shaq Griffin, but I think a guy who's going to have a really good year is DJ Reed Jr.
Okay.
He was good for them last season in the second half of the year. And I think Ahkello Witherspoon, that could be an okay secondary. Jamal Adams, Quadre Diggs. I think Jamal Adams, people love to knock him for his coverage skills, but that was more of the scheme last season in the first half. Jamal Adams is not a bad cover corner. With the Jets, he wasn't that. With the Seahawks in the second half, he wasn't that either. So I think, of course, they need to address the defensive line. They cut Carlos Dunlap. So now they don't have a edge rusher. So they're going to have to address that, but I think offensive line is very important. Maybe they go tackle in the draft, but like I said earlier, I just think them getting Gerald Everett was the gem of this offseason. Bless you.
Thank you.
Was the gem of this offseason. He had about 500 yards receiving last year with the Rams.
And a loaded offense, too.
Yes, a loaded offense and him not even getting much touches. Imagine here with the Seahawks. I mean, he's going to really have a great season with them. I can't wait to watch him.
I agree. I definitely agree there.
The next team we're going to talk about are the Los Angeles Rams. So they have just made one move in the free agency period.
The big trade.
Yes, they got Matthew Stafford, but their one move was re-signing Leonard Floyd to a 4-year, $64 million
John
deal.
Johnson.
They also lost John Johnson, Troy Hill.
Troy Hill as well.
They lost Ebukam as well.
Excuse
me. Did they re-sign Darius Williams?
Yeah, they are going to bring him back.
Okay.
Losing Gerald. Go ahead, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, so, I mean, they have lost some pieces, but all around, I think them getting Matthew Stafford was like the big headliner of this offseason.
For sure.
And because of that, I mean, they just brought back Leonard Floyd, which I think was huge because they needed to bring him back. But outside of that, I mean, losing Troy Hill, losing John Johnson, losing Gerald Everett, losing Samson Ebukam, yeah, those are rough.
Okay.
Especially losing Ebukam to the 49ers and Everett to the Seahawks, both division rivals.
For
John
sure.
Johnson
that
went,
hurts.
You know,
yeah,
elsewhere.
He went out there.
Troy Hill went elsewhere too. So
I think, all in all, just talking about the trade with upgrading from Jared Goff to Matthew Stafford, re-signing Leonard Floyd, but losing a couple key pieces to that team. But you still have Aaron Donald, you still have Jalen Ramsey, you still have Robert Woods, you still have Cooper Kupp. I would give them a B-. I think, just the re-signing and then getting Matthew Stafford is what's keeping them together. I think upgrading at that quarterback, a big of an upgrade as that was, I think that's huge for them. Also, pairing him with Sean McVay, I think is going to be an excellent thing to do. Mm-hmm. So I think I'll give them B flat. I'm gonna give them B flat.
I'll give them a C+ because they brought in Stafford. Actually, no, I'll give them a B because they brought in Stafford and re-signed Leonard Floyd. And I think Matthew Stafford was really the gem of this offseason. Yeah. I'll give them a B.
I was gonna say Matty Staffy makes them Super Bowl contenders. They were one game away from the NFC Championship game.
Better than the Bucs.
They're Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah, you could be a contender, not be better than the Bucs.
I don't think that they're better than the Bucs right now.
The Cardinals?
Yes.
I think so.
Defensively and defensively, they're not the Rams.
J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones?
I agree, but Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, they just lost Pat Pete also. We're going to talk about the Cardinals regardless, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it.
Their secondary, I mean, they did just lose John Johnson and Troy Hill.
Who's that?
Carl Lawson.
Oh.
It's close. I mean,
I'm just saying the Cardinals don't sleep on them.
Listen, I'm not sleeping. I'm definitely not sleeping on the Cardinals. I like them a lot.
We'll talk about them next. Actually, next.
Listen, I gave the Rams an A- just because of this Matty Staffy trade. They bring back Leonard Floyd. I like that signing too. Cleans up in the middle. He's definitely good in coverage too. I just feel like Matty Staffy just puts them over the edge. You get a definite upgrade from Jared Goff to Matty Staffy, who, one, not afraid to throw the ball in tight windows. Two, fearless. He will stay in there through thick and thin. It doesn't matter if he has a back injury, thumb injury. You can guarantee he will be there on Sunday.
He's better than Kyler.
I think he is. I think he's a better pocket passer than Kyler.
I think Matty Staffy is the most underrated quarterback, arguably in NFL history. I think he is better.
I love Stafford.
Yeah, where was you going with
I think he's better than Kyler.
No, I disagree with you. I'm just saying, in a division, you got Russ, who's the best.
Agreed.
Second best, it's really a toss-up between Stafford and Kyler.
I agree.
So, and similar rosters, too. I mean, they got Buda Baker, too.
Isaiah Simmons
just Buda Baker. And who are you?
Just Buda Baker.
But who?
Byron Murphy Jr. They got Robert Alford. He's coming back, too.
I saw that, too. Fair enough.
So, I mean,
but Jalen Ramsey is just leaps and bounds better than every single guy you just listed. Excuse me.
Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd, I think, is even with J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones is an elite, and so is J.J. Watt.
I agree that they're elite. Aaron Donald is arguably the best defensive player ever.
Aaron Donald in this decade has been the best defensive player.
Mm-hmm.
Who's second? J.J. Watt.
Agreed.
So, I mean, it's not
But
crazy.
J.J. Watt has not been the same for the last 3 years.
Last year,
minimum.
he was elite. He just didn't have the sack numbers, but he was elite.
I would say he was definitely above average, elite strong.
I would say that Chandler Jones.
Because if he was elite, they would have had more than 4 wins.
No.
I would say that Chandler Jones is above Leonard Floyd by a pretty big margin.
I agree.
And JJ is right under Aaron.
So we'll talk about the Cardinals now. So the Arizona Cardinals offseason.
Oh, boy.
They brought in Robert Alford. They re-signed him. They also signed Matt Prater, who I think is a sneaky good deal. They sign a proven kicker. I think that's good. They brought in AJ Green. I think that's a move
Huge
with
signing.
a lot of upside.
Mm-hmm.
Kelvin Beachum, who's going to fill that tackle spot. They re-signed Marcus Golden. Of course, they signed J.J. Watt, but they traded for Rodney Hudson. I mean, for me, this is an A. I would say this is the A+. They needed a wide receiver too. They got AJ Green. He hasn't been AJ Green, but I don't think he's had much motivation to play well in Cincinnati either. I think now playing for a contender, we're going to see an AJ Green that has 900 to 1,000 yards receiving. I think he's really going to do well. DeAndre Hopkins is still there. Christian Kirk can play the slot. You got a guy. I mean, Chase Edmonds can fill the role Kenyon Drake, left when he left, and signed with the Raiders. Kyler Murray is there. And even though the Cardinals, it looks like they don't have a good offensive line, they were second in pass protection last season. So they aren't a bad offensive line. Now getting Rodney Hudson is going to really solidify that offensive line. DJ Humphries is a good tackle. Kelvin Beachum is not bad. He's an average tackle. But getting Rodney Hudson, probably the second, if not a top 5 center in football, is going to jump them up. And then on defense, J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones. I think that's the best pass rushing duo in the NFL.
Better than JPP, Shaq Barrett?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we got to see.
And then Jordan Hicks, inside linebacker, Isaiah Simmons' second year. He has some experience. Maybe he's going to play better his second year.
Mm-hmm.
But we know he has all the potential in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Buda Baker, Byron Murphy, Robert Alford. I think this team is going to be really good. And when J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones aren't on the field, I mean, Marcus Golden comes in. He could get some sacks too. So, I mean, I think this team is really talented. If this was any other division, I think they're a bona fide number 1 seed in their division.
Mm-hmm.
But because it is the NFC West, they might finish 3rd or 4th.
No, I agree. Go ahead, man.
Or 2nd.
I give him an A. You got to give him an A. With the team that they already had, and then bringing in the guys they brought in. I mean, I'm an AJ Green fanboy, so this is going to sound really, really biased, but I think he can definitely get a 1K, especially playing next to – he never played with an elite receiver like DeAndre Hopkins.
Mm-hmm.
So I think playing next to him, he doesn't have to do too much. I think that's going to be good. Not to mention Christian Kirk. They said Larry might come back. They don't know yet, so that'd be great. Kyler Murray, like we said before, you don't need to have an elite offensive line with him. I think you could just have a good offensive line with him, and he's fast as hell too. So that's going to be good.
It's way faster than you.
Yeah, I know. Byron Murphy, Buda Baker. You guys didn't mention Isaiah Simmons. He's good. He's going to be good for
Isaiah
a long
Simmons
time.
Is a dog.
Chandler Jones.
Wait, hold on. I literally named Isaiah Simmons. You did not say a word.
You didn't say it.
I did say Isaiah Simmons.
I didn't hear you. That's why I said that.
I said Isaiah Simmons.
Bro?
Yes,
I
I
did.
said.
That's the only reason why I said it.
Listen, I apologize for not giving you
said
credit.
it. He's like,
I apologize for not giving you credit.
No, because I think we didn't hear you. That's why.
It's a fact.
Yeah, we didn't hear you.
Listen, credit to you then. My bad.
Yeah, bringing in JJ Watt, Robert Alford. I think this team losing Patrick Peterson, yeah, it's okay. But I think
That's
this
a bigger
team,
deal.
It is, but this team bringing in JJ Watt to fill that defense, I think this team is going to be really great, and it's really going to come down to Kyler Murray and Cliff Clisburn. Can they really unlock that offense and get better? But I think this defense really showed its prominence last year, and I think it's only going to get better. It's just the offense if this could take a step forward, and really Kyler, because he was an MVP candidate the first 4 or 5 weeks, and then just fell down the hill. So I think he has to keep that consistency. But I give it an A grade for this offseason.
I like the Rodney Hudson signing or
That's
the
probably
trade.
my second or if not favorite one.
The move you're saying?
Yeah, I think J.J. Watt probably takes
The cake.
but Rodney Hudson is up there.
No, I love that Rodney Hudson move, especially because I'm intrigued to see the pocket passer Kyler Murray this season. We saw a lot of scrambling Kyler, and of course he had that amazing Hail Mary touchdown to DeAndre Hopkins. But he wasn't as accurate as he was.
The GOAT.
Oh, D-Hop's he's probably number 1 right now, in my opinion, at least. That's bold, but
Top 2, no 2.
No doubt. Oh, fair. I mean, there's not much argument there. That being said, I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing Kyler take the next step passing-wise. We know he can scramble, but if you want him to be your franchise quarterback, you don't want him to be scrambling as much as he's already doing. I mean, obviously, that's a huge part of his game, and that definitely helps their offense. But I want to see him chill in the pocket, be able to make cool, calm throws. And what I like about that AJ deal is that he's not going to see a double team. This might be the first time in his career, other than the 3 games he played last year,
first time in his career
that he's not going to see a double team.
Yep.
And he's about to go crazy, especially, I'm assuming they're going to play opposite sides.
And he's not going to see a number 1 corner.
No way. Because DeAndre's going to take 2 over the top. He's going to take the number 1 corner. He's going to take 1 over the top. He could get triple team because he's DeAndre Hopkins, so it's really not out of the realm of possibility. AJ Green's about a feast in that, especially with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is probably the best young quarterback there is right now, other than Mahomes, of course.
Josh Allen.
I'm taking personally.
Don't you dare say it. Don't you dare come up here and say it.
Josh Allen it took 3 seasons for Josh Allen to be Josh Allen.
But it was great.
It took Kyler Murray 1 season to be Kyler Murray. In his rookie year, Kyler Murray was a dog. Second year, he comes back, was a dog.
Those two are really about what do you prefer better, a pocket passer or a runner?
But the thing is, he could do both.
But can he do the other one as good as Josh Allen?
But Josh Allen just became that.
But what
he
was
was
it
different.
though?
Agreed.
It was different.
Agreed.
And Josh can run too. He's not a Kyler Murray runner, but he's a runner.
Agreed. Fair enough. It's extremely close. I couldn't pick one personally.
I feel you. I like both.
I do like both a lot. That being said, Cardinals, I give them an A for this all season. It does hurt to lose Pat Pete, but like you mentioned, there's a bunch of other guys that they have in that roster that's going to fill in that spot pretty nicely. So I'm optimistic for the Cardinals. They definitely put themselves in a position to make a push at a championship potentially. But you're right, in that division, who knows what could happen? I mean, San Fran's definitely revamped. You got Seattle, who's Seattle. As long as they got Russ, they could be a threat. And the Rams getting Staffy right now. That roster is one of the more complete rosters there are in the NFL.
You know, I'll say this. Of course, they made the big splash moves, but I think them getting rid of Zane Gonzalez and bringing in Matt Prater was a big time move. And
Definitely.
I'm looking at the stats right now. You know, Matt Prater was only accurate on 75% of his field goals. Zane Gonzalez was only accurate on 72%.
Okay.
But Zane Gonzalez was better on extra points. But even though those numbers tell a different story, it shows that Zane Gonzalez is probably just as good as a kicker as Matt Prater. I think Matt Prater is a better player than Zane Gonzalez. I think it's a major upgrade. I've seen Matt Prater be extremely clutch.
Oh,
you know, so
all his career.
I think them getting a kicker like him
Ex-Bronco legend.
to hit those high pressure kicks to win games, I think that was a really underrated signing.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Prater's probably top 3, top 5 guarantee long distance kickers there are in the NFL right now. So I mean, you bring a guy like that into your roster, that's pretty firm.
Wait, word on the street: Pats re-signed David Andrews.
Oh, that's a big time move.
That's crazy.
And they got Ted Carrs too. Yeah, that's a big time move.
Jeez.
So their offensive line is going to be elite, like no doubt about it.
Oh, he's coming back.
Yep,
he's coming back. That's nice. Now Cam Newton. I'm telling you, listen. You got Carson Wentz in his own category too. Cam Newton is right there for comeback player of the year, no doubt.
So next team we are going to talk about is the San Francisco 49ers. So they needed to fill the cornerback void because, I mean, everybody on their roster that was a cornerback was basically a free agent. They signed Emmanuel Mosley back. They signed Jason Verrett back. They also signed Kyle Juszczyk. They signed Samson Ebukam from the Rams, who I think he has a lot of upside. They re-signed Trent Williams. They signed Alex Mack, and they re-signed DJ Jones, their defensive tackle. I mean, I've said it. I've been batting the drum on this for the last couple of weeks on this show. The 49ers are going to win the division next year, and they're going to come back not only because they have a great roster, but the disrespect towards Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy G, I mean, is immense. Like, he's a good quarterback, but they talk about him like he's Teddy Bridgewater. It's ridiculous. People,
what's wrong with
Teddy? He's just not,
He's not it.
Like, Jimmy Garoppolo.
Not that bad of a comparison.
Yeah, Teddy's not.
Jimmy Garoppolo, if he hits the throw in the Super Bowl to Emmanuel Sanders, he's a Super Bowl champion, and we are looking him at in a completely different light.
That's a big moment.
That's fair enough.
You know, like, so that's a big moment. I mean, damn, you know, come on. Jimmy G as a starter is like 27-4.
Yeah.
The 49ers, if they stay healthy, are going to be back. I mean, yes, they lost Sherman, but Verrett played really well last year. Emmanuel Mosley did too. They still got Kittle, Debo, Ayuk, Mostert. They brought back Trent Williams. They just got Alex Mack. Huge. Their offensive line is going to be elite. That defensive line is going to be elite. Their linebackers with Ebukam, Greenlaw, and Fred Warner really fast. Like, I'm just saying, man, don't sleep on the San Francisco 49ers, man. Jimmy G, I'm telling you, bro, not only is he a good football player, but he has a great smile. He has a great personality.
All right, you're getting out of hand.
When he comes into the locker room, when he comes into the
2021, bro, come on.
When he
it's
comes,
all right.
When he comes into the locker room, man, it's just a different energy, you know. They missed him when they had Nick Mullins and C.J. Beathard, whatever.
Beathard,
C.J. Beathard. Jimmy G is that guy, and next year he's going to prove it. He's going to prove a lot of people wrong.
So let me hear the grade you gave him.
Yeah, you didn't even say the grade. You was just talking.
A damn plus, man.
A damn plus. Okay.
A damn plus.
I'm gonna rock with you on that. A plus.
We all right in A+.
Because I feel like
across.
what they needed to do was just be healthy last year. They weren't healthy last year. I feel like if they were healthy, they would have no doubt been a playoff team. And I think bringing these guys in, bringing Jason Verrett, I know they lost Sherman, but I feel like Jason Verrett, man to man, I feel like he was that guy for them last year. So bring him back was phenomenal. Now, looking at the team, Jimmy G, Brandon Ayuk, he did his thing last year.
When he was healthy, yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
he did.
He was on my fantasy team.
He did
for
his
sure.
thing.
That's a
Debo
come up.
Samuel, you know what he's gonna do. George Kittle, we know what type of guy he is.
He was injured last
Raheem
season.
Mostert was hurt too last year,
That's
so
true.
he's coming back. So I'm saying
Jeff Wilson's low key too. He's
this
pretty
team
nice.
just has Nick Bosa. They had a top 10 defense last year.
And
He wasn't playing.
You know, when we talk about the best coaches in that division,
I think they have one.
I'm
Kyle
taking
Shanahan.
Kyle
I think
Shanahan
for sure.
Shanahan's one. I
for
think
sure.
like
Over Sean Payton?
Oh, Sean McVay.
Excuse me. Apologize. Yes.
49ers are undefeated against the Rams. Like Kyle Shanahan's undefeated against Sean McVay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm taking,
That's
I'm
crazy.
taking Kyle Shanahan.
you got
They both lost
Fred
Super
Warner.
Bowl.
He broke out like he just
Fred
jumped-
Warner's he's a dog.
He jumped the
He's a
gun.
dog.
So this team being healthy, I think they're going to be at the top of the game. Now, I would say that division, they do have the worst quarterback. Not saying he's bad, but they do
He
have
is
the
the
worst
worst.
quarterback. But I think he's good enough where Jimmy G doesn't lose you games. He's a guy who's going to get you. He can get you a win, but he also played his strength. He can play to the team strength. So I think them getting healthy and just them being healthy is just the key thing, and bringing back these key guys is good for them. So A+ for them.
Yeah, I gave him an A+. I like the Kyle Juszczyk re-signing. You bring back one of the best blocking fullbacks in the game, probably the best blocking fullback in the game. You get Trent Williams probably for the rest of his career. You're getting $138 million 6 years. He's 32 right now. I'm pretty sure he'll retire with them. You're getting the best available tackle there is too. I love bringing back Jason Verrett. Jason Verrett's probably this is definitely a prove year for him. He signs a 1-year deal. I mean, you and I were talking about this a little bit too. I'm very high on Jason Verrett, especially for this type of money that he's getting. This is a huge steal for them. They bring in Emmanuel Mosley, 2-year, $10 million. That's a very firm contract. And you're getting a bunch of players that you lost to injury last season. I mean, they lose Solomon Thomas. That's not going to hurt too bad, truthfully.
At all.
Yeah, I agree. And especially when you have Nick Bosa on your squad. Like, Nick Bosa, when healthy, is a top 5 player there is in the NFL. So, I mean, I'm not as high on Jimmy G as you are. You don't think so?
Wait, what'd you say?
Nick Bosa, top 5 defensive player in the NFL. Because, listen, his rookie year, people were talking about him like he was
Defensive player, just in general.
defensive player.
He can be
Top 5.
He can be a defensive player of the year.
Agreed.
You
For
think he's
sure.
top 5? I'll ask you that later.
All right, fair enough. That being said, I'm not as high on Jimmy G as you are, but for sure he's a winner. And with the pieces he has around him, he is being put in an amazing position to win. It is not a crazy thing to say that they could win the division at all. I really like all the moves that they made. A+ really is just an easy grade to give.
A+.
Yeah,
I don't
all
think they're
around.
gonna win the division though. I think the Cardinals. I'm gonna rock with
Okay.
AJ Green and them boys.
All right.
So I got the Cardinals.
Oh,
winning
you
the
got
division.
AJ Green and them boys.
Yeah, I love AJ. So I want them. I got the Cardinals winning the division next
I'm about to make a top 5 for you.
year. Yeah, you do that.
All right.
You have the Cardinals winning the division. So what's your
Bias aside, I legit have the Cardinals though.
I would have the 49ers. The Cardinals and the Rams can either go second. I think I would have the Seahawks finishing last.
I think the Seahawks always, no matter the roster he has, always gives the Niners fits. So I think that division alone is going to be tough. But if I put it in order, I would say Cardinals. With the Niners and the Rams, it's really tough for me. But the Seahawks could sneak in too. But I would probably say Cardinals, Niners, Rams, Seahawks. That would be my 4.
All right, I made the top 5. You want me to share it now?
Yes.
All right, I put AD first, Jalen 2. I put Myles Garrett, Khalil Mack. I could tie them 3-4. Whichever order you want to put in, I can't complain. I'll
Okay.
put Nick Bosa 5.
You put Nick Bosa over his brother.
Yes.
You would put him over Stephon Gilmore.
At this point, Stephon Gilmore was underwhelming last season. Even though he is a savage, I will take Nick Bosa.
Okay, you would put him over TJ Watt. I think that was the one
That's-
that.
all right.
That,
You
that
got
was
me
the
there.
one. That was the
You got
one.
me there.
Like that would probably be the 5. You put
Nah,
Miles Jack. I think you could throw TJ Watt
That's
in there.
Miles Jack.
Miles Garrett. He means Miles Garrett.
I heard.
Miles Garrett.
Okay, I heard Miles.
No, Miles Garrett. No. Miles
No,
Garrett.
I would take Nick Bosa over TJ Watt. That's me personally, though.
I
No,
think-
but I'm saying not taking. I'm saying who's a better defensive player in general.
It might be pretty even.
Pretty
Yeah.
TJ Watt doesn't see much double teams.
What about
Nick Bosa rookie year was getting double teamed.
Okay, what about Shaq Barrett, Fred Warner?
I'm taking
Levante David.
I'm taking Nick Bosa.
Okay.
Because if Nick Bosa was on that Buccaneers team, they would be an all-world, like all-time great defense.
Okay. So next team we are going to talk about, we're going to switch divisions. The NFC North, the Green Bay Packers, they just re-signed Aaron Jones to a 4-year, $48 million contract. And that's basically the only move of note that they really made. So, I mean, we can skip over them because, I mean, they just signed Aaron Jones. There's really not much to talk about outside of how disappointing their offseason has been. So,
Same thing last year, too.
You know, I say, what do you give them as a grade, though? Because my grade for the Packers offseason, I mean, they paid a running back. So, I'm giving them
solid
a D.
one. A solid one,
Yes,
though.
yes. But I'm giving them a D.
I'm going to go with a C because even though they lost Corey Lindsey. So, that was big.
True.
They did get Aaron Jones back, but I feel like a receiver, still getting that second receiver. I know the guys that they have the potential to be those number 2, number 3, but I think getting that was a little bit more important. Paying a running back, Aaron Jones, I thought they were going to let him walk, honestly.
Me too.
I thought if they was going to give that money to Aaron Jones, they could have gave that money to Corey Lindsey. I felt like that would have been the better option, but I'm going to give him a C because they didn't lose too much.
I agree with you with that they could have brought back Corey Linsley over Aaron Jones, especially for the fact they just drafted A.J. Dillon. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like running backs are expendable.
Yeah, true.
But not a center.
And Aaron Jones, that's true. You're 100% right with that. Aaron Jones fumbled in the biggest game of the season for them, too, twice. So, but I do like the re-signing. He had, 19 touchdowns 2 years ago. He had double-digit touchdowns again last season. He's definitely one of the bigger parts of that offense. Obviously, you got Devontae Adams, but Aaron Jones is a huge dual threat where he can definitely run the ball and he can definitely catch it very well. I gave him a C- because you're right. I was looking for them to make a splash in the receiver department. Didn't do anything of that sorts. They also were one of the worst rush defenses in the NFL last year too, and they didn't do anything to fix that either. So I think C- is more than fair. Honestly, it might be a little bit too kind, but C- is fine.
So the next team we were going to talk about are the Chicago Bears. So they re-signed their kicker, Cyril Santos, to a 3-year, $11 million deal. Mario Edwards Jr. to a 3-year, $11.5 million deal. Andy Dalton to a 1-year, $10 million deal. Jermaine Ifedi, they re-signed him to a 1-year, $5 million deal. And they signed Angelo Blackson to a 2-year deal, defensive tackle from the Cardinals. So, I mean, the biggest move here is Andy Dalton, honestly. That's their biggest move.
I've watched AJ Green his whole life. I've never been high on Andy Dalton. I never thought he was that great. I thought he was all right. I don't know what he's going to do with the Bears offense. Nobody has seemed to crack that offense. It's not that good. They have Allen Robinson. They have David Montgomery. He's okay. They just found a gem in Mooney. I forgot his first name. Darnell Mooney. He's really good. Yeah, he's really, really good. So you got those two guys right there. So Andy Dalton, I guess he'll be all right, but D+, C-.
The only reason I didn't give them an F is because they did everything they could in their power to try and get Russ. Like a 3 first round, 2 starters, like a 3rd round pick. They really tried. Seattle just wasn't budging, and obviously I can't blame them too much.
Can you move that water bottle so I can see the time?
Got you.
All right, good.
Don't do that. You know, you can just look on the stream. It says 2 hours. Right?
No, I can't.
You can't?
No, I can't.
Really?
Nope.
We got 250 right now.
Okay.
So regardless, they're playing too many games with Allen Robinson. They just need to either decide to give him the long term or trade him at this point because he's probably going to sit next season if they're not going to pay him long term. And that's the last thing, especially with a receiver. Like your value right now for him is as high as it possibly could be. You have him sit out a season, it's toast. So I have him at a C- right now. I feel like the moves that they made, resigning those guys, definitely beneficial to the squad, especially because they've been a solid defense. But last year, they really weren't that great defensively. And they just lose Kyle Fuller, too.
I feel like that's just because the offense is so bad that they have to be on the field all the time.
They were sleepy last year. Like, they were low-key pretty good last year. I mean, you got second half of the season, their schedule was very light. Yeah, they made the playoffs last year. And if Wims, I'm pretty sure his name is
Wims.
Yeah,
if he makes that catch, who knows how the rest of that game goes. Mitch put a dime pass right on right in the numbers, and he just let it go right through his hands. I feel like C- is very fair, too. Go ahead.
I mean, I think I'm going to give them because, I didn't even mention them really trying to go out and trade for Russ. I'll take that into consideration. Because of that, I'll give them a C+.
Fair enough.
But I can't give them much higher because they really didn't make any notable move. And they franchise tag Allen Robinson. That was a good move.
But if they're not gonna like, if he decides, I don't want to play next season unless you give him the line. He
signed the franchise tag.
When was this? A few days ago?
Just now.
Really?
Oh, he just signed it because he wasn't gonna sign it.
He is all talk. That's crazy.
Yeah. So he signed it. So he's gonna be back next season.
That's firm.
We can move on from the Bears though because this is all that they did. The next team are the Minnesota Vikings. So they didn't make much moves, but they made two very notable moves, and I think that's what's most important. They went out and they signed Dalvin Tomlinson to a 2-year, $22 million deal, and they also signed Patrick Peterson to a 1-year, $10 million deal. I mean, I'm giving this offseason an A just because they had limited cap space, but they still made the most of it. I mean, Patrick Peterson going to a team with the secondary of that was very bad last season, but that had potential, Cameron Dantzler and Jeff Gladney. Now he's going to mentor those young guys, still having Harrison Smith, Eric Kendricks, Dalvin Thompson coming back, Michael Pierce coming back. He opted out last season. Danielle Hunter being healthy.
Yep.
I mean, this defense can be a top 15, top 10 defense once again. I would say top 15 lock.
Okay.
Like lock. Top 10 is like me thinking everybody's going to stay healthy.
Do they need to bring back Anthony Harris for them to be top 15?
No,
okay.
They don't.
Okay.
And then with their offense being as explosive as it is with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, and Kyle Rudolph did leave, but they have Irv Smith Jr. and Kirk Cousins, who I think is a good quarterback. I mean, they can make the playoffs next year.
I agree.
With this roster.
I agree.
No doubt.
So what's the grade you're giving them? You said you gave them an A?
I'm giving them an A.
Listen, I gave him an A also. I love the Pat Pete signing. I feel like if they bring back Pat Pete, Anthony Harris is going to be more inclined to want to sign with them because now he gets to play free safety. I like, especially with the offense that they have. They really don't. They have everything that you could ever want in an offense.
Yep.
They have probably the best weapons in the NFL.
Don't even remind me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, bro. That hurts. Yeah, you really could have JJ on your squad right now.
You really tried to convince me that the Rieger signing was like good. Like I was sitting there,
bad.
But I was sitting there and
the
I'm
draft
like,
pick wasn't bad.
No, it was bad.
No,
For now that we look at it, it was bad.
In hindsight,
It's definitely bad.
No, in hindsight, of course.
Yeah.
But for what the Eagles needed, I don't think it was that bad.
We needed a receiver.
You guys needed a deep threat.
No, we needed a guy.
Is he not?
What is
Oh,
Justin
yes,
Jefferson?
I know, but Jalen Rager ran like a 4.2, bro.
Fair enough.
I'm saying-
But you're the same guy who'd be like, don't fall for the speed.
That's facts.
And then
That's
maybe
facts.
But
fall
Jalen
for the
Rager had
speed.
more than that in college, though, at TCU. He had more than that.
Yeah,
But so did JJ.
No, of course. But
JJ
I'm just
was-
saying.
Oh,
Jalen
this makes me mad again.
Rager, I mean, of course, Justin Jefferson's going to be better than him, but don't give up on Jalen Rager yet. I mean,
Okay,
it's not-
fair enough.
Just
But
don't give up on him yet.
with Hurts as his QB, I don't know if his ceiling is as high as Judge's is already.
Oh, no, that's true.
Yeah. All right. So regardless, I mean, they bring back Rashad Hill, which is huge for them. I like that because you give Kirk and Dalvin, a guy that they're already comfortable with and that they've already had success with. Nick Vigil, linebacker that played for the Chargers. He missed 3 games during the season last season, towards the end of the year. But I mean, he played pretty well for the Chargers. So I mean, for getting him for what I think it was a 1 year, I think it was like a $2 million deal. Like I don't hate that much. And for being 30th in points allowed last season, you bring in Pat Pete, who's been a shutdown corner almost all his career. You bring in Dalvin Thompson, that's definitely going to help. Getting pressure on the inside. I really like this offseason for them, and that's why I'm giving them an A.
Yeah. I think, like, this team, like, I like the Dalvin Thompson signing. I like Patrick Peterson signing. I think with those young corners, I think Patrick Peterson is going to really teach them a lot and help them in their development. I think this team just overall has to stay healthy. I think they really don't have many weaknesses in their depth. I just think they have, like you said, Justin Jefferson. That's one of my guys. I'm a fanboy of him. Justin Jefferson. Adam Thielen's still really, really good. I think Kirk Cousins is good. Dalvin Cook, we know what he does. We don't got to talk about it.
Love him.
Defense is good. Anthony Barr, Kendrick, they got guys out there. So it's like, it's, Daniel Hunter, like, I like these Tuesdays. It's going to be good. It's going to be good for real. I like this team.
You think they can win the division or just wild card?
No, the Packers were going to win the division.
I agree.
I think the Packers should be favorites, but I wouldn't be surprised. The only reason why is because, the Packers have had the Vikings number for, as long as we can remember.
That's a
fact. Since Aaron Rodgers
but,
that's
the Vikings do have a really talented roster, and that offensive line is not as horrible as it once was. It's average, a little bit below average, but it's still manageable. Dalvin Cook went crazy behind that offensive line, which kind of just shows you more about Dalvin Cook.
Mm-hmm.
But with that defense coming back, with that offense being as good as it is, it's really hard to say that, they can't win the division. I wouldn't be surprised if they do.
Okay, fair enough.
So the next team we are going to talk about are the Detroit Lions. So the Detroit Lions signed Tyrell Williams to a 1-year, $6.2 million deal. They also signed Romeo Okwara to a 3-year deal worth $39 million. They traded for Michael Brockers. They signed Brashard Perriman. They signed Jamal Williams, Tim Boyle, and a former first-round pick in Charles Harris. I'll let you go first, Andrew, about this grade.
So the reason my grade is as high as it is because of the Jared Goff, Matty Staffy trade. They get 2 first-round picks from him, which is more than ideal, which I personally thought they were only going to get 1. But Matty Staffy definitely has higher value than I was expecting. Bringing 2, you get a 2022, 2023 first. You get a 2020 third-round pick, which obviously isn't bad. What I like most about this move is that if they wanted to go full-blown tank mode, they 100% could trade Jared Goff, get whatever they want let's say Jared Goff's probably worth a second, third with that contract, most likely a third-round pick. I mean, he hasn't been terrible. It's just he's not good, in my opinion. I don't think Jared Goff's a good QB. So if they wanted to go full-blown tank mode, especially with the new coach, they want to get him his quarterback. I wouldn't mind them trading Jared Goff, trying to get a quarterback in the draft. The only sign that really made me question their moves this offseason was why they signed Jamal Williams. I get Jamal Williams is a very good piece. I like Jamal Williams on the Packers. But you have a guy like DeAndre Swift who already shown you that he's versatile in the pass game. He's very good in between the tackles, outside the tackles. He is one of the better younger talents in the league.
And Kerryon Johnson.
That's true too, but I'm a little out on Kerryon. I personally would take Jamal Williams over Kerryon just because Kerryon's been more injury prone lately. But you're taking touches away from DeAndre Swift, who should be the focal point of that offense, especially when your only receiver right now that I can name off the top of my head is Tyrell Williams, who has had injury history.
Brashard Perriman.
Apologize. That's pretty solid.
They also have Geronimo Allison.
If he couldn't make it work with Rodgers, I don't think he's going to make it work with Jared Goff or whoever their quarterback's going to be. But I appreciate you saying that name to me, just giving him some love. Hawkinson was not bad. That being said, it took Matty Staffy to bring it out of him. And Matty Staffy, to be fair, Matty Staffy has not always shown love to the tight end. But I feel like with Hawkinson, he was forced to because with Galladay being hurt, he really had no other option. And Marvin Jones was on clamps last season. But I feel like that the Jamal Williams signing really didn't make sense to me. I like the Romeo Okwara re-signing, especially when that defense has a bunch of holes. You bring him back for 3 years, $39 million. That's pretty firm. And I like the Broncos trade, especially because low risk, high reward, 7th rounder that you gave away for him. He's been proven in the NFL to be pretty successful. The only thing I will say is he benefited from Aaron Donald being on his squad. So I mean, I gave him a C+ for what they got from that Matty Staffy trade. But other than that, I really don't love the moves that they made.
I agree. I think the Matty Stafford trade, that was really the thing carrying me in this position. I think I would go with a C+ grade just for what they got back. And Jared Goff, he's not Matthew Stafford. No, he's all right. So, you get a guy who can, at least do a little bit of something. Tyrell Williams is good for what he is. He's a good little receiver here and there. Romeo Okwara, he's good. But it wasn't nothing that they did or that they could have done in free agency for me to boost them up from a C, honestly.
I mean, I think were you going to finish?
Oh, no, that is it.
Okay. So I'm giving them a C+ too because I'm a little bit higher on the moves they made. I mean,
of course
now their defensive line is Romeo Okwara, Michael Brockers, Trey Flowers. Not too bad.
Agreed.
Deshaun Hand, Nick Williams. I mean, it's okay. The defense is probably still going to be bad. Mm-hmm. But on offense, I mean, I like their offensive line. Taylor Decker, Jonah Jackson, Frank Ragnow. They also have a Vitae who's better at guard. They probably drafted tackle in this draft. But the receivers worry me. I mean,
sure.
Quentin Cephas, the rookie receiver, showed some flashes last year, but I don't think he's going to be anything crazy. Brashard Perriman, Tyrell Williams, and Geronimo Allison. Like, Tyrell Williams is injury prone. Brashard Perriman is injury prone. So there may be stretches in the season where Jared Goff is throwing to Tom Kennedy. That's another wide receiver they have. So it's going to be really rough. Like you said, I don't think Jared Goff is anything crazy. Maybe Tim Boyle shows something. I mean, he was Rodgers' backup.
Okay.
Matt Flynn, when he was his backup, he showed some things too. So
that's true.
But I mean, it's going to be a rough year for Detroit. But I think they just got a C+ because they got those first round picks and stuff like that. This is just a rebuild period for them. We'll see how they do with that. But the next team we are going to talk about, we're going to switch divisions. We're going to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And First off, I mean, we know that Tampa Bay Buccaneers needed to re-sign players that were part of their Super Bowl core, and they did just that. They re-signed Shaq Barrett to a huge deal. They re-signed Rob Gronkowski. They re-signed Aaron Stinney, who was a standout guard in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
They re-signed Levante David, and they franchise tagged Chris Godwin. I mean, you can't ask for a better offseason, and they're in talks right now with Ndamukong Suh. And just recently, they re-signed Nacho Nunez. That's what his name. His last name is Nunez. They call him Nacho though. He's a defensive tackle.
Why would you tell us that? As if we would know his nickname is Nacho.
Just because in case they don't bring back Ndamukong Suh, they have him just in case.
No, I'm saying, why would you tell us his nickname was Nacho though? Like,
no, because that's what they call him.
Yeah, he's shown respect. I understand.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, you know, I mean, they brought back their core, and this is what they needed to do. I thought they were going to do this. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that the Buccaneers are going to make it to the Super Bowl once again.
Nope.
Whether they are going to win is pretty crazy. I don't know if they will or not. I have to see. But they will make it again. I don't think any team in the NFC has this roster. Not even close.
I can go now.
Yes, you can go and tell everybody how you were wrong about the Bucs not winning.
Yeah, big Saints guy over here, right?
Oh,
Big
yeah.
Saints.
100% I was wrong. I took the L. I took the L in peace. I was definitely wrong. I won't be wrong again this year, though. Yeah, I give Tampa an A+, though. I think bringing everybody back from that championship team, there's no way you could not give him an A+. Even getting Chris Godwin to sign that tag, I think that was incredible. So, with that being said, like you said, there is no – I think they'll probably run it back. They'll probably go back to the Super Bowl. I don't know if they're going to win it, obviously. That's tough to say. But injuries aside, any big injuries aside, I think with bringing everybody back, paying everybody on a year or two deal. So they're going to have the same team this year and possibly next year too. So I think that's going to be good. There should be no reason why they shouldn't run it back. So I give them an A+ grade.
The only reason
I'll give them A+ too. I forgot to give them that.
Only reason I didn't give them an A+ is because I'm waiting for them to bring back Ndamukong Suh and AB. I need both of them for an A+.
AB too?
I don't think AB comes back.
I think AB does come back because there's a lot of other teams that aren't sure of him, and the Bucs know that Tom Brady will keep him in check.
That's crazy. Grown man.
Me personally, listen, I'm a huge fan of Antonio Brown's. He's one of the best players we'll ever see play in the National Football League. It's a shame that his off-the-field antics have ruined, his reputation.
Well deserved though.
Agreed. Oh, listen, I agree. Listen, I'm not supporting anything he did off the field. That being said, on the field, he's one of the most gifted, most talented players we've ever seen. And a full season, a full off season with the Bucs, this offense would be lights out. You'd have Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, AB with a basically a full season last year. What game did they get him? Around like week 8, week 9?
They got him the game
week 7
that they faced the Saints and it got blown out. They just got him.
So now he's finally getting a full off.
So half a year.
Yeah. Gronk, OJ Howard out
and
there
he had
too.
to get back into football shape after missing basically a full year, and he picked up. For missing a year, he looked damn good. He had an amazing Super Bowl run. I feel like AB would be just the perfect final piece to this puzzle. I think Ndamukong Suh is more essential to bring back. So I gave them an A. I feel like they literally, like you guys said it already. Shaq Barrett brought back. Chris Godwin brought back. Levante David brought back. The guard they brought back. Gronk they brought back.
Mike Evans was locked up, so he's good.
Like this team is perfect. You're right. They easily could go back to the Super Bowl, and I won't bet against Tom Brady.
They are the favorites. I think
I think the Cardinals are the favorites.
The only
What
thing,
the hell?
yeah, he's bugging. That being said, the Chiefs, they're still the Chiefs. They definitely could do it. The only thing is they need to fix that offensive line if they want to deal with Shaq Barrett, JPP, Levante David. Like,
I think the Chiefs are going to have a harder road than the Tampa Bay Bucks.
I don't know about that. I think the NFC, I still think the NFC is a little bit more talented.
I think as a whole, but I think with Tampa Bay's team, it's so complete that there isn't any teams that have the depth that they do to beat them. I think with the Chiefs, I think the Bills can battle with them. I think Cleveland can battle with them. I don't think they can beat them. And I think Baltimore, if they fix a couple things, they can go toe-to-toe with them.
Okay.
I think there's a few teams that could rock out with them. In Tampa, though, it's who, like...
I think the Packers could still compete with them.
In a sense.
Listen, that was without Bakhtiari that they got beat.
They just lost Corey Lindsey. So now what?
Fair enough. But, I mean, you get Bakhtiari back, who's probably the best left tackle in football.
But you had the best tackle and the best safety. You lost the best safety.
Center.
Oh, sorry, pardon me.
No, I know what you're saying.
You lost the best center. with that defensive line that the Bucs already have, which you see what it did to Mahomes and them. It's really dangerous. So I don't know. I mean, I was bugging. I picked the Saints. Silly me.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, but they had a complete team at the time, so
and they smoked them by 30.
That's what I'm
saying. That was your Super Bowl.
Yeah, because Drew Brees. But feel me, like. So I don't know. The Bucs, they probably just gonna run through. I don't know, man. That's crazy.
I don't know if they'll run through.
Dude, Tom
I think
Brady,
they'll make
man.
the Super Bowl, but I don't know if it'll be easy. You know what I'm saying? I feel
that's the thing, man. Is that
the Rams are solid, man.
I mean, I think they can beat the Rams.
The Packers
Yeah.
put.
I think they can beat the Rams
Again,
too.
I think,
but it'd be a good game.
There's just something with the Bucs. This team just has a certain swagger to it.
Agreed.
They are just built different. I got the Tom Brady jersey right there. It's
tough.
hanging up. It's in the frame.
It's fire.
For everybody to see.
You know who I think can sneaky battle with them? The Niners.
Yeah, I think
defensively,
so
I think that would be the team to do it.
I just don't think they
don't have enough offense, but I think
agree.
defensively they're going to be able to do it. I think that can be the team to do it. The Niners.
We're gonna see what the Bucs do next season, but the next team is the New Orleans Saints. First of all, before we get into their moves, let's just talk about how they got out of cap hell.
Unbelievable.
The New Orleans Saints were over the cap like by $100 million. And while I don't have all the exact figures, like the numbers that it saves the Saints, this is what they did. They cut Quan Alexander. They cut Malcolm Brown. They restructured Michael Thomas, which saved them $8.7 million. They cut Nick Easton. They cut Jared Cook. They cut Josh Hill. They cut Thomas Morstead. They cut Emmanuel Sanders, and they cut Janoris Jenkins. And by Drew Brees retiring, they saved about $24 million on the cap. And, of course, they restructured Taysom Hill. Well, they extended him to a 4-year, $140 million contract, which is like a pseudo contract.
Yep.
It's just to save them cap. And I think they saved about $6 million in cap by making that move. What they did was pretty damn crazy.
Agreed.
I think Mickey Loomis is probably the best GM in football because he's been putting together Super Bowl rosters every single year. I think it's always been one thing or another that's been holding them back, whether it be bad luck, Drew Brees, whatever it may be, their defense. It's always been something, but that roster has always been a Super Bowl contending roster. But their two major moves, of course, is signing Jameis Winston and signing Taysom Hill. And, for this, because they were able to get out of cap hell and still keep their team intact for the most part, I'm going to give them an A for this offseason.
Fair enough. So, with all the players that they lost, I took that into account more. Even though I do agree with you that their team is definitely still solid, I feel like they don't have another wide receiver one, which was a huge concern of theirs prior to this season, so they thought Emmanuel would fill that void. But then Emmanuel gets cut, so now you're back to Ted Ginn, I'm pretty sure, who's still on that squad. That being said, defensively, you lose Quan Alexander, you lose Janoris Jenkins, who that was another big problem of theirs, who was their number 2 corner once they brought in, they brought in Janoris, so that kind of fixed that. But now they're back to questioning what's going to happen with that. I like the tag of Marcus Williams. That was definitely smart. But you lose Cook, you lose Emmanuel, Malcolm Brown, Janoris, Trey Hendrickson, who was definitely regardless of what you guys want to say, he was big for them last season. He was one of the he was definitely huge. But you have Cam Jordan, which automatically is going to make you a threat on the line. So I'm going to give them a solid B. I feel like that's more than respectable, especially for the way that they were finessing around the cap. They're proving to me that cap doesn't exist. Go ahead.
I'm going to give them a B.
Fair enough.
Because Drew Brees sucked, and he retired. That's number one. Number two, I think losing Trey Henderson was big, but I think keeping Marcus Williams was good for them too. And I think the fact that they was able to keep him was really huge to keep that young secondary afloat. Number three, Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, bringing those guys back who had a year under the system. I think that's good for them. I think Jameis Winston learning under Drew Brees is going to be good. He knows the system now. He knows what it's going to be. The only thing is they don't have a number 2 receiver. So that's going to be like kind of a big – I think they're going to get it in the draft probably, but I think that's kind of going to be a big thing. But all in all, they kept their offensive line intact. The defensive line, for the most part, is intact, obviously from losing Trey, but they still got Cameron Jordan and them boys, and their secondary, for the most part, is intact. So I think that team is still going to be good. They're just going to need quarterback play. So
you look at their team right now. Cameron Jordan's still there, Marcus Davenport, Noah Spence, David Onyemata, Demaryius Davis, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Malcolm Jenkins, Marshawn Lattimore, Marcus Williams, Patrick Robinson.
Is Jenkins still there, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, who?
Malcolm Jenkins.
Oh, yeah.
Then on offense, Jameis, Kamara, Thomas. You said number 2. I think Traquan Smith can develop into that.
It's been a few years, though.
Yeah, I like Traquan Smith.
I think getting another guy would be good, though.
I feel like Anthony Miller trading for him wouldn't be a bad idea. They've been saying that the Bears have been looking at.
That's true. And then you look at their offensive line. I mean, it's still one of the better offensive lines. Teron Armstead, Andres
They
Pete,
still have
Eric
Camaro.
McCoy, Cesar Ruiz, and Ryan Ramczyk.
Latavius is still on the squad, too?
Yes, he is.
That's nice.
So, I mean, they still have a lot of weapons. They freed up $122 million in cap space.
That's insane, man.
Wow.
That's
Which is
crazy.
So
Salary cap
when you
fig.
take that into account, I mean, what they did was truly spectacular. So because of that, I mean, I think,
Listen,
that's
you're
why
not far off
I
with an
gave
A.
them an
You're
A.
not far off
That's why
with an A.
gave them
I
an A.
agree. It's just I feel like they lost too much. The way that they finessed the cap, I 100% understand you give them an A.
I feel like just giving up on Drew Brees was just the greatest thing
so
ever.
happy. For that alone, I'll give him a B+.
Easily.
And so Jameis or Taysom, who would you go with day one?
100%, no doubt in my mind, Jameis Winston.
I agree.
Me
I don't
too.
even think
I'm
this is a
going
debate.
Jameis
I don't
too.
even think it shouldn't be a debate, in my opinion.
This man was the leader in, was it yards? I'm pretty sure.
Yards.
He's number 2 in touchdowns,
He was 30 for 30.
and he was throwing blind.
He was number 1 in interception.
He was throwing blind. Number 1 in interception. Listen, throwing
He's a
over
funny
30
guy, though.
touchdowns. He is hilarious.
He's a funny guy.
Get a W.
He's a
Yeah,
funny
he did
guy.
the
little,
W thing,
yeah, he's a funny guy though. I hope he's good though, man.
I'm a fan of
all the
his.
Disrespect
Listen,
I had.
I'm a fan of Jameis
This is
too.
the first time I'll be rooting for the Saints in over 10 years.
Oh, I'm done.
So you didn't like Drew Brees?
Listen, he beat Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl. You forget that?
He didn't beat your Peyton though.
He doesn't know me back in the day. I was a Colts fan, bro.
Oh, I used to be a Giants fan.
I was a
So
Colts
that's why you
fan.
became a Broncos fan?
I became a Bronco fan because they released Peyton Manning. That was rude. They cut Peyton Manning. Top 2 quarterback of all time.
So you became a fan.
Now, listen, now I'm a lifetime Bronco.
Okay. That's tough.
He
So
said on to the
so you're not a
sunset.
Colts fan because they were rude to Payne?
They were very rude to
So you
Peyton.
weren't even a Colts fan. You were just a Peyton fan, honestly.
I was a Colts fan. If they would have traded him, or like done anything listen, it was Andrew Luck. I understand.
Yeah,
But they cut Peyton Manning. You got nothing for our all-time great, and he signed for $95 million somewhere else.
Didn't he like break his neck?
He did break his neck. He came back and he was amazing.
Yeah, he wasn't. He was
Threw
really
35 touchdowns and then 55 the year after.
Yeah, I mean,
my
that's
goat.
crazy. He's
Then
still
he
not
got
better than
smoked
Brady.
out. Then
I'm
he
not
got
saying
smoked.
that. All right, come on. You didn't have to say that.
No,
It's
then
rude. I
He threw the
understand this
55
already.
and then got destroyed, right, in the Super Bowl.
Come on, like now we're teaming up on me now. Like yes, he got blown out by 35.
But talking about the Saints, so I mean, I think Jameis should be the starter, and I'm gonna be honest, man. I think Jameis is gonna make a comeback. I really do. I believe in Jameis Winston 100%.
We know.
Now I've been believing in Jameis Winston
Amen.
for a while, and I think him with Sean Payne, with Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas. I don't really think Of course, drafting another receiver would be nice, but I don't think it's like a glaring need. I like Traquan Smith. I think a tight end is more glaring need.
And we saw, agreed for sure,
Yeah.
but we've seen Jameis Winston do it with one receiver with Mike Williams before they got Godwin. And this man, Mike Evans, was having 1,000-yard seasons. I mean, he hasn't had under 1,000-yard season ever in his career. So we know James can do it with one, especially when you got Kamara out the backfield. We'll see if Kamara lines up on the outside now too, which would definitely be an interesting look.
Yeah, and everybody talks about Taysom Hill's contract, but they don't get that it's like a fake contract.
It's voidable like
Yes.
every single year.
Yes, it's a
No,
fake contract.
I'm good. I was confused too when I saw the money. I'm like,
Oh
what
no,
the hell?
the immediate reaction when you look at 4 years, 140, you're baffled. Makes no sense. Like, what did he do to deserve that money? But then you see the underlying, things in the contract that it makes more sense.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm gonna be rooting for the Saints too because I hope that Jameis does have a bounce back here. So we'll see what
Alvin
happens.
Kamara is my favorite running back, so I'm gonna just keep rooting for
But
him.
I think it's much more impressive how they really freed
He
up
dropped
that
60
cap. It's
on me in the
crazy.
chip. No thanks.
But this is the thing though. This is why when everybody talks about like Jamal Adams like getting traded and how it was the right move because we would have had to pay a safety. I'm like, look at the Saints. Look at their cap situation. You're telling me a team that has over $80 million in cap in the Jets couldn't pay a safety, couldn't pay Jamal Adams?
Mhm.
It's kind of ridiculous. Keep your best players. That's
For
my
sure.
motto. Whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm.
But they have geniuses over there in New Orleans, and that's why they can do it, and other teams can't.
I mean, I'm not gonna trash talk Joe Douglas because I'm a little bit more of a believer in him than you are, and he's been making pretty good moves after pretty good moves. That being said, I agree. They definitely could have kept Jamal and made it work eventually. The only thing is, for someone who I wouldn't say he's a true safety. He's more of a linebacker to me personally than he is a safety. Because I mean, he's leading the league in sacks for safeties, but because that's what he's amazing at. But his coverage isn't as good as it could be. Like as a Derwin James, for example, or a Justin Simmons.
Derwin James is more of a free safety, though.
I thought he played strong.
No, he plays.
I think he might play free safety. I'm not sure. Somebody has to double check that.
Now, you might be right, though.
I think Rayshawn Jenkins was a strong safety.
Okay.
I mean, that's why. I mean, Jamal is a strong safety, so I could understand why he's like more of a linebacker. He's more like a Keanu Neal.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And I'm sorry, Justin Simmons is a free safety also.
So I mean, that's why. But I don't know. The Saints did something amazing. But the next team we're going to move on to is the Carolina Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
So they signed Pat Elflein, who's a pretty bad offensive tackle, to a 3-year, $13.5 million deal. They signed Cameron Irving to a 2-year, $10 million deal. And they brought in Denzel Perriman, I think was a good signing. David Moore, wide receiver from the Seattle Seahawks. They signed Hassan Reddick on a 1-year, $8 million deal. They brought in Morgan Fox, a defensive tackle, and Rashawn Melvin, who's like, this is going to be his 10th team in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Cornerback, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to give the Panthers a B for this offseason. I mean, I think their defense is looking better. Brian Burns, Hassan Reddick, Derek Brown, Shaq Thompson, Denzel Perriman, Dante Jackson, Jeremy Chin. I mean, they got some guys there, man. They got some guys. And on offense, I mean, the only thing about their offense is when Teddy's going to get traded or when he's going to get released, because they need a franchise quarterback. But Robbie, David Moore, and
DJ Moore.
And no,
Both.
they also got
Both.
David Moore.
I was about to say.
David Moore, DJ Moore, and Robbie Anderson. I think that's a pretty good group right there. They just need to get a tight end, but I think overall this was an okay offseason for them.
Listen, they franchise tagged Taylor Moran. That's huge. They signed Pat Elflein, and they bring in Cameron Irving. So whoever that quarterback's going to be, they're going to be protected pretty well. So if Teddy's going to be there another season, whoever it's going to be, let's say they go and get someone in the draft. I doubt they'll trade for Sam Darnold. But if they make a splash on Deshaun Watson, anyone who gets Deshaun Watson automatically gets an A+ for the offseason. But right now, obviously, he hasn't been moved yet. I gave him a B personally just because I feel like the moves that they made defensively, like they brought in Hassan Reddick. Like you mentioned, they brought in Rashawn Melvin, which isn't too big of a deal. I feel like for how bad their rush defense was and how bad their pass defense was, I feel like they needed to make a bigger splash than just Hassan Reddick. Although I do like the move, I feel like obviously we think that they're going to go QB in the draft, so I don't imagine that they're going to get it.
8th.
Yeah, they do have 8th.
I think they do, Coach.
So I feel like B is more than fair. I feel like that defense still needs a lot of help. I mean, I like Brian Burns a lot. Jeremy Chin definitely has a very high ceiling, but I feel like 2 out of 11 guys can't do it for you.
I want to say this. This team is very, very underrated, and I'll give him a B, but I like this team's construction. I think if Deshaun goes here, this team could be really, really special.
Yep.
You know, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Christian McCaffrey. I think this team could really do some things.
I forgot about him, man.
Say that one more time.
I forgot about him.
CMC?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I did. I forgot to mention him.
Yeah, like this team is, you know, they got a cool offensive line, nothing crazy, but it's really good. I think defensively, getting Hassan Reddick for, even though it's for that 1 year, I think that's going to be good for them. You know, Brian Burns, he's a dog. Getting him in there is going to be good. They did lose James Bradbury, but like you said, Dante Jackson, he's good.
That was a few years ago, right? That was 2 years
That was
ago?
last year.
That was last year. And he just lost him. So, but Dante
Fair enough.
Jackson, you know, he's good. So it's something you can keep in mind. And that rookie,
Jeremy Chin.
yeah, he's
Nah,
good.
he's a savage.
He's good.
He is good.
Yeah, he's good. So I give him a B though, because they did fill certain needs. They did fill certain holes, but I think they could still do a little more. I think the Deshaun Jackson. I think the Deshaun Watson trade would be kind of the kicker for them if they do happen to get that. But all in all, this is a solid free agency. I think at quarterback though is where they're gonna need it at the most.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, we'll see what they do next, but we'll see if they do draft a quarterback. But so far, I give their offseason a B. Now the final team, the Atlanta Falcons.
This is sad, too.
They're a
do
great
virtually
move.
nothing
They
either?
traded for tight end Lee Smith
That's
from the Buffalo Bills, and I think they re-signed Young Hui Koo and a bunch of other like no names. So yeah,
That's a shame that we're ending the show with them.
their big time move was trading for Lee Smith.
I want to say this though. This is F. This is F. This is an F grade for them. Don't get me wrong, but their team is good. Like their offense is really can be really good if they're healthy. Their defense has some promise, but no, this is an F. No, without a doubt, Lee Smith is an absolute F. You know, he's Lee Smith, but you know, this team is good though. This team has an opportunity wherever they go in the draft, they can do some things. But all in all, this is an F
They're the
so
fourth.
far.
They have the 4th pick.
I think I think they get a quarterback right now and then have him sit behind Matt Ryan. Whoever they go with, whether it be Jones, Fields, I think
If
they
they're
do get a quarterback,
smart,
though.
they trade down.
Yeah, definitely.
If they're smart, they
But are
trade
they
down.
smart?
That is an excellent question, Rev.
Are they smart?
I don't know. Their owner is the owner of Home Depot.
What does that mean to me?
I mean,
He's a smart guy.
yeah. You know,
Okay.
just being owner of Home Depot, you got to be a smart guy.
No, I'm blanking.
Arthur Blank.
do you?
There it is.
Okay. So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
I gave them an F2, but I like the promise that they have on defense. They have a good run defense, one of the more low-key underrated rush defense in the league. But their pass defense was so atrocious last year. It blew how many fourth quarter leads? At least 4 games that they lost because of that defense.
That has to be a culture thing, though.
Oh, that's true too.
I think that's a curse too.
And
they're kind of like the Clippers.
Yeah, Dan Quinn has that 28-3 game stuck in his head for the rest of his career. So it's unfortunate that they have to get an F, but they've done nothing to deserve anything else.
They're an F.
They're an F.
So I want to see something right now. They're actually over the cap by $2 million, so they don't even have money to spend to get anybody. So are we saying it right now that the Atlanta Falcons have had the worst offseason of any team?
No, the Eagles did.
The Eagles?
Yes. No. It's honestly debate. It's really legit.
I don't know. I would say the Falcons because you guys re-signed like Brandon Graham, I believe.
Oh, okay. I mean, we're doing that. Yeah, that's cool.
What about the Steelers? You gave him a
Steelers-
C. That was generous.
No, I think the Steelers
I gave
had a
2
better
teams an
offseason.
F. Who else did I give an F?
I'm about to look.
The Falcons, come on. I mean, they got Lee Smith. Why would you even get him?
Yeah,
Why'd you even
They were
trade something for
Bored.
him?
Would they trade?
They were
for-
bored. They were bored.
They had to be just.
They just
bored.
said, let's just do a move.
Yeah,
real quick. Let's
Atlanta
just do
is
something."
crazy.
What'd you give the Raiders?
Oh, that's who we
gave-
gave an F to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be them.
I think I'm taking Falcons, but very, very.
I think I'm taking
very
Raiders
close.
because like the Lee Smith is just nothing, but losing your offensive line is like, what are you doing? I would say the Raiders.
Yeah, they went backwards as hell. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, they did go backwards, but that's funny. Imagine that they were just bored of doing stuff. So they just like, yo, what move can we make?
It's like some fantasy.
No, like
football
imagine,
type deal.
Yeah,
imagine
for
the team
real.
calls you and like, what do you want for
No,
Lee
because I mean,
Smith?
for real, what do you want for Lee Smith?
You're just gonna look at the phone like, what? Like,
no
Give us a 7th round.
way.
like, that's
We're gonna use
crazy to
this
me.
pick. It was the Buffalo Bills too. They don't even like. What do they need? They have a kicker already. They're probably gonna take a
Yeah.
punter with that pick.
It would
Nah.
just give us something at this point. We'll just give you Lee Smith. Like, it's like,
Nah, they were wilding.
Lee Smith. Oh my God, that's funny as hell. I mean, yeah. I mean, okay. So let's just end off with this segment. Who out of every team? I know we went through a lot.
Yep.
But which team do you think had the best offseason out of every team?
I'll give you 3. I'll say Tampa for the re-signing. I think Cardinals for the retooling, obviously, and bringing in extra offense. And then probably number 3, I'll probably go Cleveland because I like that secondary. So
okay.
I'll probably go Cleveland.
And let's just say like, which team had the best free agency?
Okay.
Not just offseason in total, just free agency.
So those would be my 3.
Ooh, this is tough.
I mean, for me, number 1, I think it's the Patriots. The Patriots for me is number 1 without a doubt. I think getting Kyle Van Noy, getting Trent Brown. I mean, he wasn't a free agent, but
that's a good
Jonnu
one.
Smith, Hunter Henry. I mean, to me, I think the Patriots are far and away number 1. Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, Matt Judon, Jalen
I
Mills,
can respect that.
Henry Anderson, Ted Carras. They just re-signed David Andrews. Like, they had a great free agency
I respect
period.
that.
And I don't know if like the Jets for me rank 2 or 3, but getting Gerard Davis, Corey Davis, Carl Lawson, Justin Hardin, Keelan Cole, and they just got LaMarcus Joyner. I think that's a hell of a free agency.
Are you updating your grade?
Maybe not, but I'm saying I just think that's a hell of a free agency for them to have. They filled every single need, and for me, I mean, the other team I would have possibly is maybe the Texans. No, the Jaguars.
Okay.
The Jaguars.
That was
going
gonna be mine. I wish you would have let me go.
The Jaguars too, because Rayshawn Jenkins, Tyson Alualu,
I'm glad we all
Robinson
have different
Harris,
answers.
Shaq
for
Griffin,
real.
Marvin Jones. I mean, they had a great free agency too.
If I had to say someone different than the Jaguars, because that's who I was going to say, I'd probably say the 49ers. I feel like getting back Trent Williams is huge. Alex Mack is huge. Signing Jason Verrett was pretty huge. You get Emmanuel Mosley, too, to add to that defense, too. That's really solid. I just like that core that they have going on right there is pretty nasty.
Yeah, I mean, so the Patriots, Jags, and Jets probably had the best.
Fair enough.
The football team is up there too.
So
That-
we're all in
that'd be
agreement
number 3 for me
that
right
the
there.
Falcons have the worst.
Oh,
And
that's
the Falcons,
by far.
the Falcons and Eagles are the worst.
Yeah.
Two teams that ironically, both logos are birds.
That's
The
crazy.
Falcons and Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, though, we didn't get Lee Smith. So I just think that should put us a step above them.
You are going to trade Zach Ertz, though. That should be a downgrade.
Yeah, but
Dallas Goedert, I mean,
Dallas is cool.
And
I like Dallas.
he played.
He's not no Zach Ertz.
But Zach Ertz was injured for a good portion of last season too.
I mean, if we're gonna do that, everybody's injured for a good portion on our team.
Fair enough.
But like, injury curse.
I agree.
The Sixers.
Yeah, so that's going to do it for this episode of the Pick a Side Podcast, a 3-hour and almost 30-minute episode. Pretty crazy that we've made it through every single team. But as always, you guys can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Pick a Side Podcast, on Twitter at Pick a Side Pod. And don't forget to write us a review and rate us on Apple Podcasts. And we want to give a thank you to Andrew for being on here. Riv, try to find the applause button on the board. Maybe you can find it. Try the green one. Oh, no. Try the light blue one. I think it's that one.
Nice. No, I appreciate you guys having me. It was a great time, honestly.
Thank you to everybody that was on the chat talking to us. We had about like 36 viewers at one point. I think pretty crazy, man. So thank you to everybody that was in the chat talking. Thank you guys if you listen this far, and we'll see you next time.
Peace out, boys.
So, yeah, for everybody that's still on the YouTube chat, we are not going to take in callers today because it is 11 p.m. where we are from, and we just finished a 3-hour episode. But, look, if you guys made it through this far, thank you so much. And for you guys that donated, I mean, today we had $40 in revenue with just donations. And $40 in donations, I mean, you guys are awesome for that. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.